Welcome back to this channel. This is Trendy Storm and you are watching What If Naruto Received 3 Guardian Angels by Kami. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Not wasting no more time. Let's start the story.
With his feet hanging over the edge of the Yondaime's chiseled face, Naruto sat atop Mount Hokage. The youthful shinobi had always found solace in this area in particular. He came here to soothe his soul and aid in the healing of his heart whenever he had been harmed, whether it was by the villagers, his alleged friends, or even his colleagues and sensei. The young Jinchuriki had had a very difficult day. Everyone had turned out to see the Godem Hokage's inauguration today. Tsunade had winked and given Naruto a special look to let him know that she did appreciate everything he had done for her. Once again, Naruto had shown himself to be a hero. He first demonstrated it by standing his ground against Zabuza and Haku during his team's assignment in Wave Country. He then managed to save his companions by fending off the fearsome Orochimaru in the Forest of Death, only to have the evil Sannin apply a mysterious seal that crippled what little power he had left. Despite everything, he managed to defeat Kiba and Izuka in a fair battle, bringing some justice to both himself and a close friend. After that, he vowed to exact revenge and carried it out against a genin that not even Sasuke could defeat. Immediately thereafter, Naruto engaged in a head-to-head battle with and vanquished Gaara, another demon container. Following his recuperation from his wounds and the death of the Sandaime, he and his new instructor Jiraiya set out to track down the Slug Princess Tsunade in order to become their next Hokage. In the process, he became proficient in the Rasengan, a jutsu believed to have vanished along with its creator, the Yondaime. He used it to save Tsunade from herself and to help chase Orochimaru and his helper Kabuto away. To the individuals he desired recognition from, like as his teammates, sensei, and peers, this meant little, even if he had done more in such a short period of time than even a small handful of shinobi could claim in their careers. They all continued to view him as a pitiful clown who was unworthy of even the most basic courtesy and courtesies. They assumed they knew everything about him even if they didn't. After learning that Naruto had saved her from Gaara, Sakura, his kunoichi partner and longtime crush, angrily disputed it and even took it out on Naruto, claiming that he had no right to join Sasuke in battle. Then, as usual, she struck him, but this time it seemed to pierce his brittle heart, bringing us to this sacred place. Unbeknownst to everyone, even the Ichiraku family, Iruka, and now Jiraiya, Tsunade, and her assistant Shizune, who had grown to be like family to him, the young shinobi was aware of this spot's true significance. It was only known to Hana and Izuka and the late Sandaime, who helped Naruto protect it by casting a unique genjutsu over it. The illusion was created by a sequence of seals that were controlled by a blood seal that was keyed to only allow Naruto to open it. It was dubbed the Garden of Tears by Hana. As he looked off to the right, Naruto thought about this eerily lovely name. Beneath a single sakura tree, a small patch of blossoms covered the isolated area of the memorial. There were 12 markers with 12 names on them beneath this tree in this lovely flower area. As he turned to the first marker, with the name, Yuki, etched on it, he saw that each one was associated with a wide range of both pleasant and painful experiences. Flashback. He recalled how, at the age of 7, he had first laid eyes on her. He had gotten away from a hostile mob that had followed him into the Forest of Death but lacked the courage to follow him any farther. He continued to wander farther and deeper into the perilous area until a terrible beast that resided there attacked him. Another monster caught him just as he was about to eat and pulled him into the forest's top canopy, where he was somewhat safer. When Naruto opened his eyes, he noticed a huge white snake coiling around him and observing him curiously. Hey, how's it going?" he said with a hesitant laugh. With its tongue flicking over him and picking up his scent, the snake appeared to be intently observing him. Then the snake flew with him at a high speed through the trees and brought him to a place outside the woodland. Naruto was stunned compared to the other creatures in that ravaged forest. This snake was different. He found it relaxing in the sun when he ventured inside again. The very next day he cautiously walked up to the snake and let her smell him to his delight and pleasure. She then wrapped around him tenderly and gave him a cuddle. He made her his friend. She was named Yuki by him because of her stunning snow-white scales. The Chunin exams were now underway, so his joy was short-lived. A group of shinobi discovered him and assaulted him while he was still in the jungle. Although it cost her life, Yuki saved him and protected him from a fire jutsu. Somehow, Naruto was able to bring her to his preferred location, where he buried her and placed her memorial at the foot of a cherry tree. End of flashback. Although they were together for a little period of time, he missed her terribly. It was one of the reasons he detested Sasuke's near-exclusive usage of fire jutsu. And then his eyes strayed to another marker, this one that read, Ran. Another retrospection. Naruto received a little goldfish, which he called Ran after a water lily he had previously seen, and because the fish was the same color. As a pet to help him deal with his constant loneliness, he placed her in a bowl and kept her near his bedside as he gave her everything he had. One day, as he went to get her some fish food, he confided in her, "Ah, it's not like you can really understand me, but if I just pretend that you can, it makes everything not hurt so much." Regretfully, he was often the target of irate individuals breaking into and looting his tiny apartment. They got a horrible notion after discovering Ran's fishbowl. Ran was strangled to death when they dumped a ton of salt into the water. His heart ached when Naruto brought her food back. He buried her in the designated spot after placing her in a little wooden box he had scrounged from a flower shop. As he hauled himself home, he muttered, "So you can still listen to me." And for the lonely child, those brief, one-sided discussions meant the world, even though they made him appear insane as he looked at a third maker, identified as Ayumi. He discovered that his memories just could not be repressed. You already know the drill. He won a little turtle as a prize in a ring throw game at a New Year's festival that he managed to get into after coming up with a name for his new friend. He simply watched her trudge around in a bowl that he had filled with half water and half sand. The 8-year-old was the last to be considered. "Aha! Ayumi-chan," he said, excitedly raising his new companion in the air as he strutted about his tiny flat. Even to the academy, he took her wherever he could. She acted as a focal point for him there, enabling him to focus and, for a brief period, perform better. His classmates took notice of his ascent, particularly Sasuke Uchiha and his group of admirers. He was annoyed that the deceased was getting better so quickly and was acting so strangely, so he looked for the cause. He discovered that it was because he thought his pet turtle was a lucky charm of some kind. He waited until classes were over and then, as a malevolent trick, tripped Naruto outside the classroom. Dropping Ayumi to the ground, Sasuke quickly grabbed her and held the defenseless turtle over Naruto's face. He threw the little turtle to the ground, expecting a splat, but her sturdy shell stopped him. "What's the matter, Dobi?" he asked mockingly. He crushed and killed her in front of Naruto's eyes when he trampled on her out of wrath. As they teased and laughed at him, they all lingered long enough to see the desperation on his face. After gathering what remained of her, Naruto was able to skip class long enough to go to the Garden of Tears, which was quickly turning into a tiny private cemetery. He buried her there beside the others who had briefly made him happy and joyful after realizing what had transpired. Iruka gave him permission to skip class for this one time. The youngster who had no one would never be the same after losing a close buddy, and the loss was painful. And Ayumi was a pleasant company. She gave him a sense of normalcy to this day. He has never forgiven Sakura or Sasuke for that. His gaze involuntarily landed on the next marking, Tamami, and he was pulled back into his memory vault once again. "We're going again." One rainy night, Naruto was out on the streets when he heard a meow coming from an alleyway. He went to look into it because he was naturally curious. He searched for a time before locating the small cat that was making the noise, asking to be taken up. The kitten approached him and stroked against his leg. When Naruto noticed that she was collarless, he complied and brought her home with him. He was considering a name when he drove past a jewelry store on his way home. Subsequently, he saw that her eyes were a stunning shade of teal. It struck him as he paused and glanced at the window display, where he saw a jewel of the same hue, the ideal moniker for her. Naruto said, "Tamami, yeah. Come on, Tamami-chan. We're going home," as they marched to his house. The blonde youngster chatted to the cat as if she were human, played with her, and made her feel fully at ease over the course of the following few weeks. She ended up going everywhere with him, including the academy. She was often sitting on his lap during his lunch breaks, purring contentedly. Unfortunately, he was running a little behind schedule one day on his way to school, so Tamami had to rush to catch up with him because he was moving very quickly. For a human, she had been run over by a horse-drawn cart that had just missed him. She passed away nearly immediately. He buried her with love in the Garden of Tears, continuing a sad custom that had begun with all of his pets up to that point. And yet again, the next marker, Midori, caught his attention, and he thought sadly, "Another friend gone. I wish you were still with me." Man, there's still more to go. Naruto was still fixing and repainting his flat after it had just been destroyed once more when he heard a tiny clatter coming from inside one evening. Taking a kunai that Sarutobi had given him, he rose from his bed and looked for the source of the sound. When he heard it again, he ran to his kitchen, where his paint cans were, only to discover that they had been knocked over. He also noticed little green paint paw prints running up to his refrigerator. He looked inside and spotted a little tanuki eating some leftover noodles while smeared in green paint. Rather than being upset, he nearly burst out laughing. He washed her up and created a makeshift bed for her because he had too much heart to throw the little thing away. She was quite calm about the whole situation. He observed upon finishing, he noticed that she had a stubborn patch of green paint on her coat, which inspired him to come up with a name. He smirked at the tanuki, who was crawling beneath his covers, and appeared happy to be with him. "It's time for bed, nay, Midori-chan," he said. Naruto let out a sigh. "I guess you can sleep in the bed for tonight. I just gave you a bath, after all." Once more, Naruto had a friend who kept him from feeling lonely, and the villagers were upset about this. Midori was an extremely inquisitive and daring little tanuki who would follow his curiosity wherever he went. Additionally, she had a tendency to try to sneak a bite of whatever Naruto was eating. That habit ended up being her undoing. A particularly deadly disease had been obtained by a couple of merchants who were determined to get rid of Naruto, and they followed him to the Ichiraku ramen stand. Once there, they threw the poison into Naruto's food while diverting the attention of the stall proprietors. Naruto and Midori both took a bite of pork, but they both became sick right away without any delay. Tuchi and Ayame took them to the hospital and informed the Sandame, who made them work on Naruto and get an Inuzuka veterinarian to assist Midori. Naruto was fortunate to have a superhuman tolerance to all poisons and a mad immune system as a result of having the Kyuubi locked inside of him. It was too strong for this terrible poison. As opposed to him, Midori lacked his strength. He hurried from the hospital to the veterinary clinic. As soon as he recovered from the poison's effects there, he encountered Hana, a kind Inuzuka who was attempting to help Midori, but she had some awful news for him. The veterinarian told him sadly, "Naruto-kun, I'm sorry she didn't make it." Without saying anything, Naruto swept past her and picked up her body. After the Sandame placed a hand on his shoulder, the two moved to his designated spot and raised the genjutsu that shielded it. After that, Sarutobi used a little Dotonjutsu to dig a tiny hole in the ground and gently bury her. At Naruto's solemn funeral, the broken-hearted boy was then taken home by the elderly Hokage. And yet again, like the others, Midori had a very special place in his heart. Later, he returned to the veterinary clinic and expressed his sincere gratitude to Hana for everything she had done for Midori. Her heart ached for him, and she sighed as he walked away. As he walked away, she regretfully thought, "Truly the gods seem to hate this innocent boy. I didn't think that they could be this cruel." But he heard her. More of his dear friends passed away, and more heartbreaking and depressing separations occurred. He found and adopted a puppy named Nana. One rainy day, Ruru, a tiny frog, hopped into his dwelling. He saved a rabbit named Mika from a trap and helped it recover during a brief hike. He developed an attachment to Momo, a tiny monkey. He assisted Tsubasa, a parakeet, in healing its injured wing for some strange reason. Kurumi, a hamster who had escaped from someone's cage, remained with him. However, the most recent one struck him the hardest, making him despise most of his classmates, particularly Sasuke and Kaba, to the point where he was on the verge of detesting the entire hamlet. Beside a few tears streaming down his face, Naruto sobbed quietly, "Akane, sometimes, I can still feel you with me. You would begin to wonder if God existed if all of this had happened to you." He was training at his designated spot on Mount Hokage in the summer before his senior year of the academy when he heard a moan coming from a bush close to where he was resting. Following a demanding training session, he investigated deeper and discovered that the sounds were coming from a young fox with damage to its front leg. He attempted to comfort the young vixen by saying, "Shush, hey, I won't hurt you." However, she was wary of people. Naruto didn't flinch when she clamped down on his hand. Her teeth were really keen, so it hurt, but he remained resolute and suppressed his discomfort. She addressed the vixen with the golden coat, saying, "See, I promise I won't hurt you and I never break a promise." She gave in and let go, demonstrating that he really meant no harm. In an attempt to soothe him, she licked the wound she had caused him, feeling slightly guilty after pulling off a section of his shirt. He soaked it in his drinking water and wrapped it around her wound in response. Then he got up and sat down to have a little rest on top of the Yondaime's head. She trailed after him and sat next to him, giving him a little prod to let him know she was there. Like all his past buddies, they shared a kind of connection that went beyond anything. He said, "Beautiful sunset, ain't it?" and received a yip in response. With his scent, she sensed that this person was odd, more fox than human. She couldn't help but go closer as he gave her a gentle pat on the head and scratched just behind her ears because of his warm, welcoming aroma and feel. Looking into the sunset, he introduced himself and said, "You know, I need to think of a name for you. Mine's Naruto, Naruto Uzumaki." It was amazing. He was thinking of the ideal name for her when he noticed the symphony of scarlet hues on a vast backdrop. With a sidelong glance and a smile, he remarked out loud, "Akane of the Scarlet Clouds, a beautiful name, nay?" They became inseparable after that. The villagers appeared to be significantly more agitated by her presence than usual, but neither she nor him cared. Iruka even permitted him to take her to the academy as a nin animal, and she followed him around. This infuriated many of the teachers, but the Hokage swiftly put an end to their dissent. Iruka permitted it for his own motives. He needed all the friends he could make, even if they weren't human, because he was all too familiar with the kind of life Naruto had led. The pranks ceased, and he became peaceful, suggesting that the vixen had a soothing effect on him. He was at last beginning to move over the heartache caused by all of the past catastrophes that seemed to haunt him. The people wanted to stop him before something happened, Interpreting his transformation as an indication that he was getting ready for something significant, they hired their kids to do their dirty work for them because they couldn't do anything to him without bringing the Hokage down on them. It was his 12th birthday and the day of the Kyuubi festival. He no longer wanted a lavish birthday celebration with loads of gifts. As he had witnessed with all the other children, all he wanted now was to be left alone, but this night demonstrated that the hamlet was resolved to deny him even a sliver of delight or a moment of tranquility. He received a mail inviting him to the academy for a party. He let his guard down, but he reasoned that it couldn't hurt to check it out. Akane followed him all the way to the school. There was nobody around, and it was dark. He informed her, "I don't like this. Akane-chan, let's go." However, he felt a blow strike him from behind as they turned to depart. Too late. The sound of Akane's agonized shriek was the last thing he heard before passing out. When he awoke, he saw someone whose face was obscured by darkness hit him across the face. When he opened one eye, he saw that there were children his age among the grown-ups gathered around him. Two of these individuals were identifiable to him. Both had attitudes that shouted arrogance, and one had obsidian black eyes and the other had a dog on his head. Kiba Teme. Sasuke Teme, what the devil is happening here? Akane-chan, where are you? His thoughts were racing. They merely grinned as Naruto growled at them. Where's Akane-chan? What did you do to her? Kiba laughed in his face as Sasuke stabbed her in the chest with a kunai, slowly murdering her. That little fox bitch? I'll turn it into a pelt and wipe my ass with it. I'll give it back to you. Of course, maybe this will teach you your place. Dobi? Naruto was crying for assistance and yelling furiously for them to halt when she last saw him. Naruto felt helpless and frail as he attempted to crawl to her body. He shouted aloud, "No, not again, please. No, the gods can't be this cruel." However, Kiba had Akamaru grab her away from him. Along with a number of his classmates, instructors, and parents, Kiba and Sasuke started to move toward him until three big dogs blocked their way. Behind them was a young woman wearing a Chunin vest and bearing Inuzuka clan marks, who was prepared to battle to defend the youngster. With her hounds snarling at the throng, Hana growled, "If you want to get at this boy, you'll have to go through me." Kiba whimpered, "Sis, what the hell are you doing?" Kiba, "I'll only ask you once. Return the fox to Naruto-kun and go home, mom, and I will deal with you and Akamaru later." She stated this with icy rage. Akane's body was returned to Naruto, who held her while sobbing uncontrollably since Akamaru understood better than to argue with an alpha. Kiba shouted at his nin dog, "Akamaru, why do you do that?" as he ran towards Naruto to retrieve the fox, only to be struck by his older sister's strong backhand. He grudgingly followed Hana's instructions to go home after she frowned at him, only stopping to give Naruto a shady glance. She then cast a sorrowful glance at the small child whose world was collapsing once more. She grabbed his shoulder and backed up slowly to him. Keeping the hostile crowd visible, she grabbed his shoulder and transported them both out of the area, leaving the Hokage and his Anbu to cope with an irate mob. With Naruto biting his thumb to get the blood he needed to break the seal guarding his specific location, they briefly moved into the vicinity of the Genjutsu-ki, a stunning meadow with a gorgeous cherry blossom tree in the center and a circle of markers surrounding it was exposed by the shimmering forests in front of them. There was something magnificent about the way the moonlight was striking it. Holding her breath, Hana exclaimed, "This is so beautiful." Naruto opened a tiny hole in the ground using a tiny Doden jutsu that he had learned from the Sandaime. After tenderly wrapping Akane in his jacket and lowering her into the ground, he slowly sealed the grave with another tiny set of hand seals and turned to go. Naruto reactivated the genjutsu as Hana went out behind him, feeling heartbroken. As Hana assisted him home, he whispered, "Akane-chan, I'll never forget you or the others. I'll always love you all. I feel depressed." Man, he got to his feet and shed a few unbidden tears. He typically felt better after this excursion, but not this time. He was angry now. If anything, as he left, he stood and prayed in private. He gazed up into the sky, wondering if his dear friends would be pleased with him after seeing everything he had achieved. Elsewhere, our blonde hero had no idea that someone was observing him. She had spent years observing him. She smiled at his proudest moments and wept for his suffering. Naruto Uzumaki, your soul is pure and spirit strong and brave. You loved them and saw them not as your pets, but as companions and equals for your heart to be broken so by their passing. You have endured evils that would have driven Propel twice your age and experience into madness, but came out of it stronger than ever before. You even saved a fellow Jinchuriki from himself and your selfish teammates from death at the risk of your own life. You, more than anyone, can lead this troubled world into the peace that had eluded it for so long. You, more than anyone I've ever seen, have proven yourself worthy of a guardian angel to help you along your way. I have just the candidates for the job." The woman laughed. With long purple hair, a flowing white gown, and a glowing staff in her hand, she was breathtakingly lovely. She did feel proud of the youngster because of his unwavering promise and his capacity for unconditional love. There were a number of robe-clad girls with wings and halos behind the woman. The first three took the lead. The second had aquamarine hair that was clipped up on the back, while the first had long red hair with her brown hair styled in a two-bow. The third was shorter than the other two. The tall, red-haired girl said, "We are ready, Megami-sama." As she vanished in a burst of white light, the now identified Megami-sama responded, "I shall get things started, then." Returning to his residence, Naruto took his time. Even though it was raining, he just didn't see the need to hurry. He didn't really care that he could see other people huddled inside stores and behind awnings, waiting for the rain to stop. After all, nobody was waiting for him, was there? Naruto made the decision to pause and rest under an awning while traveling down one of the less traveled roads. He groaned as he knelt down and thought back on his day so far. Before someone finished for him, he thought, "Man, I hate to sound like the Teme, but my life is just so unlucky." A voice from close by yelled. He pulled a kunai from his sleeve and dropped into a defensive stance. Startled by the voice's close proximity beside him, a woman in a cloak sat at a table with cards and a crystal ball. What the devil? As he absorbed this new individual, he thought, she wasn't there before. Your teammates treat you as a nuisance, your sensei treats you like a burden, and your peers think of you as a pathetic clown. The villagers believe you to be a vile beast, she said. Naruto did not like this at all. The fact was unpleasant enough, but it truly annoyed him when a stranger appeared out of nowhere and told him the obvious. "Thanks a lot, Captain Obvious. Like I really needed to hear that after the day I've had, especially from some insane stalker," Naruto said sarcastically. "I can see everything without moving from this spot. Your female teammate cannot accept the truth that you rescued her from Suna's Jinchuriki and grew quite violent with you. I know that since the Sandame died, your stipend has been completely cut off, and with no missions, you are hard put to even eat. Even the Godem is powerless to help you right now, and the Toad Sage is currently away on business." She stated this as fact. "What the hell? Who are you? How do you know these things about me?" asked Naruto. His hackles were starting to stand up, but this wasn't humorous anyway. There was a serious problem here. She abruptly told him, "Your life has been harsh and sad." This made him lose his fury but return to his despair. This was noticed by the woman from the table. She pulled a card and held it up. She said, "But things will change, luck will come." He shook his head in response, saying, "Luck, right, and tomorrow I'll be Hokage." The woman slipped a scroll into his pocket as he turned to flee. For a few seconds, it radiated a blue radiance. She flipped the card she was holding over and saw an angel on the other side. As she disappeared in a burst of light, leaving no evidence of her presence, she said the words, "From now on, Naruto-kun, luck will come to you." The apartment complex in Naruto. When the rain stopped, Naruto was able to move more quickly to get home so he could dry off and, if the plumbing was still functional, have a bath. He had been roof hopping all over town. He noticed Tora the cat fleeing from another genin team nearby with haste. He grabbed the cat and slammed it into his jacket. He thought it was safe to leave after the team that was pursuing him passed them. As he ran off, the cat meowed in gratitude, and Naruto followed suit. When Naruto eventually arrived at his apartment, he took off his shoes and damp clothing and settled down in his room to reflect on the events of the day. His first instinct was to warm up by taking a bath, so he undressed and dove in. The water was warm, thank goodness. As he eased into his bath, he muttered, "Luck, huh? Like that'll ever happen?" The scroll that had been tucked into his pocket dropped out and unfolded on his floor. As he rested, it displayed a circular pattern with 12 distinct colors and lines from each that led to a tiny core circle with a diamond design in the center. A soft blue light started to shine on the seal, becoming brighter by the moment. With a towel wrapped around his waist, Naruto yawned and emerged from the tub. Searching his refrigerator for a drink, he located a bottle of water, gave it a brief tug, put it back, and was ready to return to his apartment when he noticed that the common area's light was on. He palmed a kunai and walked gingerly toward the front of the house to observe what was happening, wondering out loud, "That's weird, I thought I turned that off." 3 girls who were close to his age were waiting for him when he arrived. The first had red eyes and long red hair pulled back in a loose ponytail. The second's hair was styled up in the back and was blue-green. He was reminded of that psycho exam proctor by the manner it was done. The third's light brown hair was styled in bow on either side, with bands framing her face in a strange way. Her visage vaguely reminded him of a hamster. The girl with the green hair said, "Hi there," with a smile. The shorter, brown-haired girl said, "Good evening, Nano," in the same way. The taller redhead apologized, bowing slightly but exposing some cleavage, which made him flush. "I'm sorry we arrived while you were bathing." Before recognizing what was going on, Naruto scratched the back of his head sheepishly and said, "Oh, what's up?" "Whoa. Hold up a sec. What the hell are you doing in here?" "Who the hell are you?" said Naruto. After a moment of sitting and staring at him, the females crowded close. The redhead said to the others, "This must be such a shock for him." The green-haired girl concurred, saying, "I don't blame him. That's natural for this kind of situation." The girl with the brown hair said, "He looks so familiar, I just don't know why." The redhead answered, You're right, he looks familiar to me, too." The girl with the green hair said, "Me too. This is weird." Naruto deadpanned, "Excuse me, I'm still here." The three girls faced him once more. The middle girl made a very formal three-finger bow. The woman introduced herself, saying, "How do you do? My name is Ran." "Hello, I'm Tsubasa." Tsubasa responded with a wink. She said, "I'm Kurumi, Nano," but her stomach was growling. She groaned, "I wish you something sweet, though." Naruto appeared on the verge of losing it while attempting to solve this. "Wait. Who are you all? Come on, joke's over," he said. This question was answered by Ran. She informed him that they were guardian angels, sent by the goddess to bring him good fortune. "Well, now that we explained who we are, don't you think you should introduce yourself?" asked Tsubasa. He was surprised by the candor of the request, yet he responded to her. He said, "My name is Naruto. My name is Naruto Uzumaki." Tsubasa said, "What do you do for a living? Where are your parents?" He answered, "Well, I'm a shinobi and I'm an orphan." Tsubasa regretted asking the question after seeing the expression on his face. Kurumi inquired, "Do you have girlfriend?" The stern response was, "No, what girl in her right mind would want anything to do with me?" The acidity of his tone made all three of them grimace. They attentively examined the 13-year-old shinobi. Tsubasa informed him, "I don't see why they wouldn't, you're kinda cute." "MMMHMM," concurred Kurumi. Now girls focus," Ran reprimanded them gently. Tsubasa taunted, "Come on, Ran, you don't find him a little cute?" She stumbled, well, sort of," Naruto exclaimed, "Oi, I still want to know how you got in here." Tsubasa got up and clapped her hands twice, but he was not heard. "All right, now let's get started." Naruto inquired cautiously, "Started on what?" "Why, helping you of course," smiled Ran in response. She commented, "We'll start by cleaning this room," as she observed the used state of his place. The females split up the work right away. Tsubasa volunteered to tidy the space. Ran declared that she would prepare dinner while Kurumi went to do the laundry. They all puffed into the haze simultaneously, and when it cleared, they all wore bandanas in their hair and aprons. As he unintentionally dropped his towel, revealing the secret, so to speak, he cried, "What the?" Stunned by what they saw, all three girls had a close-up look at mini Naruto, but when his manhood was abruptly revealed in front of these gorgeous girls, Naruto fainted with shame. The world was returning to focus, and Naruto was slowly turning around. When he sat up, he discovered that it was morning and that he was back in his room, snuggled into bed. "Oh, man, I need to stop sleeping on an empty stomach. I had such a weird dream," he said. He noticed that the weird girls from yesterday were still in their pajamas, and that two more futons were spread out in his room. As he attempted to resolve this, Naruto immediately isolated himself in the restroom. He pondered for a few moments before hearing them at the door. Knocking on the door, Kurumi said, "Hey, Naruto?" Tsubasa yelled, "Come on out." To him Ran said softly, Excuse me, but are you still upset about last night?" Tsubasa clarified, saying, "Don't worry about it, we were animals before we became angels." What on earth is happening with those three? They were animals after being angels. What exactly are they? He pondered. At that moment, someone knocked on his door. Tsubasa chirped, "I'll get it," and rushed to the door. There was an Anbu standing at the entrance, and she appeared surprised. "I didn't get the wrong apartment, did I? Naruto Uzumaki lives here?" she inquired. "Oh, Naruto-kun. He's in the bathroom. What's up?" she inquired. After relaying her instructions, the cat-masked Anbu disappeared in a cloud of leaves, leaving behind three odd angels. "He needs to see the Hokage immediately." Kurumi said, "That was kinda neat, Nano," Ran added, "I know," as she proceeded to deliver the message. She said, Naruto-kun? The Hokage needs to see you." With a sigh, Naruto exited the restroom and put on a jumpsuit that was unexpectedly spotless and repaired. He asked them, "Did you guys do this?" "Uh-huh," was Ran's response. He turned to them and muttered, "Nice," he informed them, "Well, you should probably go home now." Ran started, "But, if you mean our home," Tsubasa concluded by saying, "I think the spirit world is a little bit different from home." Kurumi deadpanned, Besides, you'd run right smack into bad luck again if we weren't here. Naruto simply gave a headshake as he departed for Hokage Tower. He responded, anyway, everyone has to leave before I get back. Thanks for all that you did before, though. After deciding to follow him throughout the hamlet, the females all started giggling among themselves. The streets of Konoha. Naruto became aware that someone was following him as he made his way to the tower. A shock of red hair jutted out from behind a sign as he turned to look behind him. He let out a disgruntled groan. Leaping onto the rooftops and continuing form there, he made the decision to lose them. Tsubasa said, "Whoa, he's pretty fast," Kurumi whimpered. "Aw, now how are we gonna follow him?" Ran looked at the skyline and saw the kanji for fire on a big tower in the middle of the hamlet. "That must be his destination, let's go," she exclaimed as they two started to move for the tower. The girls started to follow Naruto, but paused to gather their breath as he reached a bridge that crossed a tiny creek. Tsubasa said, "Man, he's really fast," between breathless exclamations. Kurumi continued, "He sure lost us pretty fast." Tsubasa looked back at Ran and whispered, if only he could dump his bad luck just as quickly, but she was terrified. Kurumi said, "Ran, what's wrong, Nano?" There was something wrong with the way she was swaying. Ran's head hung down and she fell to her knees. She confessed, "I'm afraid of water." Tsubasa was going to inquire as to why, but the response came to her suddenly. She said softly, "It's because of your past life, isn't it?" Ran merely acknowledged with a nod of her head. Seeking additional pieces to the jigsaw, Tsubasa re-asked, "What were you in your past life?" They couldn't hear Ran, but she whispered to them, "I was a goldfish." Kurumi said, "What? We couldn't hear you, Nano." "A goldfish," she said again, more loudly. "What?" they both said simultaneously. Perplexed, Ran went on to elaborate. "One day, while my master was out, some mean people came into his room and poured salt into my bowl. One didn't even get to say goodbye to my master. He would talk and talk with me. Even though I couldn't reply to him, I loved him so much." Ran recounted the story to them, but Tsubasa, "Don't try to remember anymore. Ran, he sounds like a wonderful master, like mine was," she said. Shaking off her trepidation, Ran straightened herself out. "I'm fine now, thank you." Kurumi smiled and said, "That's okay, Nano, I'm glad I'm not the only one." "Hey, me, too," included Tsubasa. After catching their breath, the three females proceeded towards the tower. Kurumi finally saw their misbehaving ward ascending the stairs leading to the Hokage's office. Kurumi said, "There's Naruto, Nano," and gestured toward him. "Come on, girls, let's go." Raised the cheers. Ran and Kurumi continued running. Tsubasa had paused to gaze anxiously at the way the stairway leading to the Hokage's office wound around the building's exterior. From across the bridge, Ran yelled, "Tsubasa, come on, let's go." Reluctantly, Tsubasa followed them. Hokage Tower. In his typical fashion, Naruto approached Tsunade's office door and forced it open. Naruto said, "Oi, Ba-chan. What's up?" to his fellow blonde and leader. She sighed in frustration as she spoke to the young genin, saying, "It's pointless to chastise him for something he's been doing for years." Naruto, "Listen, I've been kind of worried about you lately. Kakashi tells me that you constantly give your team the cold shoulder, especially Sasuke and Sakura. This just isn't like you. Is there something wrong, kiddo?" the perplexed woman asked him with genuine worry. When his so-called team was mentioned, Naruto groaned. He couldn't treat her the same way, even though they were the last people he wanted to discuss. Finally, he told her, "I guess I'm just tired. I mean, I'm always doing all of the work on that team, but they treat me like a disease. I even brought you back to heal the Teme and Teme-sensei, but they still don't believe me. Do you remember what I told you on our way back to the village?" Naruto responded with his own inquiry. Recalling what she had seen and heard, Tsunade let out another sigh. One day, she followed Team 7 to see what Naruto was discussing. Even though he nearly always took care of things himself, they treated him like a burden. Every client outside of the town had a positive opinion of the young blonde ever since she started working there. Based on previous files, the boss of the Wasabi clan from Port Digarashi, her old friend Jirochi, had nothing but respect for the youngster and acknowledged that he would be closely following his career because he vanquished and transformed their Jinchuriki from a heartless monster into a serene and compassionate individual. Suna showed interest in him. He was hailed as a national hero by both Wave and Snow, who named their bridge after him. Princess Koyuki of Snow also asked to purchase him from Konoha to serve as her personal bodyguard, but she was forced to turn him down. He was the Yondaime's legacy and Konoha's ace in the hole against any adversary. Jinchuriki, she also didn't want him to go because, while she wouldn't acknowledge it, she would miss him too much and her life would be left empty. He is one of the most underappreciated individuals I have ever encountered. The combination of Kunoichi, top rookie, and dead last has been a true curse. As she answered Naruto's inquiry, she thought, I should really think about changing that around. Yes, I do remember that. I wish there was something I could do about it, but since you didn't make Chunin and there aren't any available slots open on the other teams, my hands are tied. Just hang in there, kiddo. With how you performed at the last exams, you're a shoo-in to get promoted next time. Tsunade comforted him, but he was still. She had observed his patterns and known him long enough to recognize when something wasn't right. Naruto started to walk away, but Tsunade stopped him once more. She shouted out in a confidential name that was only for him, Naru-chan. Wait. Hi, he said. There's something else, isn't there? You can tell me, he replied. Shizune, and shockingly Jiraiya knew a great deal about him because he knew he could confide in them about everything. Well yeah, there, as you see, he began, giving a detailed account of the previous 24 hours. I suppose the best way to describe Tsunade's state would be confused. Instead of acting hostilely or maliciously, these three unidentified girls who appeared out of the blue without being discovered by the Anbu or anybody else first cleaned his flat, did his washing, and prepared dinner. This brat is lucky when he gets lucky. Man, with this child, there was no middle ground. Damn that Shizune. That's not a good example to set for Naruto-chan. Screw that. Damn, I really need to drag this kid to a casino with me. Jiraiya, that old pervert, makes him worse, she pondered. Naruto had plenty of adult supervision. All he needed was the real, decent, healthy direction. One of the largest and most uncontrollable perverts the world has ever seen and will ever see was his primary sensei. Tsunade had never known a larger worrywart than Shizune. Her troubles don't end with an ulcer and a breakdown. One of the worst gamblers and winos in shinobi history is Tsunade herself. Yes, they're excellent role models. Let's return to the topic at hand before we go too far from it. Tsunade pondered out loud. Well, this doesn't sound too bad. Despite the fact that they were really adorable and had some names in common with some of his cherished pets, he exclaimed, it's freaky. They came out of nowhere and claimed that they're freaking angels or animals, or some crap like that. Hold on, what? What? As he dozed off, he thought, they also said they were animals and angels. It can't be. The stunning blonde shook his shoulder and said, hey, kiddo. You in there? She could tell there was more to it than that by the haunted expression in his eyes. Naruto confirmed her suspicions with a shaky, yeah, I'm here. Softly and reassuringly, she said, are you sure that's everything, Naru-chan? You know you can tell me anything? In moments like these, he saw the stunning Sanin as his mother, a somebody he really needed in his life. At long last, he broke down and informed her about his background, which only Hana Inuzuka and old Sarutobi were fully aware of. She was angry that the village couldn't let this youngster be himself, but she was also glad that he trusted her enough to let her see him. Like way worse yet, they vented their anger on helpless animals. Naruto's only allies. It was really heinous to do this to him and those terrible creatures. This even involved Sakura, who had come to her pleading for training. Her chances of getting an apprenticeship had now been destroyed. She became furious and said, there is absolutely no way in hell that I am going to take that little bitch on as a student. Someone who would do that doesn't deserve to know my secrets. At his story, the powerful Sanin found herself crying a little. I'm sorry, for what it's worth. She gave him a tight hug. Even more than the Kyuubi, she could see that this was an extremely sensitive topic for him. Additionally, he was forced to work alongside two of his friend's killers. He wanted to leave the squad so badly, and she now knew why he mistrusted them so deeply. He even had a ridiculous infatuation on the girl with the pink hair. She couldn't blame him for not wanting to mingle with them, even if he was friendly and kind to them. With a sorrowful smile, he said to her, it's all right. Tsunade-chan, listen, if you have the time, I'll take you there and introduce you to my friends. She nodded as she got to her feet and put her hand on his shoulder, guiding him to the Garden of Tears, where his true friends are laid to rest. The three girls on the opposite side of the door were startled after hearing everything. Did they really serve the master who had shown them such tender care so long ago? They fled the tower, headed for Hokage Monument, since they had to know. A Garden of Tears. They moved slightly to the side and emerged atop the Yondaimi's head on the monument. Though it was very dim, Tsunade could make out a genjutsu barrier rising over a tiny area of the forest. It must have been set up by a master because only a shinobi as good as her or Jiraiya could see it, and only from a very close distance. Naru-chan? Did sensei set this up for you? She inquired. In response, Naruto bit his thumb to release the blood and deactivated the genjutsu barrier by slicing through a pair of hand seals. The most exquisite meadow Tsunade had ever seen was revealed as the tree line glistened and disappeared. She noticed the 12 tombstone markers surrounding the central cherry blossom tree, each with the names of his departed loved ones. Hey guys, it's me again. I just wanted to introduce someone special. Her name is Tsunade and she's become like a mother to me and I just wanted her to meet you all. He spoke to each of the 12 markers. There was something ethereal and otherworldly about this spot that made her feel as though something was watching them. This was sacred territory, a kind of sanctuary for the boy she had grown to know and love his entire existence, including all of his joys, anxieties, and fears, were known in this spot. This amazing youngster was so strong. Even though he was far more broken than she ever was, she was genuinely proud of him, not for the first time. The 3 angels were running up the mountain to catch up to them, and they were gasping and puffing behind them. Kurumi followed his scent to the particular location, and at last they reached the top of the mountain. The sight left them speechless, and they could make out the markers with their names on them from a distance. When Tsunade saw them approaching from behind, she swiftly spun around. She asked, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" His bangs cast a shade over his eyes as Naruto murmured, "You 3 again? I thought I told you to go home." As she and the other 2 stood beside their graves, Kurumi cried, "But we aren't lying to you, Nano. We can prove it." Her heavenly robes flickered into existence as she and the other 2 started to sparkle. What Naruto and Tsunade were witnessing left them speechless. She sensed no chakra, therefore she knew this was no trick or genjutsu. This actually happened. She was pleased to hear that he still had such pleasant memories of them all. "Master, don't you remember me? I'm Kurumi, the hamster you found me after I escaped from my cage and took me in. I loved you so much, Nano," she said. She introduced herself, further unleashing his memories. "I'm Tsubasa, the parakeet. I hurt my wing, but you took such good care of me. And I am Ran, the goldfish you won me at a festival and would always talk with me. Even though I couldn't reply, you also took such good care of me and I missed you so much," she said with tears in her eyes. Naruto remained perfectly upright. "It is them. They returned." His eyes were clenched shut as he tried and failed to resist the emotions that flooded in to embrace him. "Please, Kami. Let this be true. I missed them all so much." He hoped that this was all a dream and that he wouldn't wake up feeling as though so many amazing dreams had come to an end. His voice was light and little as he inquired, "Are you really back? To stay with me?" As she and her sister angels gave him their first embrace, Ran responded, "Yes, we've come home to you. Master, we will never leave your side again." Now that all the tension had finally left him, he immediately fell asleep. Perhaps this would finally aid in his recovery, as he hadn't slept well in years. Tsunade grinned as she sat to the side. "The boy has a lot of good karma that needed to be paid back in some way, and this is probably the first step." She got up and approached the gathering, thinking, "If he believes them, that's good enough for me." Since she had not yet entered their master's life when they passed away, the girls were unaware of her identity. Ran said, Ma'am, who are you?" In some way, she may infer that she was unique to her lord. She wouldn't be here if she wasn't. With a casual smile, she replied, "My name is Tsunade and I am the leader of this village, the Godem Hokage." Straight to the point, Tsubasa questioned, "What are you to master, anyhow?" Despite her beauty, this woman felt that she was a little too old for her master. She paused and moved closer to the 3 girls. "I am his Hokage, leader, and commander, but," she said, "don't tell anyone this. But I see him as a son, the child I never had the chance to have, but always wanted." She told them this after the blonde woman finished explaining her relationship with the youngster. Everything made perfect sense. She mentioned Godem Hokage during the chat, which Tsubasa noted. She and the other angels recalled a kind elderly man who was the Sandaime Hokage when they were still living. "You see, Naru-chan and my old teammate, Jiraiya, were sent out to find me and ask me to become the next Hokage." Tsunade explained, recounting how she first met their master, the bet that was made, the battle with Orochimaru, and their return to the village. "Sarutobi-sensei was my teacher when I was Naru-chan's age and he was the Sandaime Hokage up until the invasion a couple of months ago. You see, he fought with and was killed by a traitor named Orochimaru, but managed to repel him and his forces. Only until they passed away, when Naruto was still very young, did the 3 girls know what had happened in his life. Naruto, the younger version, was a fairy tale hero indeed. A hero in every way. Even while they felt even more proud of him, they were nonetheless troubled by one thing. What was the reason that everyone in this community, except for a select few, detested him so much? As the other 2 angels nodded in agreement, Ran said, Tsunade-san. Why do people seem to hate him so much? He's a wonderful person." With a sorrowful smile, the stunning Hokage informed them, "No, that is his secret to tell, not mine. Sorry, girls." The females appeared to object, but Ran's stare caused them to change their minds. The powerful Kunoichi smiled when the red-haired girl said to Tsunade, "We understand this secret must be very painful if he doesn't want to speak of it to anyone, but we want him to know that we wouldn't care, as he is the master that cared for us in our past lives and that we love him very much. Kami must be sincerely attempting to make amends with you, Naruto? Tsunade pledged as Naruto reappeared. I'm happy for you and I won't let this village ruin this for you. Naruto moaned as he turned around. He noticed the three girls when he looked around. You are real, he said. Getting back to his feet, Tsunade had to return to her office to complete some paperwork, and it was getting dark outside. She was strained for time, and Naruto questioned why she didn't deploy Kage Bunshin to do the task as she cheerfully led them all to her office, created the clones, gave them instructions on the paperwork, and made the decision to end the evening. Tsunade's mood significantly improved. The party then headed to Ichiraku Ramen for dinner. Naruto sighed in relief as they went. Finally, things were improving. He had a feeling that everything will work out great. Many people were taken aback as Tsunade and her group showed up in front of the ramen shop in a flurry of leaves. They were accompanied by the Kyuubi child, 3 unidentified but adorable females, and the Hokage herself. Tsunade put her hand on his shoulder as they entered the stand. Tuchi Ichiraku and his daughter Iyame turned to welcome their patrons as he raised the curtain, and she recognized 2 heads of blonde hair. She said, "Hey there, Naruto-kun. Tsunade-sama, strange weather lately, huh?" In reference to the rain that seemed to fall out of nowhere the day before and the fact that it didn't seem to rain today. Naruto said, "Yeah, tell me about it. I got caught out in it while training." Iyame realized they weren't alone just as she was ready to take their orders. Iyame mocked her pretend little brother, asking, "Oh, who are your new friends, Naruto-kun? Girlfriends, maybe?" Tsunade and the girls were amused by Naruto's embarrassed exclamation, "What? Iyame Onechan?" and decided to introduce themselves after him. Ran remarked with a smile, "I'm Ran, it's nice to meet you, Iyame-san." "Hey there, I'm Tsubasa," the girl with the aqua-green hair said with joy. "I'm Kurumi. Where's that wonderful smell coming from, Nano?" The girl who looked like a hamster chirped as she sniffed the air. Iyame gave a small laugh. "I'm Iyame Ichiraku and that's my dad in the back. We run and own this stand and Naruto-kun here has been our best customer for years. So, what'll your orders be?" she inquired. Tsunade said, "Tonkatsu ramen for me, miso pork," chirped Naruto. Ran answered, Same as Naruto-kun, actually." Tsubasa seconded, saying, "Same here, ditto, Nano. Biggest one you've got," Kurumi exclaimed eagerly. Ayame shouted into the kitchen, "All right, then dad, 1 tonkatsu and 4 miso pork." Tucci introduced himself to Naruto's new buddies and brought out the ramen as soon as the orders were done. Tucci laughed and clapped the youngster he thought of as a nephew on the back. "So, these pretty young ladies are friends of yours, Naruto? I knew you had potential, kiddo." Tucci declared the prospect of any of them being Naruto's girlfriend made him flush a lot, and the girls' matching flushes indicated that they weren't opposed to the idea too. Like Ran, he was prone to shy moments, and his typical, lively attitude fit Tsubasa like a glove. He also had an appetite that could rival Kurumi's. During the remainder of the dinner, Tsunade continued to talk and gave an update on the village's position, as a lot had happened since their transmigration. Although Tsunade was proving to be quite accommodating, they were saddened to learn of the death of the gentle old man who was the Hokage. She had been clinging to his inheritance, that is, what remained after the council taxed the lifeblood out of Ida ever since old Sarutobi passed away and she discovered that he was her godson. What was left was the home, a substantial fortune, the libraries of Kushina and Minato, and some information about the Uzumaki. Both the photos of the previous residents and the most of the furniture from within the house had been taken as mementos. Everything that was left was sealed in a big scroll that was next to the forbidden scroll. It was blood sealed, meaning that only Naruto and the current Hokage could access it. It was the only way he could protect what little he still had. It was time to hand over the house to him. There's never a better moment than now, Tsunade thought. Say, Naru-chan, since these girls are here to stay, where will they stay? Your small apartment can barely house you alone, let alone 3 more people, he responded. The reference to living conditions caused Naruto to hesitate. He hadn't really considered that. Oh my god, Ba-chan is right. I can't force the females to pack themselves into that tiny cottage, which is already barely large enough for me. Sigh, to get more money for a larger apartment, I'll merely need to use my clones to attract more D ranks, the little blonde shinobi reflected. Tsunade, who took great satisfaction in being one of the few individuals who could truly understand Naruto's thoughts, was able to determine his concerns. He believed that he would have to put in at least 4 times as much effort as he currently does. Every day, he almost works himself into a coma and basically carries his team. If I let the poor boy work himself to death, Neither his sensei nor his squad would give a damn. I'm not sure where he would get the energy to take on additional missions to pay for a new apartment, but I'm not going to let him do it by himself. He should receive another portion of his inheritance now, Tsunade thought. He's earned it. Given that the council, in their wonderful wisdom, chose to cut off his stipend in order to raise money to rebuild the village, he truly deserved more than what he had received thus far in life. On a hunch, she looked at the register and found that his stipend was the only one that had been cut. I already know what you're thinking, Naru-chan. I already found you a good place next to my own, and before you worry about the payment for it, you'll just do some extra work for me in the office from time to time. I'll pay the rent, and we'll consider it an even exchange. That way, we'll both hold our heads up and you can think of it as extra training to become Hokage. She suggested. She was aware that he wouldn't take it at face value. He couldn't do anything without earning it in some way because of his work ethic. He was required to run errands for the Sandame in order to receive his stipend, and he was more familiar with that office than she was. He thanked her, whispering the last part so that only she could hear it. Thanks, Tsunade-kasen. Hearing him call her Mama Tsunade made her smile. Even though it was a facade, it really got to Grandma. After that, the group either tried or paid for their tabs. Tucci refused to listen, stating that their lunch was free tonight because he had brought in some new clients. After that, Tsunade led Naruto beyond the location she had mentioned. Since the place he had been living in was so small and claustrophobic, the child was amazed by the house's sheer magnitude. Tsunade smiled as he started to bounce and dance around like he used to because he was so excited. He embraced her tightly, leaving her breathless, and exclaimed, "Thank you, Tsunade Kaachan," before rushing home. As Tsunade locked up and headed home for the night, she vowed, "Kushina-chan, I really love your little boy. Like he was my very own. I don't mean to take him from you, but I promise that from here on out, I'll do everything in my power to help him and protect him from his enemies here in this village." The apartment complex in Naruto. In order to share the good news with the girls, Naruto ran into the apartment and discovered another girl. Her auburn hair, styled like a cat's ears, and her teal eyes, which were hidden behind spectacles, were striking features. She saw him enter the room when she and the other three girls were fighting over something. She embraced him tenderly, almost as if she could teleport. "Master Naruto, I missed you," she exclaimed, pressing her cheek into his, looking oddly cat-like once more. "Wahoo, when?" was the only thing the surprised blonde could say before Tsubasa responded. The bird girl folded her arms akimbo and frowned slightly as she stated sourly, "Well, the goddess decided that we weren't enough, so she sent Tamami here to assist us." Given how loving Tamami was being, neither Ran nor Kurumi appeared particularly pleased. "Wait, Tamami? She has returned?" Naruto recalled her after hearing her name. As he gave the cat girl a hug in return, he said, "I missed you too, Tamami-chan." He smiled when Ran said, "So what did Miss Tsunade want to talk to you about?" The other girls gasped in surprise as he exclaimed, "She wanted to show me an actual house near where she and Shizune-chan live. In exchange for doing some extra work in her office, she'll give us the house fair and square." Tsubasa exclaimed, "You mean a bigger house? That's wonderful." Kurumi added, "Yeah, she's so nice, Nano, also. This will solve our lodging problem in one go. I really need to meet her and say thank you," Tamami stated. Ran said, "So, when do we move in?" He said, "Next week. Let's get packing," until someone knocked on the door. He rushed to the door and cried, "Coming." He opened it to reveal his sensei, Kakashi. With a frown obvious beneath his mask, he demanded, "Naruto, I just came by to wonder why you weren't at team training this morning." With his palm over his seal, he replied, "I was with Tsunade Bachan this morning. She had something she wanted to talk to me about." Kakashi understood. He gave the order, but before he vanished, he realized he wasn't by himself. "Next time, tell me first." "Who's in there with you?" he inquired dutifully. "Why does it matter? Is it so strange to you that I might actually have company?" replied Naruto. Not just yet. He couldn't let Kakashi or his teammates know about the girls. "Don't disrespect me, young man. As your sensei, I need to know about anyone you might associate with, like that troublemaker Anko. I told you not to hang around her," Kakashi yelled. "So freaking what? I hang around with Anko-ne because she's actually nice to me, treats me like a person, and she'll explain things to me that you won't. Also, since when were you so concerned for my well-being?" replied Naruto. The copy nin disappeared in a cloud of smoke, saying, "I can see I won't get anywhere with you. Just be at training on time next time." With an eyebrow raised, Tsubasa questioned, "Who was that?" Naruto air quoted the sensei part and said, "That was my sensei, Kakashi Hitaki." They could see that he wasn't very fond of this individual. Tamami questioned, I take it he's kind of a jerk, huh? Before returning to their previous topic, the new house, he whispered, that's an understatement. A few days after when the girls awoke in the morning, Naruto had already departed for his team's training. Tamami cried out, but, Master didn't even have breakfast yet. Kurumi proposed, I know, so let's take him some to wherever he is, Nano. To Kurumi's dismay, the girls hastily prepared a modest meal before leaving with a full bento box for their adored master. When the girls realized they had no idea where training ground number 7 was, they asked the first person they saw a girl leaving a flower store with a blonde ponytail. The group of girls thanked Ino and fled, saying, training ground number 7? It's down that way. She was adding 2 and 2 together as they were leaving when she realized that they had a big bento box with them, but somehow she ended up with 5. Wait a minute, they're carrying a bento to Sasuke-kun's training ground. They can't be going there for that baka Naruto, so they're more fangirls. This can't be good, a couple of them are older and prettier than me. She screamed as she fled the store after them. Ground for training number 7. Sasuke was utilizing his Sharingan to read Naruto's every move and intercept him during their sparring match. Since the fight was designed only for taijutsu, Naruto was unable to compensate for his deficiencies with his Kage Bunshin. While it was true that he was training himself to the bone when he wasn't with his team and that Jiraiya always gave him a tip or trick when he was in town, he simply didn't receive the same continuous instruction that Sasuke did, and Jiraiya forced Naruto to figure things out on his own because he believed he would benefit more from it. Although he wasn't nearly as fast as Lee, he was still rather quick and could pick things up quickly. His weight training was going well. He was difficult to predict, even for the Sharingan, because he lacked a true style. In addition, his dense chakra made Sasuke's vision blurry. Kakashi was aware of that and refused to let his favorite lose because of it. To prevent his chakra from destroying the Sharingan, he gave Naruto instructions to put on bracers that suppressed chakra. After he did that, Sasuke easily followed him and gave him a solid beating. Kakashi sighed in contempt as Sasuke winced and whirled on his heel before strutting off to sit down and continue to brood. Che, you're such a loser, he said. What on earth was that, Naruto? Are you even trying? He yelled. You try fighting the Tamiz Sharingan with your chakra sealed and see how you do, Naruto murmured. As he turned to go spoil the emo more, Kakashi informed him coldly, don't talk back to me. I don't think your punishment was heavy enough. If you still have the energy to have such a smart mouth, go do more laps around the training area. I have actual students to teach. Naruto began on his laps, growling, stupid asshole. Since they got back from the mission in T-Country, things have gotten worse and worse. Sakura was more of a bitch than ever. Kakashi ignored and reprimanded him whenever he had the chance, and Sasuke was an even bigger jerk to him. The thought of leaving this godforsaken team and making Chunin seem like heaven. Before long, 4 girls entered the clearing and walked up to the other members of Team 7. Sakura gave them a harsh look, assuming they were more fangirls. Kakashi replied carelessly, without even raising his eyes from his book, girls, you'll have to wait until we're done here to give Sasuke-kun his gifts. Tsubasa frowned as Sakura, the vicious pink pitbull, growled, yeah, you skanks get lost. Sasuke-kun is mine. The girl with the aquamarine hair retorted, who said we were here for that guy? We want to see Naruto-kun. In an attempt to diffuse tension, Ran added, yes, may we please speak with him? We want to give him this bento since he didn't eat breakfast this morning. It was incredibly difficult to be composed around this Sakura girl. She was offended by something about her. Sasuke sneered, PSH, who would want anything to do with that loser? A loser? Huh? Would a loser have saved your butt countless times? Tamami responded. She was informed by the other girls about Naruto's recent missions, as well as his valor and accomplishments. She used to love her master, but now he was like a fairy tale hero. WHO told you that? WHO? No one was supposed to know? Sasuke growled, his filthy secret exposed, as he gave the girl a death glare. To shield Tamami from anything Sasuke may attempt, Tsubasa drew her behind her. She was unique among guardian angels in that she had received extensive combat training and could use her own power source, Reiki, or spiritual energy, to enhance her abilities in addition to their own spells. All of the girls were at least skilled at fighting hand to hand because the goddess wanted to ensure that they wouldn't be defenseless down there. However, some of them genuinely specialized in it, and she was one of them. When the girl blocked her path, Sasuke growled at her, move. Tsubasa retaliated by becoming her unarmed combat form, crane-style kung fu, and saying, no, she is my sister, so I won't let you touch her. Besides, she's right, Naruto-kun is more than you could ever hope to be. Sakura yelled, how dare you insult Sasuke-kun, and hurled herself at Tsubasa. In a single, smooth motion, She swooped low, snatched the pink-haired, incredibly insulting joke of a kunoichi off her feet, and finished her with a palm blow to her solar plexus, knocking the wind out of her and effortlessly incapacitating her. As he watched, Kakashi pondered, she took Sakura out with ease. This girl is more than she seems. On top of that, she knows Naruto and addresses him in a familiar manner. Sasuke used the moment to sneak up on her and gave her a roundhouse kick to the back, knocking her out with a bleeding head wound. As he moved forward, he grabbed her by the collar and cocked his fist back to kill her, but he was flung back into a tree by an orange blur. Wisps of crimson were starting to appear around him, and Naruto said, "Teme, I knew you were a coward, but this is going too far." As a surge of malicious rage swept over the offending party, the bracers that Kakashi had slapped on him were literally burning away to nothing now. As Ran attended to the girl's wounds, Naruto was gently putting her down. Naruto said to Ran, "Take care of her." Ran replied, "I'll do whatever I can, Naruto-kun." Another kind of angel was Ran. She was more of a healer and medic than a fighter. Kakashi sternly demanded, "Naruto, what do you think you're doing?" Naruto lashed out at him, saying, "Protecting a friend something you and these two jerks wouldn't understand. Stand down and stop using that thing's power right now," he said. Naruto glared at him as he turned to face the girls, saying, "Shut up, Hitaki. I was trained to use this power by my real sensei. He was the one that taught me the Rasengan." Kakashi paused to absorb that knowledge. He believed that Jiraiya was the only person who could have taught him that. "He is not your sensei. I am. Stop wasting Jiraiya-sama's time, and I will not have you tarnishing the memory of the Yondaime with you using his jutsu. I forbid you from ever using it again." He issued another order. As he placed Tsubasa onto his back and created a group of clones to do the same with the other girls, he responded, "Piss off, Teme." He was relieved that Tsubasa was unconscious for this, or else she would have freaked out. Instead of pursuing him, Kakashi decided to see how his favorite and only student was doing. "Naruto is growing too strong. Because of the seals I applied to him, I was unable to sense him and didn't even see him move when he removed Sasuke." As he scooped up Sasuke and created a clone to carry Sakura, he thought, "I need to do something." He then took them to the hospital. Ino, who was in the surrounding bushes, had witnessed the entire event and was just taken aback. She found it hard to believe that anyone would genuinely confess to speaking with Naruto, much less desire to be in his presence. She was reassured that there didn't appear to be any competition when she departed the training area. Hokage's office. After finishing yet another massive pile of paperwork, Tsunade reached for her stash of sake so she could quickly pull it out while Shizune was away when the door abruptly flew open. She was busy taking in the tranquility and preparing to assist Naruto with his move, or at the very least, hire a genin squad to assist him and attend a modest party. When she saw who it was, she screamed, "What the hell?" and prepared to inflict damage. The fact that Tsubasa was unconscious on Naruto's back and that the kid was both angry and scared was what disturbed her, even though it was Naruto and the girls. She almost wanted to ask, "What happened?" She wouldn't be lenient if someone learned about them and attempted to harm them. Since Naruto wasn't present for the entire incident, the girls filled in the blanks as he described what had transpired at the training area earlier. Tsunade was prepared to choke Team 7 by the end of the explanation, but she managed to keep her priorities in mind. Suande pointed to her couch and said, "Give her to me, I'll take over." Naruto placed her cautiously on the couch without hesitation and held the girl's back. Tsunade saw that she was only experiencing a concussion and that the wound on her head from when she struck the tree had already healed. Then Tsunade said, "Who healed this? This is excellent work." Ran calmly responded as she moved forward, "That would be me, Lady Tsunade." Tsunade addressed the oldest angel, "Tell me, what other kinds of specialties do you angels have besides healing and fighters?" "Well, as you now know, Tsubasa-chan is a fighter and I am a healer. Kurumi-chan is a tracker and Tamami-chan is a caster, and all three are of the intermediate rank and I am of the senior rank. Angels climb in rank according to ability and their age. However, it is possible for a young angel to advance to the senior rank early if she the goddess believes she is ready," Ran responded. Naruto questioned, "This goddess, she's your leader, right?" "Yes, she is the goddess of the animal spirits and the guardian angels, Nano. She was the one that gave us the chance to return to you. Naruto-kun, she told us that she had been watching your life since the day you were born and decided that you earned the right to have us return to him since you cared for us more than life itself." Kurumi replied with a different response. As they awaited the reawakening of the feisty bird girl, Tsunade absorbed this new information. It's really wonderful for Naruto that they aren't so defenseless after all. In fact, I was a little proud of this girl for doing what she did and taking the Haruno girl to the dry cleaners, given that she disassembled Pinky so swiftly and didn't play around. It sounds like she might be at least high genin with her fighting. It sounds like I could hire this girl. Ran. As an apprentice she is talented, has a nurturing and loving personality, and is motivated to study, but can they make use of chakra? She pondered. Tsunade said once again, for the healing that you used, did you use chakra to heal her? No, we angels come from a spiritual realm, and as such, we use spiritual energies, or Reiki. We use it the same way that you use chakra, I believe, Ran replied. Tsunade grinned at the girl with the red hair and said, that would make sense, then I can teach you, after all. Teach me? Why and what? Quintessentially said Ran. My girl, I'm not only the Hokage because I'm strong, but I'm also a medic, possibly the best in the world, and I've been looking for another apprentice for some time now. My assistant, Shizune, was my first student, but she can hold her own now and she's nearly as good as me. If you all like, I could teach you how to defend yourselves better, Tsunade replied. All the girls were in disbelief according to their knowledge of the woman in front of them. She was a renowned healer and kunoichi who was promising to teach them the abilities they would need to better assist their master and survive in this cruel, merciless world, but they believed they had to ask their master for permission. Naruto grinned broadly as he informed them, I don't mind at all. That'll be kinda cool. Bachan's really tough and she cleaned my clock with only a flick of her fingers. He was not ashamed of how quickly she defeated him. The blonde Hokage gave the order, good, now, when Naruto helps me around the office, you all can come and we'll do the training then, okay? The three awake girls chirped excitedly, hi, Tsunade-sensei, to wake their sister from her concussion. Yuig, what hit me? Tsubasa said, recalling Sasuke's small sneak strike. Naruto fumed, a cowardly Teme, that's who. As she nursed a tiny goose egg on her skull, Tsubasa snarled, thinking of all the ways she could teach that guy why hitting her was a bad idea. That jerk, just wait till I see him again. She became interested as she observed the other people. She wondered, what did I miss? And the other girls told her what Tsunade had requested. Although Tsubasa was aware of the woman's strength, she still wished to test her limits. Put your money where your mouth is, was always her guiding principle. With a simple laugh, Tsunade grabbed a little piece of solid steel and bent it as if it were wax. They all fell on their asses in the crater she created as she pulled them all outside the tower and punched the ground. To Tsunade's delight, Tsubasa stated in a blank voice, "Wow, I believe you now." She thought, I kind of like this girl, as she unwittingly displayed her outstanding form by stretching her back once again, causing the girls to gasp and examine their own chests. Ha ha. Don't worry, you girls still have time to grow, she said with a friendly laugh, so they wouldn't feel embarrassed either. A little preoccupied with their conversation, Naruto inquired as to what was so humorous. He blushed from his toes to the very tips of his wild blonde hair at the reaction he received from his pseudo-mother figure. She mocked the youngster, who angrily disputed it right away, saying, "Oh my, I didn't know you were such a pervert. Naruto-chan, maybe Jiraiya's beginning to rub off on you." Naruto stood up, protruding his chin in defiance, saying, "And no, I am not like that raging pervert." This caused the females to giggle and the Lady Hokage to laugh heartily. Tsunade relished these times when she could simply be herself and not worry about being the Hokage. She enjoyed sharing it with Jiraiya, Shizune, and Naruto, the very people who knew the true her and yet adored her for it. These girls were now being accepted into her small family, which was her family. When Kakashi and the other members of Team 7 returned to her office and were getting ready to leave, everything came to a close. Angrily, Tsunade questioned, "What do you want?" "Lady Tsunade, I am tired of Naruto constantly and openly disrespecting my authority. He went out and sought training from Jiraiya without my permission and learned a dangerous jutsu from him that I feel he is too immature to wield now. He brought his little friends over to team practice today, and that one," pointing at Tsubasa, "maliciously beat up Sakura Haruno without provocation." Kakashi told the Hokage, who was unmoved. Brief remarks. "Yeah. That green-haired freak insulted Sasuke-kun and sucker-punched me. I don't know why anyone would like that annoying baka or even stick up for him when Sasuke-kun is around," Sakura shrieked. Tsunade narrowed her brows and said, "Really? Is that so, Haruno?" In a tone that was dangerously composed. She was very excited to break the terrible news that her apprenticeship bid had failed miserably. "Yeah, tell her, Sasuke-kun," a female human's rabid mongoose exclaimed to her crush. That annoying chick got what was coming to her, but the Dobi hit me from behind like a coward. He knows that he could never beat me and he'll always be a loser," Sasuke grumbled. With a look and a wink, Tsunade stopped the girls before they could beat them into paste. Tsunade, seeing that she had them on the ropes, asked, "So if I refer to the footage from the security camera at the training site, it will jive with what you're telling me?" She hoped they would be sufficiently conceited to attempt to disprove her. They naively consented, and the video began to play from Naruto's initial arrival at the training site and the subsequent events. culminating in Naruto's departure with the females. In addition to being angry, Tsunade was angry with Uber. Someone drank all of my sake, and God. So Hitaki, you saw fit to not only blatantly lie to me, but also to hinder the development of one of your genin? Just because he was starting to pose a challenge to your favorite and getting training from my pervert of a teammate? Might I remind you that Jiraiya outranks you by far, and he has the right to train whomever he sees fit, and he can teach his apprentice whatever he desires. He saved my life with that jutsu, and just because you have a little conniption about Naruto being the one chosen and not the Uchiha doesn't give you the right to do this to him. Furthermore, he was with Emi yesterday and we had some important things to discuss, like his future. She struck at Copy Nin. Why is it that a mere genin, the dead last of all genin, is so important? He said. He has been the ward of the Hokage since birth, passed down from Sarutobi sensei to Emi, and I take it very seriously. He was the one that brought me back here to heal yours and the Uchiha brats' sorry asses in the first place and take over this place as the Hokage. She snapped back. She had no intention of letting this one-eyed pissant carry her around. So, he's still a little loser, and why haven't you made me your apprentice yet? I need to impress Sasuke-kun? Sakura snarled. Oh my goodness, I'm going to love this. Tsunade had a cunning thought. I already found a worthy apprentice, and it's not you. The sight of you makes me want to throw up. Tsunade yelled at the disrespectful girl, making her face contort in rage. You. As my apprentice, this has to be some kind of really bad, tasteless joke. Why would I want a pathetic, sniveling fangirl associated with my teachings or with me in any way? The she-beast screamed angrily. Who is she? I'll cave her face in. With cool defiance, Ran said, I am, Miss Haruno. Sakura yelled, RRRAAGGGHHH. As she tried to go Lu Ferrigno on Ran, but Tsunade herself stopped her. That does it. Team 7 has pissed me off for the final time. You are hereby disbanded. Haruno. You and the Uchiha will be going back to the academy to have your attitudes readjusted, and you Hitaki are suspended for 6 months. Turn in your headbands before your leave and don't let that door hit your ass on the way out. She gave her order with finality and raised them to maximize their impact. Sakura stumbled out, but what about the Dobi? Why isn't he being punished? Before Tsunade had him in a vice-like hold, Sasuke screamed, why should I go back to the academy when I need to kill my brother and avenge my clan? How dare you listen, and you'd better listen good, because I'm only telling you this once. I make the decisions around here, and as to why you are going back and he is not is because he actually tried working with you, but the two of you are just too arrogant for your own good. As for your vengeance, little boy, it'll have to wait. You had responsibilities as an active duty shinobi to serve the village, not yourself. Maybe your time in the academy will help you remember your place. Boy. Tsunade growled at them as he threw the door like a sack of garbage. The other two fled behind him. Sasuke vowed, the council will hear of this. Tsunade replied, good, I'll chop them down a peg or two when they crawl in here, too. The remainder of the people in the room watched in utter amazement at the woman's powerful presence. She returned her focus to them. What? She inquired. That was really amazing, Lady Tsunade. You had such a strong presence. Ran grinned as he replied. Tsubasa went on, yeah, you really put those guys away. Naruto said softly, hey, I'm free of them now? Yeah, this pretty much sets you free for missions. I'll just tack you onto existing teams for now, and you'll be able to work here without any troubles from Hitaki or your teammates. When the time comes for the Chunin exams again, I'll find you a team that needs a person and you'll take it with them. But remember to keep up on your training, understood? She asked the young genin, who replied swiftly. With Team 7 no longer a burden around his neck, Naruto could breathe more easily. His luck had improved ever since the females appeared, and he was eager to find out what would happen next. Readying to move into Naruto's apartment, it makes sense that Naruto was ecstatic. His former team, if you can call it that, had just been dissolved, with Kakashi suspended pending a demotion for his egregious favoritism and willful destruction of a career, and Sasuke and Sakura sent back to the academy. This time, Tsunade truly delivered, which is just one more reason he adored her. He was now relocating to the home that Tsunade had chosen for him. Leaving behind his run-down previous apartment, Naruto didn't really have much to begin with, so packing went swiftly. Naruto left a whole team of Kage Bunshin behind to thoroughly clean the flat and prepare it for inspection, and within an hour they were packed and prepared to leave. Naruto had just unlocked the door of the house across town, and he and the girls were astounded by the amount of room inside. There were 7 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms in the house, 2 of which had bathtubs. Naruto selected one room for himself, while the other 2 girls shared a room. To make the house more comfortable, they would need to go find furniture, a ton of it. As he felt his clones disperse, informing him that the old flat was as clean as it could be, he thought, perhaps there will be extra money to make this feel more like home, since the extra work he'll be doing will pay for the rent. In fact, it was likely 10 times more attractive than the majority of the other units in that podunk, rinky-dunk development. As he unpacked all of his clothes and took another glance around his room, Naruto complained, "That bastard landlord will still find something to bitch about." His room alone was nearly as large as his apartment. He realized the house itself was more akin to a mansion, and the same was true of the other rooms. Of reference to his recent shift of fortune, he mumbled, "Man, I must have done something right in a past life." He went to see how the girls were doing and summoned them all together so they could all go to supper at Ichiraku's. Naruto said to the girls, "Let's all go by the dump to look for furniture in the next day or so. That's where I got most of my stuff," and they agreed. Tamami, who was astute and financially minded, said, "That makes good financial sense, Master. If it's still serviceable and free, then we'll have found some really good bargains." Ran questioned, "But what about day-to-day expenses?" "Well, I bet we could find jobs to help out Master. Those ninja missions are hard and some of them sound dangerous. We can't let Master shoulder all of that strain alone." Tsubasa responded with a nod of approval. Elsewhere, 3 individuals were gathering around a hole with an egg-shaped stone within on a hilltop not too far from Konoha. This stone appeared to be brimming with strength and bore the insignia of a dragon. All 3 of the figures surrounding it were staring down at it gravely. The first was wearing glasses, long black hair bound up, and black robes with the Genbu kanji. The second was at least a head taller, wore a red robe with the Suzaku kanji, and had long silver hair that hung over one eye with wild platinum blonde hair tipped with black and a white robe bearing the Byako kanji. The last was by far the shortest with lightning slamming nearby and the wind whipping at their robes. Storm clouds were building all around them. The tallest one exclaimed, "Finally, we found it. Yes, now we can get our revenge on all of the humans for what they did to us animals. They had the nerve to seal the great spirits away inside of themselves to gain power." The smallest growled. "Patience. Brothers, we must awaken our big brother at the right time. For right now we must find this Naruto Uzumaki, and free the Kyuubi no Kitsune which has been sealed within him. Then, we can look for the other great animal spirits, kill their containers, and use them to restore our full powers." The middle told the other people, who agreed to his instructions as they searched for their prey. The 3 of them disappeared in a blaze of light. A week after Hyuga Mansion, Hinata. Hyuga's thoughts on the previous few days were conflicted. She was thrilled for her crush because he would now have to lead missions with other teams, including her own team, and would not have to worry about his team or sensei. As a result, she would spend more time with him and, consequently, have more chances to tell her blonde beau how she feels. But don't you think that having conflicting emotions indicates that there is a drawback to everything? The flip side of this coin was that Konoha's population had grown normally. The Hyuga heiress wouldn't be alarmed or even aware of this, but for some reason, these newcomers had slept with her favorite blonde, and to make matters worse, they were female, addressed him with familiarity and cute suffixes, and 2 of them were older girls. Hinata returned to her thoughts, muttering, "What on earth is going on here? Just who are they and who do they think they are? Moving in with Naruto-kun? I need to find out more about these girls." Neji overheard his cousin murmuring something as he was only walking by her room, and he could only assume that it had something to do with Naruto. He had softened considerably since losing to the blonde in the Chunin exams, particularly when Hinata was involved. As a result of what his uncle had told him about his father's passing, he had finally reconciled with the rest of his family and let go of his hatred, which led to a more laid-back demeanor that was easily apparent. These enigmatic girls were Naruto's house guests, based on what he had heard from Hinata, what he had observed around town, and the tirades of the recently demoted members of the now-defunct Team 7. Given Hitaki's poor team management, the Haruno's utter ineffectiveness, and the Uchiha's hazardous hostility, he knew what was coming for Team 7. He was surprised that it hadn't happened sooner, but Lady Tsunade's action was neither here nor there. Naruto appeared to be the only rational or otherwise acceptable member of that team. Returning to the topic at hand, it appeared as though one of the ladies had defeated Sakura in a matter of seconds, but Naruto himself defeated the Uchiha after they assaulted her from behind. As he continued with his business, leaving Hinata to hers, he thought, well, the Uchiha deserved that one, but I'm a little curious, myself. The home of Naruto. When Naruto awoke, he could hear the noises of violence breaking out among his neighbors as the girls scrambled for bathroom time to prepare for the day. It was the usual morning bathroom blitz. Hey, quit pushing. Cut it out. I need to look good for master. Ow. Get your toothbrush out of my eye. Whoa. Whose hand is that? Hurry up. I'm hungry. Nano. Nei-chan, quit squishing me. Yes, that was the sound of 6, as anyone who has several sisters or simply lives with a lot of women knows. This is like hitting the shore at Normandy on D-Day. 6 girls rushing to use the restroom at the same time. God save our poor little ramen junkie, unadulterated chaos. Now, you might wonder, why 6 instead of 4? Anyway, let's clarify the matter, shall we? Go back. Naruto just wanted to relax for a bit because he was exhausted from all the extra projects Tsunade had him working on. Naruto mumbled as he attempted to get into bed. Damn, now I know why Shizune Nichan's always so tired. Ka-chan's a slave driver. In addition, he was beginning to have the illness, which made matters worse. Tsubasa called from behind his door. Master. Where are you? Master, weren't we supposed to go train today? This time Kurumi said, Master, let's go get some ramen, Nano. Naturally, Tamami said, hey, he was supposed to help me go over the finances. Ran, the sensible voice, said, girls? Master's kind of tired? No. Training. Ramen. Finances. This continued for at least 20 minutes before the scroll from which the girls had previously come began to respond once more and open. 2 more forms emerged from a dazzling burst of blue light, and he groaned, "Aw man." The first girl, who was about 17 years old, had incredibly unusual hair, a purple hair that, when styled, weirdly resembled bunny ears. In addition, she appeared to be carrying a huge pocket watch. At roughly 8 years old, the other girl was younger than Tamami. Her royal blue hair was tied up in twin tails that resembled puppy ears, complete with large puppy dog eyes. Master. It's me. Mika the rabbit. The 2 girls introduced themselves and said, I'm Nana, the puppy you used to have. Yes, he was quite glad to see them, but he was also a complete mess right now. The girls rushed into the room upon hearing what was happening behind the doors, only to witness Naruto fall to the ground, face down. Master. They cried out together. Since Ran was unable to inspect him, they called Shizune, who informed them that it was only a case of the flu followed by extreme fatigue. I recommend that he stay in bed for a couple of days until this blows over. I've already told Lady Tsunade and she sends her apologies for working him so hard on top of everything else he has going. Wait a minute, there's more of you. What's going on here? Shizune inquired, perplexed by the fact that they're additional angels. Naruto now trusted Shizune because he trusted Tsunade since she would be providing Ran with additional medical training. She had been informed about the girls and their true identities. To explain why they had been sent down in the first place, Mika moved in. The goddess sent Mika and Nana to help resolve the conflict because it appeared that she wasn't very pleased with the way the girls had been squabbling over Naruto's attention. The rabbit girl drew a chart with their names and scheduled times with their master, adding, she gave me this watch to ration out time with master. Those who aren't taking care of master need to be in doll form now. What? That's not fair. Why can't I have dinner time with master? Kurumi was grumbling. With a fist pump, Tamami said, hey, my slot is an hour shorter than Mika's. I demand equality. Tsubasa went on, yeah, so's mine. I want to train with master. Oh. Hey, I want to have more time to play with master, Nana was grumbling. But this time slot is during my training with Shizune sensei, Ran said. Mika smirked as she said, the goddess decided to do this, so don't blame me. Before addressing them, Shizune caught it, but the females missed it. With a sly smile, Shizune remarked, well, Ran will need time with me since she is my student and I can use Naruto-chan as an example for treating sickness. Mika perspired. The goddess instructed her to avoid interfering with the training that Tsubasa and Ran were undergoing for providing the training and appointing Ran as her apprentice. The deity was extremely appreciative of the Sannin and her helper. The clever Kunoichi, accustomed to such things from her master, quickly destroyed Mika's well-thought-out strategy as she and her student started treating the sick Naruto, with Shizune helping her screen for signs. Alright, fine. Mika whimpered piteously. After about an hour, they eventually left the room and instructed everyone to let him sleep for a bit without disturbing him. They grudgingly complied. When Tsunade later came to see her sick pseudo-child, she discovered the 2 extra angels with him. Tsunade asked her apprentice, okay, maybe I missed something here. Ran dear, would you mind explaining this to me? Ran gave Mika a little frown, which caused the rabbit girl to wince. Hi. Tsunade-sensei, the goddess thought that we fought for his attention too much, so she sent Mika and Nana here to help us iron things out. However, it seems that Mika-san had some ulterior motives for her plans. So I already know what these girls were in their past lives, but what were you two? Inquired Tsunade. Mika told the Sannin with a dejected expression on her face. Well ma'am, I was a rabbit and Nana-chan was a puppy. You see, I died of loneliness and Nana got sick. When Tsunade heard that, Her features softened while Nana was still very young when she passed away. She could understand how Mika's loneliness may make her clinging and attention-seeking. As she went about her visit, she emphasized, "Just take it easy on him for a bit and let him get used to you before trying anything, okay?" She also learned that they were angel types, with Nana being a tracker in training and Mika being a caster, but she amused Nana for a bit. She recommended some control exercises to Mika. She was an endearing girl, somewhat of a tomboy like Tsubasa, and as lively and vivacious as she had been as a puppy. As she walked away, Tsunade said, "Well, I have to get going now, take care of him, okay?" End of flashback. They took care of Hima, sometimes a bit too much. Nana often seemed to be bouncing about him seeking attention, while Mika would always try to feed him herself. Fortunately, he was able to channel her energy through team guide training. Lee developed a fondness for the young girl and was always testing her youthfulness. Even Lee's enormous endurance didn't appear to be enough to keep up with the tiny girl. Guy had questions, but he kept them to himself since he believed Naruto would have told them if he wanted them to know. He looked content with the girls and stopped there. Because they were both tomboys and wanted to show that being a woman didn't entail being powerless. Tsubasa and Tenten seemed to click right away despite being younger than him. Tamami seemed to comprehend Neji when they talked about subjects like business, about which she was incredibly knowledgeable due to the frequency of injuries sustained during training sessions, primarily as a result of a Tenten or Guy-sensei going a bit too far. Guy was glad to have a medic on hand in Ran. Tsubasa was happy to get instruction from a taijutsu expert such as Guy and absorbed all he had to offer regarding the style she used through his weight training program. Tsubasa learned a little bit of the Goken technique to give her punches more force, but she also used the crane technique, which was a really obscure shinobi style, with grace. Konoha Academy. Sakura and Sasuke were sitting in an academy classroom with children a few years younger than themselves. On top of those who had not succeeded in becoming genin in their class, they were fuming over their predicament and the shame they now had to endure. Flashback yet again with a smug Sasuke reclining against the wall. The council had a fit when they learned of Tsunade's punishment for their prized Uchiha and did all in their power to get it overturned. But when she said that the Hokage position was no longer a puppet for the council's convenience, Tsunade kept her word. She lost her temper when the elders abruptly stated that she had to follow their instructions or else Naruto and her assistant would suffer according to what was previously said. She became extremely angry, wrath of God angry, and threw Homura through the door, Kaharu out the window, and Danzo through the floor, leaving Sasuke stunned and gaping with his jaw on the ground. Stunned that someone had resisted him, he remarked, but the Sandame always gave in. Yes, Sensei may have put up with this, but I refused. It's time that this council is reminded of the fact that this village is under my command, not the other way around. They really fucked up when they threatened my precious people. Tsunade said the way she put a stop to everything he was taking for granted infuriated Sasuke. This village owes me. You owe me just for being here. I demand that you give me back my license, or else, he was threatening. With her fist primed and prepared to provide some much-needed discipline, Tsunade edged closer to him and asked, "Or else what, you spoiled little brat?" He shot back, not really understanding when to close his trap because the council wasn't holding him accountable. "I wonder what another village would pay to have me in their ranks?" he asked. Tsunade snarled as she backhanded him, sending him to the ground in a heap. "If you set one foot outside those gates without my say-so, I'll grind your sorry little ass into paste. You arrogant little bastard, you belong to this village, and if you try to betray us, you'll meet the same end as any other traitor, except you'll wish I'd killed you when I'm done. You'll pay for this," he swore, running off to pout and think about it. End of flashback as Iruka babbled on about customs and village regulations. Sasuke's palm instinctively went to his cheek, which still had the bruise from her backhand blow. He was irritated by Sakura's insistence on sitting next to him in order to protect him from the remaining fangirls in the class, such as Amy and her flunkies, who would constantly fight and quarrel over him. Haruno. Fujikuro. Pay attention, Fujikuro. You're in danger of flunking again. In Haruno, you've already been kicked out of the shinobi program and back to the academy. The both of you need to buckle down and pay attention. Iruka yelled at them. Iruka looked at Sasuke as he sneered, "HMPH losers." The students laughed at Iruka's response. "I wouldn't talk if I were you. Uchiha, you were kicked out, as well. I wouldn't be here if I hadn't been saddled with that stupid Dobi. He always screwed things up for me," Sasuke replied. "And yet, you're here and he's still out there as a shinobi, isn't that right? He's the hero of the sound invasion, and he also brought Hokage-sama back to us after Sandame-sama died. So Dobi or not, he's earned his place as a shinobi of this village." Iruka replied with a knowing grin. He had been told not to take any shit from Sasuke and to ensure that he didn't get any preferential treatment this time. Oh, how glad he was to follow that command. The free ride had suddenly screeched to a stop after the council allowed the brat to walk all over him and the teaching staff without consequence. After hearing about Naruto's valiant efforts during the invasion, the other students in the class developed a great deal of respect for him because of how hard he worked to defend them all from the crazy sand demon and ultimately vanquished it. The former Dobi's competence and might in such a short period of time won the respect of even the chronic fangirl Amy. Meanwhile, Sasuke and Sakura were sent back to the academy, and the rest of the class made fun of them for it. Those who made a serious mistake were granted that disgrace, but they were humiliated, just as they are now. As one student put it, "Ha, ha, the Uchiha's not such a hotshot after all," I laughed. Another student concurred, saying, "Yeah, the Dobi left his ass in the dust out of the classroom." When Iruka revealed to Sasuke that he was a teacher because he wanted to be, he was furious and tried to take charge of the classroom and establish the hierarchy after the Uchiha massacre. He withdrew from his position as an Anbu captain and returned to his previous Chunin rank. He had a kunai at his throat and was behind Sasuke in an instant. "I would seriously reconsider your course of action, Sasuke. While you are in my classroom, you will follow my rules. If you don't like it, you can leave the shinobi program. However, if you choose to drop out, you will no longer be permitted to practice any of the shinobi arts. You will be a civilian, nothing more," Iruka said. Sasuke bellowed, "What? Then how am I supposed to avenge my clan?" With his arms folded, the schoolteacher shot out, "You won't." Pure and simple. Sakura yelled, "You can't do that to Sasuke-kun." Iruka responded to her in a matter-of-fact manner before returning to his work. "I can and will. Hokage-sama has seen fit to revamp the educational system to give we educators more authority in the classrooms. About time, I say now. If you two will kindly quiet down. I have others in here that would like to actually learn something." The two former Team 7 members are left to fester in their animosity. "If it's the last thing I do, I'll get that blonde bitch of a Hokage back for this." Sasuke returned to his frown, thinking, "But first, Iruka, the Dobi, and his wenches will pay the price for disrespecting a Uchiha." The last bell had finally rang, and all of the students had practically rushed out of the academy. Sakura was following Sasuke as usual, harassing him with her shrill and pointless conversation, which was normal for her around. Sakura continued to yammer until Sasuke violently pushed her away, pinning her to a nearby wall. "Sasuke-kun, I really hope we're on the same team again. That would be so nice and we won't have to deal with that Dobi trying to show you up again." He growled as he loomed menacingly over her, asking, "What did you say?" Sakura stammered in terror, What? All I said was we won't have to deal with that Dobi taking the credit for saving the village." Sasuke angrily screamed in her face, "Damn that Dobi, where did he get that power and that summon when I need it more?" But Sasuke-kun, you're already stronger than that Dobi," Sakura wept. Sasuke growled once more as he ran off to pursue the blonde and his group. "No, I want to know what made that Dobi so much stronger than me. He will tell me or his wenches will." On the fields of training, they had just finished a training session with Team 10, whom Naruto introduced to the females and vice versa, and were relaxing. Asuma initially inquired about their identity and origins, but Naruto and the Hokage wanted all information pertaining to them kept secret, so he and the females came up with a cover tale. Konoha took them in because they were all from a wrecked rural village and had nowhere else to go. They moved in with Naruto when the Hokage instructed him to watch over them. Choji and Ino appeared to agree, but Shikamaru was too intelligent for his own good, and Asuma appeared to have some questions later but chose not to pursue them. When Ino saw them last week on her way to the training fields, she became intrigued, only to discover that they were there for Naruto and not Sasuke. She also witnessed Sasuke's cowardly attack and the events that followed in that clearing, such as Naruto's unexpected display of force and Kakashi's attempted upbraiding. After that, Sakura and Sasuke were returned to the academy. That truly made her stop and consider what they might have done to be brought back there, but Naruto didn't because, as Asuma had explained to them, he was effectively a free shinobi. The issue with it was that he just informed Team 7 that it had been dissolved without explaining what had transpired. While playing with Choji and forcing him to get off his ass and work out, Nana was running around like a crazy person and giggling uncontrollably. Mika was distracted, and Naruto forced her to concentrate on her training, which was quickly depleting her Reiki reserves. With Tamami undergoing the same workout, the goal was to increase her reserves as the senior rank. Mika decided to begin teaching the younger caster Sokatsui, a new mid-level offensive spell. Following a successful sparring session, they appeared to get along well with Ino and Tsubasa. Ino was first classified as a girly girl by Tsubasa, however it was only accurate before to the Chunin exams. She began to take her training much more seriously after that. Despite being exhausted after the match, the two had a good match. "Seriously, are you sure you weren't a kunoichi before? If you were in my class, Forehead spot would have been in trouble. Ino laughed out loud. Tsubasa said, forehead? Who's that? Oh, that's what I always call Sakura, because of that gigantic forehead of hers, replied Ino. Tsubasa said, her face black and irate now. Oh, her. Startled by her sudden animosity, Ino questioned, well, what did forehead do to piss you off? The name alone appeared to make the small girl and Ran, the kind one, frown. Tsubasa snarled as she denied what had transpired with Team 7 the previous week. Oh ho. Hey, feel free to sue me, I just want to explain things. Sasuke was utilizing his Sharingan to read Naruto's every move and intercept him during their sparring match. Since the fight was designed only for taijutsu, Naruto was unable to compensate for his deficiencies with his Kage Bunshin. While it was true that he was training himself to the bone when he wasn't with his team and that Jiraiya always gave him a tip or trick when he was in town, he simply didn't receive the same continuous instruction that Sasuke did, and Jiraiya forced Naruto to figure things out on his own because he believed he would benefit more from it. Although he wasn't nearly as fast as Lee, he was still rather quick and could pick things up quickly. His weight training was going well. He was difficult to predict, even for the Sharingan, because he lacked a true style. In addition, his dense chakra made Sasuke's vision blurry. Kakashi was aware of that and refused to let his favorite lose because of it. To prevent his chakra from destroying the Sharingan, he gave Naruto instructions to put on bracers that suppressed chakra. After he did that, Sasuke easily followed him and gave him a solid beating. Kakashi sighed in contempt as Sasuke winced and whirled on his heel before strutting off to sit down and continue to brood. Che, you're such a loser, he said. What on earth was that, Naruto? Are you even trying? He yelled. You try fighting the Tamiz Sharingan with your chakra sealed and see how you do, Naruto murmured. As he turned to go spoil the emo more, Kakashi informed him coldly, don't talk back to me. I don't think your punishment was heavy enough. If you still have the energy to have such a smart mouth, go do more laps around the training area. I have actual students to teach. Naruto began on his laps, growling, stupid asshole. Since they got back from the mission in Tea Country, things have gotten worse and worse. Sakura was more of a bitch than ever. Kakashi ignored and reprimanded him whenever he had the chance, and Sasuke was an even bigger jerk to him. It sounded like heaven to make Chunin and abandon this team of gods. Before long, 4 girls entered the clearing and walked up to the other members of Team 7. Sakura gave them a harsh look, assuming they were more fangirls. Kakashi replied carelessly, without even raising his eyes from his book, girls, you'll have to wait until we're done here to give Sasuke-kun his gifts. Tsubasa frowned as Sakura, the vicious pink pitbull, growled, yeah, you skanks get lost. Sasuke-kun is mine. The girl with the aquamarine hair retorted, who said we were here for that guy? We want to see Naruto-kun. In an attempt to diffuse tension, Ran added, yes, may we please speak with him? We want to give him this bento since he didn't eat breakfast this morning. It was incredibly difficult to be composed around this Sakura girl. She was offended by something about her. Sasuke sneered, PSH, who would want anything to do with that loser? A loser? Huh? Would a loser have saved your butt countless times? Tamami responded. She was informed by the other girls about Naruto's recent missions, as well as his valor and accomplishments. She used to love her master, but now he was like a fairy tale hero. WHO told you that? WHO? No one was supposed to know? Sasuke growled, his filthy secret exposed, as he gave the girl a death glare. To shield Tamami from anything Sasuke may attempt, Tsubasa drew her behind her. When the girl blocked her path, Sasuke growled at her, move. Tsubasa retaliated by becoming her unarmed combat form, crane-style kung fu, and saying, no, she is my sister, so I won't let you touch her. Besides, she's right, Naruto-kun is more than you could ever hope to be. Sakura yelled, how dare you insult Sasuke-kun, and hurled herself at Tsubasa. In a single, smooth motion, she swooped low, snatched the pink-haired, incredibly insulting joke of a kunoichi off her feet, and finished her with a palm blow to her solar plexus, knocking the wind out of her and effortlessly incapacitating her. Sasuke used the moment to sneak up on her and gave her a roundhouse kick to the back, knocking her out with a bleeding head wound. As he moved forward, he grabbed her by the collar and cocked his fist back to kill her, but he was flung back into a tree by an orange blur. With a covering of red chakra, Naruto growled, Teme, I knew you were a coward, but this is going too far. As the offending party was overcome by a flood of malicious rage, the bracers that Kakashi had slapped on him were literally burning away to nothing now. As Ran attended to the girl's wounds, Naruto was gently putting her down. Naruto said to Ran, take care of her. Ran replied, I'll do whatever I can, Naruto-kun. Kakashi sternly demanded, Naruto, what do you think you're doing? Naruto lashed out at him, saying, "Protecting a friend something you and these two jerks wouldn't understand. Stand down and stop using that thing's power right now," he said. Naruto glared at him as he turned to face the girls, saying, "Shut up, Hitaki. I was trained to use this power by my real sensei. He was the one that taught me the Rasengan. He is not your sensei. I am. Stop wasting Jiraiya-sama's time, and I will not have you tarnishing the memory of the Yondaime with you using his jutsu. I forbid you from ever using it again." He issued another order. As he placed Tsubasa onto his back and created a group of clones to do the same with the other girls, he responded, "Piss off, Teme." He was relieved that Tsubasa was unconscious for this, or else she would have freaked out. "Are you happy yet?" Finish. Naruto, Tsubasa, and the females concluded the story. They discussed the red chakra, but the girls were all aware of the Kyuubi because the goddess herself had briefed them on it, and they knew not to discuss it with anybody else. At the end, Ino was unable to speak, although half of her wanted to deny what they had said. Naruto's stern expression conveyed a completely different message. Furthermore, she was an outsider who only knew what she observed for herself, and Tamami was persecuted for speaking the truth too. Then came Naruto and his unexpected display of strength, along with the red chakra's rebirth. However, based on her observations during Naruto's battle with Neji, Shikamaru believed that this might be the beginning of an unidentified lineage. A second thought came to her. She was relieved that Asuma didn't resemble Kakashi. As for Asuma, he was thinking about how things transpired last week and the impact from that specific occurrence as a result of the conversation. Another flashback. Hey. This could MEANTLY set off a new trend. After being informed of what had transpired with Team 7, the other sensei were summoned to judge their fellow sensei, and none of them appeared particularly pleased with Kakashi's conviction. Everyone recoiled at Kurenai's icy tone as she said, "I think he is an insult to everything it means to be a sensei. He has taken what it means to be one and spit all over it. I have to say that his blatant favoritism makes the rest of us look bad. The Uzumaki kid made a good showing for himself without him and he got pissed off about it. That sounds more like a sore loser than someone that should be trusted with students." Asuma then addressed the tribunal. "I have seen him as my youthful rival for as long as I can remember, but his unyouthful actions border on treason. On top of that, the Goken style is a dojo-only fighting style, taught only to students of my choosing. It is the only legacy I have to leave behind when I die, but he stole it and even worse, taught it to the Uchiha without permission." I agree with Asuma. He is not to be trusted with students or in general for his unyouthful transgressions. Guy told them that the tribunal was over. The most startling thing was that Guy's voice was as hard as steel, and he only used the word youth 3 times. Everyone could tell he was quite upset by the way he sounded. Shikaku Nara, her Junin commander, and Ibiki Morino, her version of a chief of police, and his aide Enko Midarashi were sitting in Tsunade's chair, overseeing the trial and reviewing the evidence. They had seen and heard enough after hearing the other Junin sensei's stories. Ibiki yelled, "Kakashi Hitaki, rise for the verdict." The condemned did as he was commanded. "I, Godem Hokage Tsunade Senju, do hereby impose the following punishment for the crime of willfully and maliciously ruining the career of one of your own students, as well as for egregious carelessness and incompetence of command. Tsunade made the following decree. You will be demoted to Chunin and will never be eligible for promotion to Junin or Tokubetsu Junin again, nor will you ever be eligible for any other special duty, such as instructor duty or Anbu service. Additionally, your Sharingan will remain sealed after your suspension is up. We will not remove it, as it is a keepsake of your deceased friend, but make no mistake, Sharingan Kakashi will be gone forever." When Kakashi heard the sentence, his mouth fell open. He didn't believe they would get that far with the Counticles, since he was the only one left who could teach Sasuke how to use his Sharingan. He expressed his belief that they would keep things from going too awful. But how can I teach Sasuke how to use his Sharingan if mine is sealed? This isn't fair," Kakashi said. "So troublesome. The Uchiha has texts left over in his clan's libraries that he can learn from. That's if he can graduate from the academy. Also, on the matter of your punishment, this is more than fair, considering that what you tried to pull could be classified as treason and sabotage." Shikaku made the point. "This is because I refused to teach that little Uzumaki monster, the Sandaime and Godaime's little pet demon, isn't it?" Kakashi growled at the audience. "No, what you have done is a serious crime, Hitaki. The fact that Uzumaki is the victim is irrelevant. The fact remains is that he was one of the 2 that I saw were ready for Chunin rank. He showed that he had the guts to continue on into the unknown. He pulled his team through the forest and he fought his way to the finals. Even when you abandoned him, he still found a way to overcome the Hyuga kid and beat the crap out of Suna's Jinchuriki. Yet, when it came time for recommendations, you shot him down as soon as you found out that the Uchiha didn't make the cut. Am I right?" Ibiki responded with another shot. Kakashi was aware of his predicament. All of his underplaying in the training and mission reports had come back to haunt him. He realized that Anko was also monitoring him through Naruto. Just as the third was keeping a close watch on him, the free ride he had been given had come to a halt because Tsunade, who was now in charge, wasn't letting the council do anything they wanted. She had been dismissing all of his justifications. Asuma was beside him, his trench knives at his throat, and Guy was holding him down as Kakashi stood up to respond. With a harsh tone, Asuma scolded him, "Stop making excuses, Hitaki. What would you know? You didn't have the demon child forced onto you. I was forced to train my sensei's killer." Kakashi yelled at him. "Your sensei would be ashamed of you, Hitaki. He was the one that declared Naruto a hero for being used as a living sacrifice to save us all, including you. You unyouthful, ungrateful bastard," Guy said. Tsunade yelled, "Enough," and silenced everyone in the room. Tsunade growled as she spun on her heel and walked out of the room, the Anbu guards accompanying him to the sealing facility. "You have your punishment. Hitaki, you will report to the Anbu sealing facility for your chakra suppression seals. Then, you will be no more than a civilian for 6 months. Leave my sight, Hitaki, and remember, this is your last chance. You mess this up one more time, and I'll see you at the end of a rope." "Well, maybe not." Asuma sighed the smoke out of his cigarette after taking a big drag. "We haven't even started to witness all of the consequences of that unpleasant trial." As he gazed at the council's favorite target, freely chatting with his genin and his mini entourage, he thought, "But I have to give it to Lady Tsunade. She's got more guts than my old man ever had with how she strong-armed the council and put that mob of sycophants in their place." He's pleased for the first time in his life, which is fantastic. He's still a good child after everything he's been through, Asuma reminded himself, until a hand grabbed his lit cigarette and put it out. A female with auburn hair and teal eyes was glaring at him slightly as he searched for the offender. "What?" he inquired, perplexed as if reprimanding a child. Tamami shook her finger at him and said, "You shouldn't smoke, it's bad for you." This caused Team 10, especially Ino, to erupt in laughter. That was priceless. "I've been trying to get Asuma-sensei to quit smoking ever since I met him," she burst into applause. "Well, he really should stop. It is detrimental to one's health and it could cause problems later on in life," Ran continued. With a moan, Asuma got up and checked his watch, still a little pouting because Tamami had snuffed his last cigarette. It was already time to head home. As he vanished in a cloud of smoke, he said, "Okay, kids, pack it in, it's time to go home. Naruto, I'm going to get my team a mission tomorrow. A C rank, you can join us if you want." While Tamami was performing the calculations, Naruto made a mental list of things to get and said, "Cool, that means we can get groceries tomorrow." Tamami hurriedly rectified herself, but Ino noticed it. "Mas Naruto-kun, we'll need around 11,900 ryu. Going off of yen, for groceries by my estimation." She put that off for later in her mind. The friends nodded in agreement as Naruto responded, I think I can swing that along with visiting the bathhouse tonight as a small treat, along with a trip to Ichiraku." "Wait, Ichiraku again, Naruto. Why don't you come with us to Shushuya's before we join you at the bathhouse? We'll get a group discount and make the bill cheaper, plus I could use a good soak." Choji made the suggestion. Naruto said, "I don't see why not. What do you girls think?" With a smile on her face, Ran exclaimed, "I think we should join Ino-san and her team this evening. It sounds wonderful." "Yeah, some girl talk would put a nice cap on the night," Tsubasa said, giving her new acquaintance a wink. Kurumi drooled, Barbecue, Nano, yay, barbecue," exclaimed Nana before she became an angel. She was a puppy, so she had to eat meat. Mika said to the unfortunate blonde, "I'll feed you, Naruto-kun." This caused everyone to raise an eyebrow, Naruto to flush brightly, and the other girls to grit their teeth. "Well, since this place is an all-you-can-eat joint, we should do it, if only to let Kurumi stuff herself silly without breaking the bank," Tamami concurred. Choji's eyes brightened at the thought of a deserving opponent. He yelled, "Let's do this," and the others followed him as he hurried to the barbecue place. They were unaware that they had a furious person chasing them from the tree line. Sasuke growled as he started to pursue them, hoping to surprise them again. "I'm going to kill you, Dobi, you and those whores," he said. Konoha bathhouse. After a hearty dinner, the guys of Team 10 were just relaxing and having a great time in the hot springs. They weren't really thinking about anything as anticipated. Kurumi and Choji engaged in a culinary contest, matching each other plate for an hour or so. However, fatigue was setting in, and Kurumi was still going strong. Holy crap! Where does she store everything? He pondered wildly until he eventually passed out. Kurumi chirped happily, I win, Nano. Until everything she had eaten caught up with her as luck would have it. Ran was able to get her to the restroom before the levee broke. She moaned and held her stomach as she carefully sat down next to a faint Choji. "I'm back, Nano," she said. Evidently impressed, Shikamaru remarked, "Whoa, I didn't think I'd see anybody out eat Choji. Never mind a girl." Naruto ate like a horse after the others had stopped eating some time ago. Naruto Henge put two of his clones into wheelbarrows to transport their food-comed friends out of the establishment and down to the hot baths to bake off some of the food after they paid the bill. "This is where we are coming from." The boys were relishing the silence, but after a while a conversation began. "Hey, guys?" said Naruto. Shikamaru said, "Yeah? Did you guys ever have a pet that you saw as a best friend?" he inquired. Choji said, "Whoa, where'd that come from? Come on, guys, hum me." Naruto whimpered a little. Alright, I guess for me, it was this one deer that always eat out of my hands when I was really little. Just before the academy I would just sit and talk with it, and it wouldn't run away. I guess you could call it a friend," replied Shikamaru. Naruto inquired, "Did you name him or her?" "No, I didn't." Later on, that deer was taken to the slaughterhouse for dinner, one of the few that meet that fate. Because it wouldn't breed I got a little sad, but that was around the time I met Choji and you," Shikamaru responded, and then turned to Choji. He asked his portly friend, "How about you?" "Nah, never really did that." Choji looked at Naruto and gave an honest response. He said, "Well, Naruto, your turn." When Naruto told them about his friends, sparingly mentioning the Garden of Tears and the truth about the girls, they didn't expect to see the agonized, dejected expression on his face. He wanted no one to know where the garden was and to keep it safe. Even Shikamaru was feeling pretty bad about the entire situation by the end, but Naruto assured them that he was over it and that pouting over it would be an insult to their memory. "He's more powerful than he appears to be," Shikamaru thought. "What gets me, though, is why people did that to you," replied Choji. He cryptically said, "That I can't tell you, not yet." They were going to ask him more questions, but Naruto's expression warned them that it would be foolish to do so at this time. On the side of the girl, Kurumi in particular enjoyed soaking more than the other girls did. Her stomach ached, but the hot water helped due to Ran's fear of the water. They initially encountered some difficulties when Ino asked about it. She was told that it was a childhood trauma that she had purchased. Tsubasa clarified, "But, Ran, this is hot water, instead." Ran appeared to relax, and before they knew it, she was submerged up to her neck, enjoying a good soak alongside the others. Mika whispered, "Ah, goldfish are so gullible." The other angels concurred. "A goldfish? Is that some kind of inside joke?" Ino responded. As Tsubasa ribbed Mika, Tamami hurriedly clarified, "Oh yeah, heh. The bird girl hissed, "You idiot, be careful." "Yeah, so anyway, what's the attraction with Naruto? I can see that he's kind of cute in a way, but he can be a bit dense and immature sometimes. No offense," Ino asked. "None taken. He's not as dense as people think he is. He's just really lonely and always thought that his acting out would grab people's attention. He's actually really nice and he put everyone else ahead of himself. In fact, since Lady Tsunade asked him to put us up in his new house, he's gone out of his way to make us feel comfortable," Ran clarified, making Ino a bit reflective. I suppose so. Well, that's your business. He's a good enough guy, though, from what I've seen today." Ino shrugged away any more inquiries. The girls smiled at one another. For the time being, their secret was safe. The streets of Konoha. After taking their final baths, the group filed out of the bathhouse and onto the street. Shikamaru sighed, Choji trailing behind him. "Well, guess it's time to head out. My mom'll kill me if I'm not home soon. See ya." It was a fun night. All in all, it was nice getting in some girl talk for once and with an older girl. "Mika, I'm surrounded by males all the time. I have to work part-time at my parents' flower shop and I have almost no time to socialize with any of my civilian friends. Not to mention Sakura never speaks to me anymore. I'm a little lonely myself," Ino acknowledged. The rabbit girl added, "No prob. I'll come around to the flower shop every once in a while." The girls were delighted to have a friend here, and Naruto was pleased that they were forming friendships within the village. It would be much simpler to assist their master. Naruto and his group said their goodbyes and left for home. Kaden. Gukakyu. After evading the enormous fireball, Naruto and the girls turned to confront their assailant, only to discover Sasuke standing atop a nearby building, already preparing another jutsu. Kaden. How Senka. They were attacked by a barrage of fireballs, but Tamami was fast on the draw and had a spell ready. Enkosen. They were surrounded by a barrier of Reiki that prevented the fireballs from striking their target. Tamami, panting a little, released the barrier. She was exhausted from casting the defensive spell so fast, and as she keeled over, Mika charged up another spell, leaving her vulnerable. Naruto yelled, "Tamami-chan, and grabbed her before she could fall. "I'm alright master, just a little winded, I'll be fine," she clarified. Naruto and Tsubasa stepped forward ahead of the others, and Naruto nodded. Ran wasn't much of a fighter, and Kurumi wasn't really suited for battle however, because they had already trained. Naruto and Tsubasa weren't particularly prepared for battle, and Nana was too young to be involved in a major conflict. Although Mika was a skilled caster and her spells were powerful, she required time to remove them because her physical speed was no more than that of a typical girl. Things were starting to look bleak. "Sasuke, what the hell is your damage? You could have hurt them or started a fire," Naruto screamed. "Stop talking. You'll tell me how you became stronger than me," yelled Sasuke. "I don't really know, I just train really hard and fight for my friends. That gives me strength," Naruto replied with integrity. "You lie. Tell me now, or I'll beat it out of your horse," Sasuke cried, his Sharingan eyes blazing with rage. Mika barked, shaking with rage, "You bastard, take that back." "Make me," Sasuke shot back, diving down to confront them. As he and Tsubasa confronted Sasuke, Naruto commanded, "Mika-chan, stay back and protect the others. Nana-chan, stay back. This Teme won't think twice about killing you." Since Naruto was still exhausted, he was able to use his Sharingan freely. Even though normally his chakra would make it difficult, he was able to keep tabs on all of their movements and counter them. Even so, the two fought fiercely, and Sasuke was at least hurt by their combined attacks and the clones he controlled. "Ha, what the hell is the matter with you, Sasuke? You're more of an asshole than usual," Naruto screamed. With a Chidori forming in his hand and dark flame-like marks creeping up his arms and face, Sasuke gave them a menacing smirk. "Last chance, Dobi, tell me what I want to know, or you get to watch me gut these wenches," he grumbled. Naruto was horrified when Nana screamed, "You meanie, I'll beat you up." As she hurried towards Sasuke, Naruto took action because Sasuke's sick smile revealed exactly what he was going to do. "No. You bastard," yelled Naruto, pushing himself into Sasuke's path. With a sickening squelch, the Chidori made contact with Naruto's chest and narrowly missed his heart. Naruto was able to gasp out, "You be bastard won't let you," as Sasuke yanked him violently from his arm, causing him to drop to the ground, blood gushing from him. Ran yelled, "No, master," as she hurried to her fallen master and made a vain attempt to heal him. When the young angel saw her master being impaled and his blood splattering on her clothing, she almost suffered a traumatic event. Master," she said, her voice shaking as she entered a state of shock. Mika yelled, "Nana, Ran," in an attempt to alert them, but it was unsuccessful. She gritted her teeth and focused on casting the strongest spell she could. Sasuke asked her, momentarily exhausted from using the Chidori, "What are you doing?" Before he could respond, she leveled her palms at him and screamed, "Eat this," at the top of her lungs. Rake Ouhou, from her hands, a burst of unadulterated energy shot out, striking the Uchiha in the chest and sending him flying through a wall on the other side of the street. Her weariness and haste reduced the spell's potential yield. Even though it was normally a very destructive spell, she hit the ground hard, out like light, simply from the effort it took to force the spell out in her exhausted state. This kind of fight would garner a lot of attention, and it did. Thanks to Anko Midarashi, she arrived in time to witness a young girl hunching over a heavily bleeding figure, followed by other young girls huddled over the bleeding figure, while another young girl blasted the Uchiha with an unidentified jutsu. As she approached the downed individual who happened to be her favorite brata, she cried out, "What the hell is going on here?" Anko screamed in horror, "Oh my god, Naruto," and rushed to his side. It won't stop bleeding," cried Ran, frantically attempting to stop the blood from gushing from his skin. They heard a startling noise behind them as Sasuke broke free from the wall. Mika used his curse seal to shoot him with a blast that only stunned him. He would have been in a world of pain without that curse seal. Even with the yield decreased after a brief moment of hesitating, he began running directly toward his target with the intention of completing the task at hand. Jashusenei. A tiny swarm of snakes, most encircling Sasuke's waist and a few around his throat, stopped him cold in his tracks. He turned to see Snake Mistress furious. As she choked Sasuke to unconsciousness, Anko growled, "You little shit, if it weren't for my oath to uphold the law, I'd gut you slowly for what you just did." An Anbu group had approached and heard her scream. Neko, the captain, questioned Midarashi, "What has happened here?" until she noticed Naruto lying in a pool of blood. Herzing, "Who did this?" Disgusted, Anko said, "This little shit right here, just take him away before I gut him on the spot." She turned to one of her teammates and said to Anko, I will inform Hokage-sama immediately. Neko gave the order, and the Anbu followed it while she herself went to tell Tsunade, take Sasuke Uchiha straight to the holding cells and keep him under full guard. No one is to come near that cell except Hokage-sama herself. A moment later, as the weary group of girls huddled together, attempting to console one another after their first significant battle, a panicked Tsunade took over the task of healing Naruto. With as little volume as possible, Anko said, now can you tell me what happened here? Ran recounted the story from the time they first made contact with the Uchiha to that precise moment. We were coming out of the bathhouse and said goodbye to Ino-san and her team. We then walked down toward our house when Uchiha-san attacked us. Anko growled, startling the girls a little. That little bastard, I swear, that little bastard will get what he deserves. I'll kill the council myself if I have to. Ran questioned, Miss Anko, what are you to Naruto-kun? Even though they were exhausted, Mika and Tsubasa were eager to know this but were unable to ask the question. As they waited for Tsunade to heal Naruto sufficiently to allow him to be moved, Anko reminisced with the girls, sharing a few stories they were unaware of about him. I suppose you could say like big sister. You see, me and another woman, Hana Inuzuka, have been watching over him from time to time, and he sorta sees us as his big sisters. Because of it he kinda grew on us, you know? I was hard not to like him. Tsunade eventually stopped working on him. She fought back tears and rage as she said, I finally managed to stop the bleeding. We can move him to the hospital, now. The others merely followed her instructions, nodding and moving without protest or remark. Anko called in a Kage Bunshin to assist her in carrying Mika and Nana, while Tsunade personally transported her son to the hospital for additional care. It had all been witnessed by a quartet of shadows nearby. A rough, female voice asked her companions, so do you think that Chicken Shit Council will let that little turd off the hook? Lord Orochimaru told me that this pathetic village spoils the Uchiha brat rotten, so I think he'll be out with a slap on the wrists. Then we'll be free to spring our offer for him to join us. Let's wait a little longer. Another individual responded as they blended back into the trees. The others appeared to concur. The Kanaha Hospital. Tsunade hurried past the admission desk as she rushed through the hospital's doors, with one of the girls, Anko, following closely behind. The duty nurse yelled, Hey, get back here, without really noticing who had entered. As she and the girls went on, Anko yelled at her, back off, we have an emergency patient who's critical. Make yourself useful and get Shizune here now. While you're at it, get me a room for these two, as well. The nurse followed orders. Shizune, who was appalled by Naruto's gruesome wound, arrived in the OR a few minutes later. A fist-sized hole that ran straight through his chest had completely gored him. The Kyuubi are the only reason Naruto-chan is still alive. Only two people could have done this. Kakashi or someone else. For 6 months, Kakashi's chakra has been sealed off. Hold on. Sasuke, because of that fool Kakashi, he is also able to use the jutsu. This will be paid for by him. Though she was cautious to control her healing, the normally composed brunette thought angrily her younger sibling was depending on her. Anko waited for some sort of update on Naruto's condition outside with the girls and a newcomer named Hana Inuzuka. Despite being at least 6 years older than Naruto, she had identified herself as one of his friends and mentioned that she was one of the 3 living individuals who had ever seen the garden. With caution, Ran said, why, you mean you know about us? What do you mean by that? Perplexed, Anko inquired. She was confident that they could be trusted with Naruto because, according to the story, Tsubasa fought alongside him. Mika was in charge of embedding the Uchiha in the wall when she discovered them, and Ran attempted to heal him, possibly saving his life by keeping him alive until Tsunade arrived. She simply had no idea what they might be hiding. Fortunately, Tsunade and Shizune emerged from the operating room together. Naruto will have to tell you if he chooses to. It's his secret too, not just theirs. We want to limit the people that know about this to a select few that we know we can trust. Tsunade provided the girls with relief that satisfied Anko, Hana, and Shizune because Naruto had complete faith in them. Anko inquired, how is he? Kurumi repeated, yeah, how's he doing, Nano? Well, thanks to Ran's emergency treatment and a little extra help from within, he will make a full recovery. The other two are merely fatigued from both using up too much energy at once and from shock, but Nana will get better. I have a Yamanaka on the way to help her through the trauma. The lovely Sanin made the announcement to their relief. Dejectedly, Ran remarked, I didn't really do much, Lady Tsunade. On the contrary, my dear, it was you that kept him from bleeding out. Your healing was slowing down his blood loss long enough for me to get there. You are still young and will only continue to get better. Also, all of you girls worked well together against a highly dangerous opponent. Sasuke Uchiha is now in custody, pending a full court-martial. He will not be getting off lightly. Tsunade continued. Kurumi shivered at the memory and asked, what were those strange marks covering him? they felt dirty and evil. I can answer that he has what's called a curse seal. It acts like a drug, giving the bearer incredible power. But at a price. My old teammate was the one that created these seals, and he uses them to lure people to him for a taste of more power. The Uchiha craves power more than anything, and will do anything to get what he wants. A voice spoke from the window of the room. Tsunade inquired, Jiraiya, how long have you been here? As he noticed girls he had never seen before in the room, the Toad Sage said, long enough. Nice job with Hitaki's trial and with the council, but the Uchiha brat has gone too far. Curious, he asked, who are you? Tsunade persuaded him to back down by saying, Jiraiya, that is a story that only Naruto can tell you. Just take it from me that they can be trusted and that they actually saved his life tonight. Tamami said, well, who are you, sir? Jiraiya smiled broadly. Tsunade grabbed Jiraiya by the ear as he ranted, performing a strange little dance. I am the holy sage of Mount Myoboku. My name can hush a crying child, scare my enemies to death, and give the ladies a thrill. I am none other Dao. Hey Heim, Lego, Jiraiya exclaimed. Honestly, can't you be a little considerate for the patients in this hospital and in this room that are trying to rest? Tsunade asked. Jiraiya sulked and rubbed his poor, mistreated ear, saying, I'm sorry. Tsunade turned back to him and replied, allow me to introduce him properly. This is my old teammate Jiraiya. He is also Naruto's real sensei. Did you find out anything about what I asked? She inquired. He returned his focus to the current issue and said, yeah, I hit the mother lode, but I'll tell you later. If you want, I'll seal that Uchiha brat for you so he won't be a danger to anyone during his trial and so he can't escape, Jiraiya replied. Tsunade thanked her former teammate, saying, that's a good idea, thank you, Jiraiya. As he headed to the prison cell where the treasonous Uchiha was imprisoned, Jiraiya grinned and said, it's nothing, Heim, you saved my student's life, so we're even. The day after, Naruto had lost so much blood in one go that he was still unconscious in addition to going into shock. Not even the Kyuubi's chakra could heal such a wound so rapidly. The girls had spent the entire night at his bedside. Even dozing off there, a particular scroll started to tremble and fall out of Naruto's pouch while they were sleeping. It opened by itself and started to glow, exactly like it did when the other girls entered their world. Two figures appeared as a burst of blue light momentarily filled the room. The first girl was about 16 years old, had brown hair, and wore a turtle shell-shaped beret with green eyes and long, golden blonde hair tied back in a ponytail that resembled a fox's tail. The other girl was about Naruto's age. Her hair ribbon strangely resembled a fox's ears. With tears in their eyes, the new girls gathered around the bed to observe their injured master's battered condition. Their eyes grew even more tearful when he opened them slightly and groaned. Ooh, hggggg, where am I? Naruto asked blearily as his surroundings gradually returned to normal. The last thing he remembered was Sasuke trying to transform him into Shikabab like Uzumaki, so he felt his chest and frantically searched for the girls. The girls were safe. He discovered his bed was next to Nana's and Mika's, but they appeared fine. Everyone is safe. All 8 of Tama 8. For crying out loud? When did it start? Incredulously, Naruto thought. The girls bum rushed him because they couldn't wait any longer. Master! They exclaimed as they all gave him simultaneous embraces while shedding happy tears. With a sorrowful smile, she said, Master, it's me, Ayumi the turtle. Remember how you carried me around all the time? She treasured the times Naruto carried her to school on his shoulders, and she wouldn't exchange them for anything. Approaching him, the other girl showed her face. Akane's voice was shaking as she said, Master, please remember me, it's me, Akane the fox. I never forgot about you. I became an angel, so that I could see you one more time. Despite the fact that he was human and she was a vixen, she genuinely loved him. However, now that she was both his age and an angel in human form. Naruto questioned, Akane? The fox I found near Hokage Mountain? He had been most affected by her passing, almost becoming hostile toward his own community. If Gaara was any indication, it could be fatal for a Jinchuriki, particularly the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, to turn on their own village. Furthermore, he was just the Ichibi. As she did the same, he almost leapt out of bed and gave her a tight hug, afraid to let her go. She was the vixen that he secretly wished was human, and he was the human boy to whom she had given her heart when she was still a vixen. While Akane gave him a tight hug, Naruto almost broke down in tears. It's you, I missed you, Akane-chan. Me too, Master, I'll never leave your side again, Akane made a promise. When the other girls woke up, they discovered that more angels had joined them, and they explained that it was because of what had happened the night before. The other girls were shocked when Sasuke Uchiha's name was mentioned, and Akane and Ayumi were filled with rage. What about him makes you so angry? I mean, we all dislike him, but why is it that you seem to want him destroyed? Ran inquired. It's because he was one of the humans that killed me and took me away from Master Him and a feral-looking boy with facial markings. I remember that his name was Kiba. The fox girl burst into tears. Naruto was also still deeply imprinted with the memory as the terrible events of that night replayed in his mind. He could feel his anger mounting. Naruto snarled, "I haven't forgiven them even to this day. He also killed me. He threw me to the ground to try and kill me, but my hard shell prevented it. He wasn't satisfied, so he crushed me underfoot." The last things I saw were Master's heartbroken look and the cheering of a girl with pink hair along with that dreadful boy. Ayumi spoke to them with a steely voice. The other girls who knew Sakura knew exactly who she was referring to, despite their ignorance of Kiba. With the others nodding in agreement, Tsubasa growled, "So she's not only a vicious tramp, but also an accomplice to murder. I didn't kick her ass hard enough." The door abruptly opened, revealing an elderly man wearing a green vest and long, light blonde hair. "Lady Tsunade told me that there was somebody here that needed my services?" he inquired. Tsubasa and Akane approached Nana's bed and asked, "Who are you?" "Take it easy. Girls, I'm Inoichi Yamanaka, a mental therapist. I understand that the young one in the bed had quite a traumatic experience last night. Lady Tsunade briefed me about what happened and she asked me to come in and counsel her through it and if necessary, seal off the memory to help her cope," Inoichi clarified. When he explained that he was there to assist, the girls gave in and allowed him entry before applying a sleep jutsu to ensure that she would awaken with him still inside. He took her pulse and checked to see if her eyes would dilate, as a doctor would normally do. Because she didn't trust people, Akane asked in a hostile tone, "What was that for?" "I just needed to make sure she wouldn't wake up in the middle of what I'm about to do. I need to jump into her memories to see what happened, and if she woke up with me still in there, our minds would merge. My body would remain a vegetable while she would walk around with me within her for the rest of our lives. What she has seen will be used as evidence against the one that attacked you. She will be fine, I assure you," the mind jumper persuaded her. Ran calmed her down by saying, "Easy, Akane-chan, he's a nice human like Master and he's trying to help." Inoichi flipped through several seals, taking her retreat as a signal to begin. He jumped into her head and touched her forehead lightly before saying out loud, "Okay, little one, let's see just what happened last night." Anbu headquarters. A distraught Sakura was yelling at the Anbu guards to let her in as Jiraiya prepared to check in with the security desk and get admitted past the guards. "Jiraiya-sama, please, help me get in to see Sasuke-kun. I know he couldn't have done all of those awful things that we was accused of. Naruto's just being a loser," Sakura begged and wept. Jiraiya was sickened by the girl's delusions and not at all amused by how shamefully she was acting. Jiraiya narrowed his eyes and thought, "This is beginning to make me sick. Fangirls are like a blight to our shinobi ranks." As the guards allowed him entry without any issues, he told her sternly, "Why should I? I'm here to seal that little basket case's chakra so he won't be a threat when he stands trial." The sage turned to face Sakura as she screamed, "Why? Sasuke-kun doesn't deserve to be locked up. He needs you to train him, not that idiot Naruto." Jiraiya laughed, "And why should I do that? Are you gonna make me? Ooh, I'm so scared." She was made fun of. "I'll tell my father on you. He's on the council and he'll have you arrested. Then he'll force you to train Sasuke-kun and make that bitch of a Hokage train me instead of the red-haired slut," Sakura yelled. "You think that your daddy can make me do whatever he wants? Girl, you are delusional if you think a mere civilian can make me do what he wants. Also, who I teach is of no concern to an academy student or civilians, least of all a complete joke like you or a pompous ass like your father. Get out of here before I put you in a cell, too, for implying treason against the Hokage," the Toad Sage said in a stern tone. He turned to face a guard. Jiraiya gave the order, "Get her out of here. She doesn't belong here with the real ninjas. Anyway." The closest masked nin grabbed her arm roughly and pulled her out, making the Shibanshi scream the entire time. As he descended to Sasuke's cell, Jiraiya muttered, cracking his knuckles, "Okay, time to get to work." Bound in manacles that absorbed chakra, Sasuke Uchiha sat in his cell, pouting in a corner when he heard someone coming. Many members of the council had visited him while he was incarcerated and had promised to release him. A smug smile spread across his face as soon as he saw Jiraiya enter his cell. "So, they managed to spring me and even got one of the Sannin to train me. It's about time. Free me quickly and let's go. We have training to do," Sasuke said. The wannabe Avenger was greatly disturbed when Jiraiya and the two Anbu just looked at one another and laughed out loud. Sasuke insisted, "What's so funny?" Jiraiya responded, still giggling a little, "Kid, I'm not here to free you or train you. I'm just here to apply seals to keep you under control until your trial tomorrow." Sasuke tried to flee after being released from his manacles so that he could be sealed, but Jiraiya was prepared for this and punched him in the stomach, knocking him unconscious. What? I need training to kill my brother. This village owes me. They can't put me on trial. I am a Uchiha. An Uchiha is the law, he screamed. As he started the sealing procedure, Jiraiya muttered, "Stupid little bastard, that's not gonna look good in court." He even roped off the curse seal to prevent him from using it to defeat the bloodline seal, the physical seal, and the chakra restriction seal. When Sasuke woke up and attempted to channel his chakra, he was shocked beyond belief when he was unable to activate either his Sharingan or the curse seal. The entire process took just under 2 hours. His voice was filled with fear and panic as he asked, What did you do to me?" Jiraiya told him bluntly, "I sealed you up so that we can proceed with the trial tomorrow." Sasuke yelled at the Sannin, "For what? That Dobi was only a nuisance and people would have thanked me for killing him." Instead, a monkey-masked Anbu shoved Sasuke back into his cell and said, "Murder is murder. Uchiha-san, you were lucky that your arresting officer, Anko Midarashi, didn't kill you on the spot as was within her authority." As he departed, the sage gave the guards instructions, and they nodded in agreement before going about their duties. "Keep him sedated until I come to pick him up for the trial tomorrow, and make sure that his little escape attempt finds its way into his conduct file. This issue will be addressed. Once the news spreads, this is going to blow the hornet's nest. Heim will have a difficult time with the council, as if their betrayal wasn't bad enough. Nevertheless, my godson was the wrong target for that little punk. He even believed he could get away with almost killing another shinobi." As he made his way back up to the main area of Anbu HQ, Jiraiya thought, "I hope he'll rot in jail. He's becoming too much like Orochimaru, and I'll be damned if another one like him arises." He was on his way to tell Tsunade that Sasuke Uchiha was being prepared for trial. Home of Haruno. Sakura stormed into her family's home and went to find her father. She was furious that one of the Sannin had her escorted out of the building and that she was not permitted to visit her crush in jail. She was going to exact revenge on him and everyone who had obstructed her path. Sakura yelled, "Daddy! Where are you?" into the lengthy corridor. Her mother, Kimi Haruno, immediately responded, "Sakura, what is it and why are you shouting?" Sakura sneered at her mother, making her wince. "I wasn't talking to you, I want Daddy," she said. Kimi genuinely cared for her daughter and made an effort to guide her. She missed being the kind young child she had been before her obsession with the last Uchiha started, and her husband had only made it worse. She was also one of the few individuals who knew the Yondaime personally. She also knew that Kushina was the former Kyuubi Jinchuriki, so she knew he wasn't the demon he held, and she made an effort to comply with his request that Naruto be treated like a hero since he appeared to be a generally good boy. She attempted to persuade Sakura to at least treat him civilly, but her husband was adamantly opposed. With their unfounded hatred, Atsugi Haruno joined the rest of the village's madness. He took their daughter with him and used his inherited position on the civilian to do everything he could to make the young Jinchuriki miserable. When he discovered that his daughter was in Naruto's class, he instructed her to cause him as much pain as possible and to continue pursuing the Uchiha heir in order to obtain a Uchiha child and strengthen his position in the council. The night this all began, Kimi and her husband got into a furious argument. Kimi screamed at him to stop interacting with Naruto and to keep their daughter away from his self-centered plans, but he silenced her with a slap across the face. If she wanted to continue seeing his daughter, he warned her to keep her distance and threatened to treat her harshly if she reacted angrily. She remained silent for years, but she was internally torn by the life Naruto had endured and the insensitive, egotistical, violent person her daughter had become, as someone who would harm even those who tried to protect and assist her. As Naruto has repeatedly done, she was aware that he kept a variety of pets, and in an attempt to make him feel less alone, she gave him a baby turtle at the Kyuubi festival that he sneaked into. After pushing past her mother, Sakura stormed into her father's office, interrupting a business meeting with his secretary. As the two rushed to get dressed, she marched straight up to him, seemingly unconcerned. "Sasuke-kun's been thrown in jail. Some idiot named Jiraiya sealed him up and now he's going to prison. Do something, Daddy," Sakura wept. Atsugi screamed, "What? How did this happen?" Something that Baka Naruto did made Sasuke-kun mad and Sasuke-kun beat him up, but he got arrested for it. Sakura responded to the question. "I don't think so, Akemi. Alert the rest of the council and tell them to meet me at the Hokage's office. We'll show her just WHO runs this village," said Atsugi. The young woman said, "Yes, Haruno-sama," before putting her skirt back on and rushing out the door. Returning to Konoha Hospital, Inoichi had just completed his investigation into Nana's mind and had gathered all the evidence he needed to convict Sasuke of attempted and premeditated murder of a fellow Konoha shinobi. However, he discovered additional memories in her mind, such as her time spent with the goddess in heaven and her time as a puppy living with Naruto in an attempt to protect her. He helped Nana get over the shock of witnessing her master almost die in front of her, but he kept it all to himself until he could speak with Lady Tsunade privately later. As he released the sleep jutsu and assisted the puppy girl in sitting up, Inoichi urged her, "Okay, here we go, upsy daisy." Dealing with Nana was made easier by the fact that he was accustomed to handling girls because he had his own daughter. Nana said, "Aya, is master gonna be okay?" Inoichi comforted the girl as he got up to go, but Akane stopped him. "Yes, Naruto is fine and he woke up earlier this morning now. Remember that this is in no way your fault. The one who attacked you was at fault and he cared enough to protect you. Just remember that fact and everything will be fine." The fox girl turned away and said, Thank you for helping her, I mean." As he exited the room, he yelled, "You're welcome now. I must be on my way to present what happened last night to Lady Tsunade. Good day to you all." Akane asked Nana, "Are you sure you're okay? He didn't do anything to you, did he?" "Yeah, he was a nice human and he's a daddy, too. His daughter looks just like he does," Nana replied. "Wait, his last name was Yamanaka? That was Ino-san's father?" Ran gasped. Tsubasa agreed as Mika pondered, "Really? I'm going to have to visit Ino really soon and thank them for this." Tsubasa went on, "Yeah, we really owe them one. The girls had allied themselves with a shinobi family that was friendly, and perhaps more. After all, things were starting to improve." Hokage Tower Tsunade was still considering how to handle the council when the issue surfaced and the Elder Council and Civilian Council stormed into her office with furious expressions on their faces. She was gazing out her window and over the village below. "Tsunade, we have been informed that Sasuke Uchiha has been unlawfully imprisoned and sealed by your teammate. We demand that you set him loose this instant," Kaharu exclaimed. Tsunade's eyes narrowed as she asked, "Who told you this?" A voice from the window said, "I bet that little Haruno tramp told her father and he told everyone else." Jiraiya, the voice's owner, had just returned from doing the sealing in question. He swiveled his head to look down at the council. "I sealed that little brat and his bloodline because he was a threat to everyone around him. A loose cannon. He tried to commit murder, but was caught red-handed by a member of our I&T division and he was arrested when I tried to apply the seals. He attempted to escape from the Anbu lockup. If you have a problem with that, too bad. There are laws for a reason and your days of casually bending them are over," Jiraiya told them boldly, defiantly raising. "Enough of this nonsense, Tsunade. We have voted and it is unanimous that Sasuke Uchiha be released this instant to resume his training," Danzo said. "Are we trying to order the Hokage around? That may have worked on Sensei, but it won't work on me. I am not scared of you, nor am I afraid of taking drastic measures to ensure that you are sufficiently brought to heal. My Sensei was a forgiving man, but I am very different from him. I do not make idle threats," Tsunade stated. Atsugi Haruno demanded to know, "Are you trying to undermine the authority of the council?" "We didn't undermine anything. Sasuke Uchiha attacked civilians without cause and nearly killed a fellow shinobi that tried to stop him. You should be thankful that Anko remembered her duty, or there wouldn't be any Uchiha left for you to kiss up to," Jiraiya spoke up. "The snake wench. We should have stripped her of her shinobi status a long time ago, but that fool Sarutobi prevented that," Danzo spit. "Anko is a loyal kunoichi who has laid her life on the line many times for our village, as well as rooting out several spies. You won't be calling her into question," Tsunade said. Danzo narrowed his good eye in suspicion and said, "Wait a moment, who is the one that was attacked?" A group of girls that had recently come to the village had been attacked, but one Naruto Uzumaki saved their lives by taking a chidori, an assassination jutsu, through the chest. He barely staved off death and is now recovering under Anbu guard in a private location. The girls in question are under my personal protection and are off limits to you," Tsunade responded with coolness. "I get it, since it was your favorite that was attacked, you did this out of spite," said Kaharu. "I did nothing that I wouldn't do to any other criminal, and Naruto risked his life for theirs in an act of courage. The trial will proceed as planned now. I have other business to attend to, so leave my office immediately," Tsunade gave the order. Kaharu threatened, saying, "We won't forget this outrage, rest assured of that." With his body ready to attack at any time, Jiraiya asked, "Are we planning something against the Hokage?" "N number. Nothing like that," was Homura's precipitous response. Tsunade yelled, "Then get out," which caused them to cower and run. Tsunade asked Jiraiya, settling into her chair, "How could Sensei have let things get so bad?" Jiraiya attempted to reassure his former teammate, but even he was doubtful at best. "I don't really know," I don't suppose we'll ever know, but have taken the first steps to fixing his mistakes. I just hope that we can keep tabs on them enough to prevent them from stabbing us in the back. Abruptly, there was a knock on the office door. Tsunade commanded, "Enter," in a weary and worn-out tone. Inoichi declared, "It's me, Lady Tsunade. I have the results of the mind dive on the girl." The weary Hokage sighed, "Finally, I hope that the evidence is conclusive." "It seems as though the girl saw everything and it's all admissible as evidence," Inoichi stated to her. Tsunade told him, "Good, write out a full report of your findings and submit it to me within the hour." As he hurried off to gather his findings into a comprehensive report, the mind jumper responded, "At once, Lady Tsunade." This wouldn't take long because the evidence was so clear-cut. Asking her former teammate, "Now that we're alone, tell me what you found out." "I found out that there are more people out there that are searching for the Jinchuriki other than the Akatsuki. Nearly all that have met them has been either hacked to death, stabbed to death, or ripped to shreds. They were last seen headed for Rain Country carrying a large egg-like stone with them, and that was where my contacts lost them. However, we do know that they are actively hunting the Jinchuriki," Jiraiya stated gravely. To calm herself, Tsunade gingerly pulled out one of her secret bottles of sake and took a sip. "A new group hunting those like Naruto-chan down. Over my dead body." Tsunade rasped she would personally show them what she thought of their plans if they ever traveled to Konoha to look for him. "These three are dangerous. Some of those killed were Junin level and looked like they had been fed into a shredder. I have descriptions of them, along with candid pictures that at least show what they look like. We could put them into the bingo book as a rank threats," Jiraiya responded. As Inoichi returned to the office with his complete report and Sasuke's psychoanalysis records, Tsunade said, "Take that intelligence to the Anbu HQ and tell them to get cracking on it. If they come for him, I'd like some advance warning if that is done. Let's get ready for the trial. I want it to be a full military panel. Since this is a shinobi matter, I want Shikaku Nara, Ibiki Morino, and Inoichi Yamanaka to join the panel with me. The recent genin is a jury of his peers that should keep those sycophants on the council from complaining. Lady Tsunade, I have the full report along with the Uchiha's psych evals for the past few years. It seems as if mental help has been readily available. He has refused it at every turn. Every time that this issue has come up, the council glossed over it. This negligence, coupled with his unauthorized encounter with Itachi, has all but destroyed his mind," Inoichi continued. Tsunade combed through her hair with her fingers. Had her sensei let a shinobi with mental instability run loose? How could he have been thinking? Tsunade instructed him to present this as an opening argument and we'll work from there. Inoichi nodded before turning to go, but then he recalled what he wanted to discuss with her. "Lady Tsunade, one more thing. That girl, I saw some strange things in her memories, but I wanted to tell you before anything else. Apparently, those girls with Naruto aren't human. They were all once pets that Naruto once had, but they transmigrated after their death into spiritual beings of some kind," Inoichi continued. Jiraiya laughed, but his laughter was interrupted by Tsunade's grave expression. "Are you serious, Inoichi? Are you sure you didn't look into a daydream that the little one was having or anything?" Jiraiya asked without a word. She activated the science barrier in the office and flashed through a series of seals. Jiraiya was deeply troubled by her behavior and questioned, What's wrong?" With the exception of the garden, Tsunade told the two of them everything. "What you saw was no daydream. You saw what those girls really are. She and Naruto had a trusting relationship that she wouldn't trade for anything. Given his extensive presence around Naruto and his role as the boy's godfather, it was preferable to tell Inoichi the truth before he came to his own conclusions, and Jiraiya discovered something he had to know." Tsunade sighed as she concluded the story. She needed to emphasize that this information was to be kept confidential and that her disclosure to them was a one-time event, even though she knew she could trust them. "That boy has suffered more than anyone else I've ever seen or heard of, and he, for the love of Kami, he still has the capacity to love. If this information gets out, the council stop at nothing to target those girls. Orochimaru will try to kidnap them to experiment with them. I'll personally kill anyone that endangers them." "Anyone?" the blonde Sanin promised, her key growing oppressive. "There was no need to threaten us. If this makes the kid that happy, then it can't be a bad thing. Like you said, that kid suffered enough, and this was probably Kami's way of making things up to him," Jiraiya responded. "I agree with him. I think we should just leave him alone and keep this a secret. My time in that girl Nana's head tells me that as long as we leave him alone, they'll be fine," Inoichi concurred. As they parted ways for the day, the stunning Sanin remarked, "Good, let's keep things this way now. I believe we all have business to take care of." Next to the Amegakure border, a well-known trio had just dropped their cargo close to a hill outside the Rain Village after completing a patrol of Aim Nin. Guy of the Byako grumbled, "What are we doing here in this Kami forsaken place?" In an irritated tone, Rei of the Suzaku added, "Yes, I was wondering the same thing, brother, that and why we had to lug Big Brother's stone all the way here from Fire Country." The whimpering of his younger brothers made Shin of the Genbu sigh. "We needed to bring him here to awaken him. There is a strong spiritual presence here that can aid us in raising him from his sleep," Shin clarified. The other two shrugged as they set the stone down and formed a circle around it, saying, "Oh, we forgot." As the earth itself started to rumble, Shin chanted, "Hear our call, Seryu the Blue Dragon. Awaken from your slumber so that we might regain our powers and get the revenge on the humans that we have waited for since eons long forgotten." The egg-like rock emitted an unsettling blue light. A supernatural force poured out of it in the form of a ghostly blue dragon that was rising toward the sky. As it cracked and opened with a dazzling light flashing from its point of impact, it crashed back down, leaving a huge 30-foot crater in its wake. A tall, muscular man wearing a blue robe stood in the center of the crater. He had strange eyes, one crimson red and the other crystal blue, and his hair was completely black. "The time has come for us to take charge again, my brothers," the man replied. Guy shuddered as he and his brothers bowed to their oldest brother, Big Brother Go. "We must begin our hunt for the 9 Biju immediately," Go stated. "My brother, we have an obstacle in our way. An organization of shinobi called the Akatsuki have been actively hunting the Biju, as well," Shin shared. "Really? What are their motives for doing so?" Go inquired. "That is unknown, but their search carries on as we speak. But we have managed to gain information on its members. They are all extremely powerful shinobi and work in pairs. The closest at hand is the Kyubi, but it is sealed within a vessel," Rei stated to him. Before turning back to his brothers, Go growled, "Oh, a Jinchuriki? These blasphemous humans know no shame, thinking they can harness a demon's power." He insisted, "Where is the Kyubi vessel located?" Shin told his leader and oldest brother all the information he could find. "In Fire Country, a shinobi village called Konohagakure. The vessel's name is Naruto Uzumaki. A shinobi of that village. It seems like all of the Biju are contained within vessels. This boy is one. There is another in Wind Country, 2 in water, 2 in earth, 2 in lightning, and the last is in waterfall. Of all the arrogant, come we head for Fire Country first." Go's cloak billowed behind him as he gave order without even questioning his command. His brothers just jumped in behind him. A figure emerged from the ground a few yards away, resembling a flower with a demonic appearance, with a black cloak, red clouds, and what looked like a Venus flytrap emerging from the collar. The figure's face was half black and half white. "This is interesting," Black pondered hard-heartedly. As it sank back into the earth to alert its master, the white half agreed, "Indeed, we must inform Lord Pain of this development." The spy was asked by Pain, "Are you certain, Zetsu?" "Yes, Lord Pain," replied Black half. "We have confirmed that their targets are indeed the Jinchuriki and that they are headed for Fire Country right now." The white half is done. As the Akatsuki leader asked, "What more do you know of them? Are they shinobi?" "We do not think so, but they are still very powerful. The one in blue seems to be the leader and the strongest. They derive their monikers from the 4 guardian spirits." In order to decide what to do, Pain considered this idea for a while. At last, he responded to his spy. As Zetsu dug into the ground to fulfill the orders, Pain gave the order, "Go to Fire Country and find Kisame and Itachi. Tell them to intercept these so-called saint beasts and find out what they really want with the Biju. I will be sending Deidara and Sasori to back them up in case they are hostile. Go quickly and do not fail me." Pain asked himself out loud, just who are these saint beasts and what do they hope to accomplish? A week later, the village still hasn't completely calmed down after the long week since the attack. The fact that the girls lived with Naruto made it difficult for them to go out in public very often, but the public's anger was directed primarily at Naruto. Sarutobi was essentially helpless to stop the civilian council from threatening to keep quiet about anyone Sasuke had wronged for a while. The last person to do so in public was blacklisted by almost all of the village's businesses and was currently homeless after he and his family were evicted from their home by the real estate office on a claim they have spent the last 3 years living under a tarp in the slums not far from his apartment location. They were used as a model for people who refused to follow the council's dictates. The council was now being challenged by the Hokage herself, who employed far more force than Sarutobi. Tsunade was notoriously irritable, and her political interactions between villages reflected this. In swift retaliation for their beloved Uchiha being imprisoned, the civilian society was closing in on Naruto and his friends, preventing them from entering any supermarket or stall. When Tsunade visited his home, she saw that the pantry was empty and inquired as to what was wrong. She chose to accompany them under Naruto's henge after Tamami told her about the events in the village. When they approached the first store, the owner used a meat cleaver to try to eject them, but Tsunade, Naruto refused to move. Several sneering individuals, some brandishing crude weapons like kitchen knives and pipes, were involved in the scene after the owner screamed at her until he was blue in the face. They were all yelling at him to give in to his desires and allow the Uchiha to kill him and the girls. They should fuck off, she said. Using a carving knife, one of the villagers bravely attempted to slay the demon by slashing her in response. She essentially pushed him into the next zip code before destroying the store completely. She released the henge and made herself known to the public, causing the villagers to cower away from her and mutter apologies as they prepared to attack the girls as well. We're sorry, Lady Tsunade. We didn't know it was you, they begged. Nevertheless, their entreaties only made her angrier. Stow it. Your apologies are wasted on the wrong person, you groveling swine. That boy saved my life and all of yours, as well. I will not hear of any of you trying to make his life harder than it already is, or there will be consequences, she told them straight up. The villagers were restrained after that incident and, at the very least, ignored him even though he was being ignored. It was still much better than the previous situation now. The council has been negotiating and attempting to move the trial date back ever since Sasuke was put in the slammer for his unprovoked assault and attempted murder for a few days. It worked, but on the fourth day, Tsunade had enough and physically threw them out of her office. She shouted at them from her door before slamming it shut. The brat goes on trial in 2 days' time. No more of your bullshit stalling. Konoha courtroom. The court-martial of Sasuke Uchiha was in a packed house. The fact that the Kyuubi child saved them and detained the Uchiha long enough for the Anbu to come and capture him startled the many shinobi who had come to witness the last scion of the Uchiha family being brought to justice for attacking a group of girls who were the Hokage's guests. When they learned that Naruto had used a deadly jutsu on one of the girls, their opinion of him improved significantly. They reasoned that he wasn't as horrible as they believed him to be if he was prepared to sacrifice his life to keep them safe. However, the situation on the civilian side was very different, though some people changed their minds after hearing the news and did some introspection. His willingness to sacrifice himself by being impaled through his chest by a notoriously deadly jutsu technique in order to save those defenseless girls had a way of winning over some hearts and minds. After that, it was revealed that their own container had actually defeated the Suna Jinchuriki. He battled Gaara head-to-head and even called forth the powerful Gamabunta, a creature they hadn't seen since the Yondaime was still alive. Only if he was trained by Jiraiya himself and he gave the boy the toad contract would he be able to summon Gamabunta. The others were your typical maniacs, screaming sycophants, and psychos who were out for blood. Even Tsunade was unable to deny Sasuke legal counsel because the council had sprung for a slick lawyer to defend him. The man, Kishi Tadakoro, turned to the panel and gave the council a cocky thumbs up. Sakura sat with the other civilians, waiting to see what would happen to her beloved Sasuke, while her mother sat across from her, her husband mocking her. Ibiki Morino pushed Tatsugi Haruno away as he attempted to sit on the panel, growling, "I'll see to her later." He snarled at the interrogator, "You common dog. Know your place," which turned out to be a terrible idea when the boogeyman of Konoha is on duty. You don't sneer at him and get away with it. Grabbing the smaller man by the collar, he raised him until their gazes locked. The cocky councilman was chilled to the bone by his gloomy gaze. With a tone that was both calm and murderous, and with enough ki to frighten the Shinigami, Ibiki responded, "This is a military court. Marital, you and the rest of the civilian council have no place here. Now leave." Inoichi, the psychoanalyst, and Shikaku, the Junin commander, pushed him away as he threw the man aside and proceeded to take his place on the panel. Homura yelled, "What is the meaning of this?" But an Anbu cut him off. The cat-masked Anbu calmly returned to her position and said, "Take your seats in the gallery. This trial is outside of your authority." Shizune entered the doors, signaling that it was finally time to start. As Tsunade herself entered and sat down on the panel, she commanded, "All rise for the Honorable Hokage, Lady Tsunade Senju." She told them to be seated. Tsunade ordered, "Bailiff, please bring in the accused." Asuma Sarutobi, the bailiff, escorted the young man into the courtroom at her beckoning. As soon as Sasuke was positioned on the stand, he assumed his position while the court-martial began. "Boundaries of the Northwestern Fire Country," Ray complained. "Finally we're here in Fire Country." Guy whimpered, "I know I'm starving," Shin warned. "Will you two pull yourselves together, already?" Geez, but it was enough to make Go angry. Go yelled at his brothers, "Enough of your weak chatter. We come here for one purpose only." But someone else interrupted. Itachi Uchiha asked in a toneless voice, "And what purpose would that be?" With Samahada resting on his shoulder and prepared to use it if necessary, Kisame remarked, "So these guys are the ones ripping up our informants and anyone in their way, eh? You don't look too tough to me." The Saint Beasts studied the ones in front of them. Black cloaks with red clouds, you must be members of the Akatsuki. You will not stop us from regaining our former powers as the gods of all animals. Once we have all of the Biju, we will rid the world of you human filth and return it to its full splendor once again, Go stated. Itachi replied icily, fool, we will not hand over that which we desire so easily. Yeah, alright. I was itching for a fight. Kisame chuckled as he prepared to tear these attractive boys to pieces with his Samahata. Guy slashed at Itachi with his claws, closing the gap in a near eye blink when Shin launched his Genbu Shard attack in response. Itachi kicked him aside and easily avoided it thanks to the Mangekyo as he retreated to get a better sense of his opponents. A swift Kawarimi ensured his safety. The monster of the mist and his enormous sword kept Rei at bay as he jumped high into the air and descended with blinding speed and crushing force using his talon feet. He was then batted aside but still had to deal with Go and his tremendous physical strength. In order to even the playing field, Kisame quickly used a Suidan Jutsu to slow down the furious Go once they were distracted. He used a Mizu Bunshin. Go was stunned when Kisame swung his blade down to crush him, but he managed to catch it with his bare hands and was about to overwhelm him, but he had a plan. He ripped the flesh from Go's hands as he swiftly and violently yanked the Samahata from his grasp. The furious Seryu yelled, Og! You miserable humans, I'll kill you all. But before he could turn Kisame into a chum, an explosion broke out between them. On top of one of his clay birds, Deidara descended onto the battlefield, and Sasori also leapt off. Deidara joked, having trouble, as his puppet body landed with its lethal scorpion tail up. Sasori yelled, Deidara, stop fooling around and let us take care of these fools. Go called out to his brethren, who responded, more of you human filth. I'll eradicate you all. Brothers, kill them all. As Shin tangled with Deidara, Guy stepped in to engage Sasori. Kisame was now facing Rei once more, and Itachi was now facing Go. The tail was so swift that it grazed Guy's neck when he first tried to claw his way into what he thought was the actual body. After a short while, he started to feel the effects of the lethal venom, which caused him to slow down and started to lose his vision. The Byakko repeatedly leapt in, dealing more damage to his opponent's body until it had to retreat, stalling the poison's effects as long as possible. Shin fired salvo after salvo of his Genbu shards at the Mad Bomber of Iwa, but his vision was further obscured when he struck clay clones that would explode. A tiny army of clay spiders emerged from the smoke and dust, some of them landing on Shin's sleeve and exploding. Imparing his left arm, he overcame the pain, though, and fired another precisely placed salvo that struck the real Deidara, bringing them both to a halt. Kisame was sick of wasting his chakra trying to shoot the Birdman out of the sky because he was too fast to get a clean shot, while Rei was flapping above his opponent, trying to find a way past that evil sword he wielded. Rei, finally tired of avoiding, swooped in from above once more but stopped just in time, disrupting Kisame's timing and scoring a hit. In response to the Sharkman's deep, goring wound on his shoulder, he shaved several layers of flesh off Rei's right leg. Itachi was struggling to keep avoiding Go as he tried to launch a counterattack, but Go was charging in like a raging bull, a very fast raging bull. He was stuck trying to wear him down with minor wounds from various thrown weapons and smaller jutsu, like the Hausenka, peppering him with fireballs while he was moving because he wanted to save his Sharingan jutsu for a dire emergency and not waste them. At last, he believed his opponent was sufficiently weak to try the Tsukuyomi. He felt the pull and made eye contact, but nothing came of it. It's impossible. He was unaffected by the Tsukuyomi. As he tried to think of a strategy, he thought, we underestimated them. Itachi glanced around at his fellow members and saw that they were all injured to differing degrees, and their enemies, though also injured, did not appear to be getting tired anytime soon. He gestured for Deidara to make a hasty getaway as Itachi, Sasori, and Kisame kept the others occupied. He received the message and took out a big chunk of clay. They still needed a diversion, but Deidara had enough time to create a larger than normal clay owl. After a moment for the task, Itachi had the perfect jutsu, Amaterasu. Between them and their assailants, the black flames roared to life, stopping their advance. As he tried to continue the chase, Guy yelled, come on, they're getting away. But Go grabbed him by the collar. Those flames are not normal. They would have burned you to a cinder. There will be other chances to kill them, but in the meantime, we must change our target since he is guarded quite heavily, he said as he glanced at Shin. Go inquired, where is the next Biju located? He looked at his map and said, the nearest ones are located to the north in Earth Country. They are the 4 and 5-tailed spirits respectively. As they headed for a border town to locate an inn, he gave the order, okay then, after we recover from this battle, we set out for Earth, then. The 4 members of Akatsuki surveyed the situation aboard Deidara's clay owl. They had severely underestimated their opponents and suffered the consequences, but they were able to postpone them to a certain extent. As the others merely nodded, Deidara remarked, "Leader won't be happy about this," and withdrew the shards from his shoulder. They were on their way back to the Akatsuki base to personally deliver the news. Going back to Konoha, Sasuke had just concluded his statement, or rather, his tirades and self-serving defenses. The jury was not pleased because they shared the panel's belief that he was lying to them and that the charges would be dropped if his name was used. The fact that Tadakoro was as charming as an eel when he stood to speak for his client and his character didn't help either. You see, Lady Hokage Sasuke Uchiha is a model citizen who, in not way, shape or form, deserves to be treated in such a manner. It is very clear that these girls are merely jilted fangirls that want some form of revenge against my client, and they had contracted the help of the Uzumaki to help in an elaborate plot to frame him. He clarified, his smirk never leaving his face. Inoichi questioned, his eyes narrowed with barely contained contempt for this ridiculous lawyer. Is that so? He asked. Inoichi's tone betrayed his lashing of the man's greasy manner. Then, you won't mind if we bring in the victims of your client's attack, will you? After all, if he never did anything, then they won't have a mark to show for it, will they? He asked. They then called in the crime victims to demonstrate the extent of their injuries, as well as Nana's medical and mental health reports. Because of her mental trauma and shock, many people gasped when Naruto was asked to take off his jacket to reveal the will that the Chidori had left behind. That was the real zinger by all accounts. He should have died that night, so it was a stroke of luck that he was the demon's vessel. One juror, though, had a different idea. Who is that attractive blonde with the dobi? Looking at Akane, Kiba thought, I think I'll help myself after the trial. Not like the dobi's in any shape to do anything about it with the shape he's in. She happened to see him and had to be restrained to prevent her from tearing him to pieces. Tadakoro stood and expressed his opinion about the state of affairs. This is preposterous. My client had nothing to do with these injuries. How do we know that he didn't inflict them on himself and those girls? He claimed. These medical reports don't lie, as well as accounts from the one that apprehended him, one Anko Midarashi and Anbu Team 4. On top of that, after Sasuke Uchiha had been taken into custody and placed in an Anbu cell, he tried to escape but was stopped by Jiraiya-sama when he was on his way to apply chakra restrictive seals on the Uchiha to prevent such a thing from happening. He has now proven himself to be a flight risk counselor. Tadakoro, do you have anything to say to these facts, or will we have to go even further? You know there are penalties for lying to the jury and covering up the truth? Ibiki stated, his cold tone nearly making the corrupt lose bladder control. He stumbled, number further questions. Then, as she slammed the gavel down, Tsunade declared, the court will have a 10-minute recess in which to decide a verdict. The civilian counsel bombarded the defendant's stand with questions as the court went into recess. Homura hissed, how could you let them do this? What was I supposed to do? That brat is guilty as sin and they know it. They have mental files, psyche reports, medical reports from the Hokage herself, and Kami only knows what else. I won't let you drag me down with him. If I get caught lying in a military tribunal, death is the best damn thing that'll happen to me. He responded with a scream of fear when recess was announced. When everyone had recovered from the brief break, the trial resumed, and the jurors were summoned back to deliver their verdict. Ibiki yelled, please rise for the verdict. On cue, jury foreman Uruka got to his feet. Lady Tsunade, we, the jury, have unanimously found Sasuke Uchiha guilty of 10 counts of assault and 7 counts of attempted murder, as well as attempting to escape from his holding facility. We recommend the maximum sentence be placed upon him, to serve as a reminder that clan status is nothing in the eyes of the law. Haruka said with a stone mask on his face. The verdict's outcome left the audience in stunned silence while the rest of their supporters were prepared for a riot. The Civi Council members were quietly fuming over the outcome. The others had grown accustomed to this development. If Sasuke believed that they bought his line of nonsense, he had shamelessly and blatantly lied to them and insulted their intelligence. They were aware that such offenses would carry severe penalties. However, Sakura simply would not accept no. Before the guards could apprehend her, she leapt over the railings and attempted to make one final plea to Naruto in front of everyone. As she pulled on his jacket and made a big show of it, she cried out, please, don't do this. I'll do anything you want. Anything you could think of. I'll even give my virginity to you. Just please don't send Sasuke-kun to jail. Naruto wasn't amused by how far she was taking this. His expression was one of disdain as he yanked his jacket from her grasp after everything she had done. Did she have the audacity, the gall, to try to win him over? I don't fucking think so, he growled in his head. Why should I? That asshole tried to kill me and several innocent people that night, and all you can think about is yourself? On top of all that, You think that offering yourself to me like some hooker will change my mind? Go away, damn you. You had your chance to be nice when all I did was give. I gave everything to you and Sasuke, but what did I get? He nearly killed me and my friends, and all you do is make things worse. Naruto snarled at her, causing her to. She made another attempt to pretend to have feelings for her that were no longer there. Naruto. Please, I mean it. Do this for me? This one little thing? The girls returned this time, and Ayumi approached. The brown-haired turtle girl and Akane gave Sakura a glare that could melt steel as they asked, "Is there a problem, Naruto-kun?" Without taking his stern eyes off the girl with the pink hair, Naruto answered, "Yeah, this piece of garbage right here." Sakura sighed, "What's their problem?" They were all taken aback by what happened next. Akane swiftly slammed her in the stomach and knocked her to her knees. "That was for vengeance. You helped to kill someone close to Naruto-kun and you had it coming. That is our problem." Akane growled at her. "Cough wh, what did I do? I didn't kill anybody," she exclaimed, causing Ayumi to drop to her knees. As they left her there, the turtle girl hissed in her ear, "Yes, you helped that Uchiha slime kill me all those years ago and now I'm back." Kimi Haruno was particularly surprised to hear the last part because she had been listening to the entire thing while her husband was yelling bloody murder. She walked around the railing and picked up her daughter. Atsugi yelled at the top of his lungs, pointing to Naruto, "You see? These animals just attacked my sweet, innocent daughter. They're the guilty ones, especially this little demon." From every corner of the room, Ki erupted, almost giving the corrupt politician a heart attack. His wife approached him and spoke to him. "You broke the Sandame's law, Atsugi Haruno. You are under arrest," she said. Atsugi growled at his wife and raised his hand to slap her, but Naruto prevented it. "You? Huh? On whose authority? You're just a retired chunin. You don't have the authority to punish me, but just wait till we get home. I'll make sure you never step up to me again," he said. "You wanna hit someone? Try hitting me. Kimi-san is one of the nice people who tried to help me and gave me a pet to ease my pain. I never forgot about what she did for me, and I won't let an asshole like you hurt her." Naruto began to scream. In response, Atsugi pulled out a knife he had stashed in his sleeve and attempted to murder Naruto. However, one of the Anbu immediately carried out his sentence by driving her kunai into his skull and dragging his body away. The audience watched in horror at what transpired, but Tsunade spoke up before they could respond. "He broke the Sandame's law. You all know the penalty for that, and let this be a reminder to you all that I am through with playing games around here and certain people getting off light due to their clan names. I am nothing like Sarutobi-sensei, and don't you forget it. This stops here and now. Sasuke Uchiha, you are hereby sentenced to life imprisonment into the Konoha Maximum Security Prison's solitary confinement wing. You will have your chakra and Sharingan permanently sealed. You will never know the light of day again, and hopefully we can forget you even existed. You have brought shame upon your ancestors with your traitorous actions and made a mockery of what it means to be a Konoha shinobi. For the final time, we now wash our hands of you," Tsunade declared, daring the crowd to lash out in some manner. Sasuke was in utter disbelief. His ass was to be kicked out of the world and thrown away. He continued to babble to himself as two guards pulled his nearly unconscious body from his chair and out of the courtroom. But I'm an Uchiha, I'm Uchiha," he said. In silence, Naruto and the girls applauded the fact that justice was served for their ordeal, since he was one of the two who killed her when she was still a vixen. Akane felt particularly vindicated. Ayumi also believed that her death at his hands had been avenged and that justice had finally arrived. The would-be rioters merely shuffled out of the hall in a silent daze rather than yelling chaos. Although Kimi Haruno was somewhat saddened by her husband's passing, she felt a great deal of relief after everything he had done to her, including the physical and psychological abuse she had suffered. In fact, she thought she had been freed. In contrast, her daughter would need to be placed under suicide watch and scheduled for a long overdue visit to the shrinks. For a moment, she looked at Naruto. "Naruto-chan, don't feel bad for me. He is gone now and I can live with that. I also apologize for all that my daughter has put you through. Just take care of yourself, and if you have any problems, you can always talk to me like we used to do when you were little," she replied with kindness. He smiled candidly as the woman lifted her daughter, who was excessively light, and said, "Thank you, Kimi-chan. I'll have to do that. Know that he's gone and I can talk to you about stuff again. Then, why don't you and your friends come over with me? Sakura will be out for quite a while and won't bother you," she suggested. He turned to face Tsunade, who smiled and gave him a shooing motion, so he accepted it. The residence of Haruno all the way there, Kimi couldn't stop wondering how such a kind woman could have given birth to such a wicked child. As they conversed, she was serving tea with everyone present. The house was a little small, but it was comfortable enough, and the questions continued. Tsubasa said, "You're the Banshee's mother, but you're so nice. Kurumi concurred, saying, "Yeah, she really is, Nano. No kidding, her husband was a monster and her daughter was getting there. How did that family turn out so horribly?" Mika pondered. Ayumi warned, "Mika, have a little more tact, it's quite alright, Ayumi-chan. Well, as you know, my marriage wasn't a happy one. When I was 16, I was a Chunin shinobi, but my parents didn't agree with my choice of profession. They saw a chance to get me out of it plus themselves into a socially acceptable position when he asked for my hand in marriage. I refused, since making Junin like my idols Tsunade-sama and Kushina-sama was my goal, but they forced me into the marriage after we were married and after I had Sakura. He had my chakra sealed up completely with the help of a few contacts on the council. Since he didn't like the fact that I was so much stronger than him after that, my life went on a downward spiral, especially after the Kyuubi attack," she said, Naruto looking guilty smile. "It's not your fault, Naruto-chan. As a matter of fact, I knew your mother, since she was one of my idols," she replied with a grin. He asked excitedly, "Really? You knew who she was? Can you tell me?" She was unable to say no when she saw the almost desperate expression on his face. "Yes, I can at least tell you that Kushina-sama was your mother, Naruto-kun. She was one of the strongest people I've ever known and she was a match for even the Yondaime in strength. When she became pregnant with you and found that you were a boy, she was as giddy as a schoolgirl. She asked me if I would mind if she brought you over to play with Sakura when you were older, but the Kyuubi attack happened at first. I thought you both died, but as soon as Sarutobi-sama announced your surname and I saw your face, I knew whose child you were. You were a cute baby, Naruto-chan," she said, laughing at him. Blushed as she continued. "I tried adopting you, but Atsugi was firmly against it. He said that it would ruin him politically and he wouldn't have it. A few years later, if you remember, I met you again when I picked up Sakura from school. Atsugi found out and that was what started everything. He told her to hate you, but the Uchiha obsession was something different. He wanted to use her as a breeding tool and secure a Uchiha grandchild to give himself a boost in status. No matter how young she was. When I think about it, I was married to a disgusting man. Just as much of a blight to this family as the Uchiha was. Thankfully they are both gone now, and we can begin to heal," according to her. The woman nodded when Ran said, "So Sakura-san was a victim in a sense, as well." "Yes, I suppose she is in a sense. As you say, you are a very smart girl, Ran. No wonder Lady Tsunade chose you over my daughter," Kimi responded with a sorrowful grin. With her eyes slightly narrowed, Tsubasa questioned, "Why didn't you stand up for her?" "Just because she's my daughter, doesn't make everything she does faultless. In my eyes I do love her, but she has many faults, as do we all. To not see them is to be blind," she replied with wisdom. Naruto told them, "I think we should go home now. Come on girls." At least now that he knew about his mother, he was much happier after seeing a photo of her. He thought she was stunning and saw that his face resembled hers. "Will you come back and chat with me again, Naruto-chan? I can tell you more stories about your mother," Kimi said. Naruto joyfully replied, "Of course I will. Thanks Kimi-chan," as the group made their way back to their home. Since she could somewhat take care of herself, Akane volunteered to go when they realized they had to go to the market for dinner that evening. On the way home, "Akane-chan, please be careful. If anybody tries anything, just run home and don't try to fight unless you have to," Naruto said. As the rest of them headed home, she said, "I promise, Naruto-kun, I promise," and departed for the market. The streets of Konoha, because the majority of the smaller stall owners changed their minds and chose to leave them alone and conduct honest business, Akane was able to shop at the market comparatively unaccosted. As she rummaged through the items, she muttered, udon or katsudon, and finally chose one before continuing to retrieve the remaining items on the shopping list Ran provided her. Someone had been observing her since she left the trial and had followed her to the store while she was shopping. "Man, she's a hottie. That Dobie would never be able to make such a cutie happy, so I might as well help myself, right?" Kiba argued. Akamaru, his ninkin, saw things differently. He recalled her scent from more than a year ago, but the scent's owner was thought to be deceased. Kiba had entered the store, keeping her in sight and approaching her while feigning to shop for himself. At last, he recognized his opportunity to make an introduction and show off his charms. "Hey there, I never noticed you around before. I know that I couldn't have missed such a pretty girl like you, so you must be new here," he said. Without even glancing at him, she deadpanned, "Yeah, I'm new here, so what?" He spoke to her with a hint of smugness, saying, "Well, since you're new here and all, I should tell you about that guy you seem to hang around with." Without emotion, she questioned, "What about Naruto-kun?" "Nothing much to tell, except that he's the dead last and a loser," he laughed. Akane had to get rid of this ass before she lost it because her hackles were growing rapidly. He grabbed her arm to stop her from saying, Leave me alone. She was barely able to remain composed. Come on. What's the rush? Let's go get a bite to eat. My treat if you're lucky. This'll be our first date, too. He sighed. Don't touch me, she growled as she violently jerked away from him, but not before getting a clear glimpse of the person who was bothering her then. With all of her strength, she backhanded him and sent him to the ground in a heap as she stomped off, almost having a breakdown right then and there. Kiba shouted, what the hell's your problem, bitch? Which caused several other female shoppers to glare at her. He rushed after her after noticing that she was leaving the store and cashing out. He caught up to her shortly after, just outside a main street that she appeared to be going to, and stopped her at the entrance, yanking her back into the alley with a rough grab on her arm. He raised his hand to slap her, but she easily caught it and slammed his face into an awning support beam, dropping him with ease. Slap me, huh? You little bitch, I'll teach you, he yelled. With an unnaturally tight hold on his hair, she growled, you murderer. With all the anger she could muster, Akamaru had already fled, fleeing back to the Inuzuka compound for assistance. He winced as the pain pierced his skull, asking, what did I do? You don't remember, huh? Almost 2 years ago, that bastard Uchiha and some others killed a young vixen in front of Naruto-kun, she stated to him. He laughed, but was quickly silenced by her knee digging into his spine. Yeah, I remember that night I got grounded for a year, but that look on the Dobi's face was priceless, he said. He sneered and attempted to get away, but she just slammed his face into the floor once more. What do you care, anyway? He asked. As another person arrived on the scene, she growled into his ear, making his blood run cold. I'm back for revenge, you bastard, she said. Hana Inuzuka yelled, what's going on here? And Akane responded by telling her about the events at the store, and today Kiba attempted to defend his actions even though she wasn't happy with them. He begged his older sister, she said that she wanted revenge for something. I didn't do anything to her, but the words struck a chord with her memory. For a murder that occurred 2 years ago? In Naruto-kun's presence? Oh god, she couldn't be. She was the vixen who was killed that evening. Hana realized since Naruto fully trusted her, she was already aware of the angels, and she figured out why she would be so angry with Kiba. She turned to face the girl, who was clearly holding back from killing him. As the girl started to relax and uncurl, Hana urged, Akane, listen to me, calm down. Additionally, she removed herself from the pretext of an Inuzuka who was also her relative. As she pulled Kiba roughly off the ground by his hair and disappeared in a shunshin, Hana said, that's good now, I'll take care of this lump of shame on the ground and you should go home, where it's safe. Akane walked home after shaking herself. As she made her way home, Akane growled, this isn't over yet, human, I'll make you pay for taking me from Naruto-kun. In various states of injury, the team that had tangled with the now named Saint Beasts had finally made it back to their base of operations. Sasori's body was covered in deep gouges, Deidara's arm was perforated, Itachi appeared to have been trampled underfoot, and Kisame still had a deep wound in his shoulder at first. Pain was shocked to learn that 4 of his more powerful shinobi had been taken to task, as Zetsu's report and their current states indicated. In order to properly discuss how they were going to handle this new threat to their goal, the other Akatsuki had convened. Pain asked irritably, so these 4 were powerful enough to not only injure you 4, but send you running? Hidan mockingly said, Keihi, you got your sorry asses kicked, which caused the returning group to look irritated. Black Zetsu replied, they are quite powerful. White Zetsu continued, it will be very challenging to take them down. Itachi responded when Konan asked, what do they want with the Biju? They say they are the gods of animals and the Biju are great spirits. However, when they are sealed, they become nothing but chakra batteries for their containers to use. They want to use them to regain their powers, he responded. Pain asked sharply, his Rinnegan eyes narrowed, what is their goal? What do they want with the demons? Complete inhalation of humans. They view humans with contempt, and to them, a Jinchuriki is a dire insult. They will merely kill the hosts and absorb the Biju to restore their powers. The more they find, the more powerful they become. Black Zetsu responded with a grave voice, overhearing everything. Madara, who was concealed in the shadows, became furious. If they can't beat these upstarts, these idiots are useless to me. The shadow leader of the Akatsuki pondered as he reviewed the information provided by his spymaster, but as he did so, he recalled something he had read at the Uchiha clan shrine while still with Konoha. About the balance of nature prior to the rise of civilization as they knew it. These saint beasts need to go if my Moon's Eye plan can be realized. There was a period before the current civilization emerged when humans and animals coexisted peacefully. The lack of food and space eventually caused their relationship to deteriorate. The tailed beasts were about to attack the humans after the formidable saint beasts had had enough and were prepared to fight them until the Rakudo Sennin intervened. He shut off the great saint beast's abilities and sealed off all of the Biju inside of him. We are in more trouble than I initially believed. If they are indeed the saint beasts before they can accomplish their objective, we must apprehend the Biju. As the other Akatsuki reviewed their strategies and plans for dealing with this new threat, Madara plotted, "My Moon's Eye plan must be realized." As Pain came up with an idea, he turned to Itachi and gave the order, "We must track them down and eliminate them." "Itachi, did you try to utilize your Sharingan against them?" he inquired. They were all chilled by his response. The Uchiha Slayer answered, "Yes, and my Tsukuyomi had no effect whatsoever. It only seemed to make them angrier." "Then we have to overwhelm them and hinder them every step of the way," Konan said. Kakuzu asked, "How do they know where the Biju are located?" "It seems as if one of them can sense and home in on them over a limited distance. If a Jinchuriki is near, they will be able to find them without fail. They were chasing the Kyuubi Jinchuriki when Itachi and his team fought them," replied White Zetsu. Pain considered this information for a moment before giving an order. "Zetsu, keep tabs on them at all times, and when they locate a vessel, alert us and we will send a combat team, such as Hidan and Kakuzu, to intercept them. We cannot allow them to interfere," Pain stated as the meeting came to an end. South of Iwagakure, somewhere the four saint beasts, who were hot on the trail of the Yanbi Jinchuriki, are found trudging along Earth Country's rocky and dangerous mountain paths. They finally gave up on Roshi, the Yanbi's container, for the time being because he was a seasoned and cunning war veteran ninja who was difficult to capture. He fought his way out of their grasp and returned to the nearby ninja village of Iwa, who dispatched Anbu units to track down his assailants after the Gobi vessel was discovered. Guy moaned, "Damn it. These humans are a pain in the ass." As they scurried away from the pursuing troops, they managed to outrun the units sent after them after an hour of non-stop running, and they took a moment to rest while considering their options. "These vessels are proving to be a real hassle to capture. They are all highly guarded or elusive," Ray predicted. "I agree. On top of that, some of these shinobi are nothing to sneeze at, either, especially those of the Akatsuki," Shin concurred. Go wheeled around to scuttle with their pursuers once more, but his younger brothers stopped him. "I don't care what it takes. I will not run from these filthy humans," he roared angrily. "Big brother, please listen to reason. These humans are not like anything we have faced in the past. They have become powerful, and trying to take on a village full of them at once is suicide with our current powers." Shin pleaded with him. He settled down for the time being because Shin was usually the one who spoke reason among them. "Fine, in that case, we head back to Fire Country and hunt down the Nine Tails vessel. He is very young and more inexperienced than the rest of the vessels, so he should be easier to catch," Go gave the order. The others let out a sigh, understanding that any disagreement would be promptly and horribly punished in his current state of mind. They knew that the Kyuubi Jinchuriki would undoubtedly be in Konoha, so they just turned southeast and headed there once more. According to the information they had, he was despised and ostracized in his hometown, where he was viewed as a freak and an outsider. As a result, any opposition to his murder would be minimal. It was just bad timing for the Akatsuki to intercept them. "Well, that is true according to the reports. He is hated by his home village. This would be easier than the others for now, but we need to use caution," Shin cautioned. Guy proudly exclaimed, "Why? We could tear that brat to shreds without breaking a sweat," but Shin cuffed him. "You idiot, even though he is young, he still holds the most powerful of the Biju within him, and if he can control even a portion of its power, he will be dangerous." Shin dismissed the youngest of the four. "That's true. The last Jinchuriki we fought had full control over his Biju's power and we had trouble keeping up with him," Ray concurred. As they resumed their journey back down to Fire Country, Go added, "Agreed, we will use caution when taking him. After this is done, we can finally bring peace to our world." In the meantime, in heaven, the goddess was anxiously observing the saint beasts' movements. If their resistance to the Akatsuki was any indication, they remained a very dangerous threat despite being severely weakened by the Rakudo Sennin. This only exacerbated the serious dangers posed by the Akatsuki and the Uchiha boy alone. She witnessed the night when the girls were on the verge of death at the hands of the Uchiha, but Naruto saved them by taking a fatal blow and advancing to defeat the insane Uchiha. She was proud of her Angel's ability to support one another under duress, Tsubasa's valiant battle alongside her master, and most importantly, Naruto's willingness to sacrifice his life to keep them safe. Then came the story of how some of Konoha's remaining good people banded together to fight this internal threat. Her focus now shifted to the Saint Beasts and the aftermath of their leader, Go the Azure Dragon's resurrection. He was unrelenting in his desire to wipe out all people from the planet, including the last man, woman, and child, eons ago. He even succeeded in uniting the 9 spirit beasts into a single entity, the Jubi, by somehow harnessing their immense power in a massive and devastating battle that left the lands permanently scarred. The Rakudo Sennin, knowing what he had to do, ripped the beast to pieces along with the abilities of the 4 saint beasts within himself. He was able to separate the beasts from the whole and seal them all away. He carried the knowledge of how to unlock them with him to his grave. Regretfully, people had figured out how to seize the Biju and use their destructive potentiala by encasing them in other people and using them as human weapons, or Jinchuriki. The unfortunate people who were forced to carry this terrible burden were excluded from society for no apparent reason, but they are now all dealing with far more serious issues. There was now another group that wanted the Biju, but they had not yet disclosed why. This group consists of extremely strong shinobi who have abandoned their families and gone rogue, some of whom have committed terrible crimes both during and after their ordeal. Both of these groups have their sights set on Naruto Uzumaki, the boy she had so much faith in, but she has sent him some assistance because of how well he has shown himself now. She had dispatched the last 4 of the 12 angels whose lives had been irrevocably altered by the boy, who pleaded and strove to be reunited with him. As she continued to keep an eye on events in her eternal realm, the goddess whispered, "Yuki, I have faith that you can rally the angels and pull them in tighter. The storms in the village may have passed for now, but a much larger maelstrom is looming just beyond the horizon." In the country of Ricefield, his assistant, Kabuto, watched on helplessly as Orochimaru thrashed wildly in his bed, screaming in unearthly pain, not knowing what else he could do despite his immense talents and expertise in the medical arts. He was powerless to stop his master from deteriorating before his very eyes. "Kei Kabuto, where is the Uchiha?" demanded Snake Sanin, who was half dead. The bespectacled Nin answered, "My lord, I just received a report that he had been thrown in prison for attempting to kill his own teammate." When Kabuto swept out of the room to carry out his master's orders, Orochimaru commanded, "I don't care what it takes, get me that boy, I am running out of time." Kabuto marched through the secret base's corridors and made his way to the Sound Force quarters. In addition to Kabuto and Orochimaru himself, the Sound Four were his top lieutenants, his elite honor guard, and his most formidable combatants. This is due to the fact that they are among the 4 individuals who have ever survived being branded with the curse seal. As he strode into their midst, the 4 in question suddenly turned to face him. Tayuya, the group's lone kunoichi and a fiery, foul-mouthed redhead, growled, "What the hell do you want, 4 eyes?" Since Kabuto was Orochimaru's monkey boy, he wasn't particularly well liked on the base. "I came here to give you a mission from Lord Orochimaru himself," he responded with a shot. The 4's de facto leader, Sakin, asked skeptically, "Oh really? What would that be?" Kabuto answered, "He wants you to get someone for him, the last Uchiha." Jirubo, who was by far the biggest of the 4, asked, "What if he doesn't want to come? Can we rough that pretty boy up?" "Yes, you may, but nothing permanent. You know how the master hates bruised fruit. However, I doubt you will need to persuade him to come with you." Kabuto laughed. The group's 6-armed member, Kidomaru, asked uncertainly, "Care to enlighten us as to why?" It truly annoyed him when he smirked like that. Sasuke Uchiha is currently a guest of the Konoha maximum security prison system and would love nothing more than to see Konoha burn to the ground for it, Kabuto informed them. Wait, a second maximum security prison? How the hell could we break him out even with our second-level seals? We'd need a small army to breach the outer perimeter, Kidomaru yelled. Again, you needn't worry about that. Our mutual business partner within Konoha's council will see to a gap in their security. All you would have to do is slip in and extract him. It's simple, really, Kabuto clarified. The 4 discussed it for a minute. They were aware that Orochimaru's body would eventually fail and that the curse mark would disappear if he passed away, but they also knew that Kabuto would probably use them in experiments if he did. The decision was obvious because it was a fate worse than the one they were currently facing. Sakin asked, "When do we leave?" Returning to Konoha. After Sasuke Uchiha's trial and sentencing more than 2 weeks ago, the village has finally begun to settle down. Go back. First of all, many of the Uchiha supporters were openly hostile toward everyone, not just Naruto and the girls, immediately following the trial. Fortunately, they were few in number because many of them had been disheartened by the execution of Atsugi Haruno, the head of the civilian council. In public, many people's opinions were altered by the alleged demon child's willingness to risk his life to save someone. As a result, the small household experienced fewer issues than before, but Sakura had returned from her catatonic state and was causing trouble once more, much to her mother's dismay. Sakura's near comatose shock at witnessing her father's murder in front of her didn't last long after the trial. She was starting to change after about 2 days, but she was completely avoiding her mother after about a week. Sakura came downstairs to find Naruto and Kimi, who was his good friend and sort of an aunt, enjoying tea in the main room when he stopped by to see how she was doing. Sakura yelled, "Naruto Baka, what are you doing in my house?" Naruto shrugged and returned to his tea, saying, "Having tea with an old friend." She totally blew a head gasket after Naruto ignored her. She struck a nerve cluster on her neck, knocking her out, but fortunately, her mother was a former kunoichi and a damn good one, retaining some of her speed and knowledge. Kimi calmly said, "I think you had better go now, Naruto-chan. We can take tea another time." Additionally, the threat had returned to the academy with a bad attitude. Amy, her former bully and new rival, had only one thing to say after learning about Sasuke's ordeal. "Good, if he was willing to kill innocent people, what would he have done to us?" She argued. She appeared to have improved her personality and grades a little, as well as acquired some common sense. Sakura yelled, "You traitorous bitch," as she hurled herself at her erstwhile adversary, but Iruka defeated her. Iruka roared, gesturing toward the door, "Haruno. That is it, get out of my classroom, consider yourself expelled." Naturally, Sakura tried to yell back at him because of who or what she is. She yelled, "My daddy will have you all killed," and threatening the entire class. One boy mockingly asked, "What daddy would that be?" Another exclaimed, "Oh yeah, the guy that got himself killed by the Anbu. What an idiot," as she fled the room in tears, causing the class to erupt in laughter. Paradoxically, Naruto endured years of this suffering. However, Sakura had grown weary of it. After a few weeks, she attempted to vent her annoyance on Nana, the youngest of the girls Naruto had staying with him, but her deranged brain was unable to make the connection. She tried to slap the girl, but was stopped by a tall, about 18-year-old woman who had 3 other girls with her. "You little brat, Sasuke-kun should have killed you and those whore sisters of yours," she screamed. The woman had milky white skin, crimson eyes, and long, silky jet black hair. She wore a casual day kimono and was also a little tall. Her hair was styled to resemble one of those tanuki statues, and the first of the younger girls had almond-colored eyes and chocolate brown hair. Another, with wide brown eyes and pink hair in a long, thin ponytail resembling a monkey's tail, came next. It was the ornaments that would make one think of a frog's eyes, but the last had lime green hair styled in pigtails that extended to the sides. The woman's beautiful face was marred by a frown, and her deceptively strong grip tightened as she firmly declared, "You will not touch that child." She yelled back, "Who asked you?" until Kurenai arrived to defuse the situation. With a cold tone, the red-eyed Junin questioned, "Haruno-san, why were you going to hit an innocent child?" Sakura growled, "None of your business, you red-eyed freak." Before Kurenai subtly knocked her unconscious with a genjutsu blow. With a sigh, she faced the girl who had been assaulted. When Kurenai apologized for Sakura's heinous actions, the woman waved her away. "I'm very sorry about this, I'll take her down to the jail." As the Junin left to transport the now former academy student to the jails, she said amiably, "No trouble at all, miss, have a good day." And then she turned to Nana, who recognized something familiar about these folks. Nana said, "Thank you, lady." In appreciation, the woman would keep the identity of the young girl a secret until she arrived at her master's residence. The woman graciously offered, "You are welcome, but I would rather you avoid any more trouble." The youngest exclaimed, "Yeah, Yuki Nichan can handle these people." In agreement. The girl with the long hair timidly added, yeah." The brown-haired girl concluded, "Yuki One-chan is really strong." As they proceeded. As Nana ran back to the house, Yuki beckoned the children to follow her, saying, "Okay, come along now, Ruru-chan, Momo-chan, Midori-chan." Nana was so excited to tell the others about her new friends that she rushed through the door of the Uzumaki residence. Ayumi urged, "Nana-chan, calm down and try again." Nana spoke a little more slowly, but at least they could understand her. "I said that Sakura Mini tried to hit me, but this lady stopped her and another ninja lady arrested Sakura and took her away. She had other girls with her," Nana said. Mika was intrigued and inquired, "What did the lady look like?" A knock on the door interrupted Nana's detailed description of her and the girls. Since Naruto and a few Chunin were currently on a day mission doing border patrol, Tsubasa got up to respond. She opened the door to find the woman Nana had told them about standing there. To their surprise, she inquired, "Excuse me? Is this the Uzumaki residence?" Tsubasa nearly blurted out, what? Why are you looking for Ma Naruto-kun?" But Yuki quickly caught it. She concluded by saying, "I would like to speak with him about something important, sisters." Her words were sure to shock them, and they did. Being the more perceptive one, Ayumi examined each of the newcomers and reached an unexpected conclusion. She whispered, "None of you are human, and Kurumi and Akane sniffed at each other. Whispering, Akane said, "She's right," Kurumi chirped, "They must be angels, Nano." Just as the person they had come to see was approaching. Naruto said, Hey girls? Who are they?" With a gentle smile, the oldest of the four knelt down to look him in the eye and cupped his whiskered cheek. "Master, I know that I died when you were very young, but I hope you still remember me. I am Yuki. The snake. I've come back to you. Master," she went on to explain. It came to him suddenly he would never forget Yuki because she was his first friend. He gave her the tightest hug he could and choked out, "I still never got to thank you for saving me." Once he had reorganized himself, Midori took the initiative. As she threw herself at him, Midori exclaimed, "Master, remember how we first met? You know, with the paint cans? It's me, Midori, the Tanuki. I waited for so long to see you again, Master." He clung to her, recalling how she would always sleep under the covers with him, or how he would take her to Ichiraku and she would grab some food and follow him everywhere. As the following girl came forward, he responded, "I really missed you, too, Midori-chan." I really missed you, Master, a whole lot." Momo was crying. Naruto recalled his first encounter with her one day while he was hiking. She, a curious little monkey, came down the mountain and became his friend. She stole a peach from his bag, hence her name. He noticed a tug on the leg of his pants. The young girl exclaimed, "Hey, Master, it's me, Ruru the frog. I want to play with you again, Master." Naruto named her and played with her constantly because he recalled how she had hopped into his house one rainy day and kept returning. The exhausted genin quickly passed out because all of this in one day was too much for him. The girls gathered around the injured boy and yelled, "Master!" As they examined him, Ayumi and Ran both took care to give him some breathing room. Fortunately, he was fine, just tired, so they put him to bed while talking about what had happened. As the girls' de facto leader up to this point, Ran questioned, "The goddess sent you?" "Yes, in light of the Uchiha incident and from an impending danger looming on the horizon, she has sent the remainder of us down to Master's side. Allow me to formally introduce myself. I am Yuki, the snake. I am a caster and fighter of the senior rank," Yuki told them as she gave them a brief, polite bow. Momo followed Midori's statement, "I'm Midori, the Tanuki. I'm a tracker of the middle rank." After blurting out the rest in a hurried bow, Momo stammered, I'm Momo, a healer of the junior rank. Nice to meet you." Crossing her arms, Ruru exclaimed, "My name is Ruru and I'm a caster of junior rank." As the others introduced themselves, Ran said, "Well, now that that's out of the way." Ran and Ayumi were relieved that Yuki, a much older angel, was available to assist them and assume leadership of the girls, which they had been sharing. They also appreciated that Yuki could discipline Mika whenever she overreached, as she often did. The girls continued their conversation until Shizune entered the house. In the main foyer, she looked around but saw no one and received no response. "Hello, I'm here for the tutoring lessons," she exclaimed. As she climbed the stairs and heard voices, she muttered, That's odd." She focused on it after hearing a group of unfamiliar voices. As she got closer, Naruto went into his room because that's where the voices were coming from. When she entered, she saw that all four of the girls were there. This made the Hokage's assistant gasp, What? There's more of you, now?" Yuki was tense now. Nothing positive could result from a human being being aware of them. After noticing her tenseness, Ran and Akane diffused the situation. Akane exclaimed, "Wait, she's a good human." Yuki's gaze remained fixed on the kunoichi as she asked, "What do you mean?" The remaining angels were then prompted to clarify the circumstances, who could be trusted, and who was aware of them. Yuki relaxed and exhaled the breath she had been suppressing. Yuki bowed, but Shizune waved it away. "I apologize for my error. I know of you, but not what you looked like. I hope you can forgive my caution." She came to the conclusion that Yuki was the leader of the group since she was most likely the oldest of the girls, who were about 18 or 19. "It's okay. Really only myself and a select few know your secret, and rest assured that it is safe with us. But I am curious, though, what were you before you transmigrated and what types of angels are you?" Shizune responded despite being shocked that this human knew so much about them. Yuki responded because she could be relied upon to look out for her master. "Well, I was a snake, Midori-chan was a tanuki, Momo-chan was a monkey, and Ruru-chan was a frog. As for types, Midori-chan is a tracker in middle rank, Momo-chan is a healer, Ruru-chan is a caster, while I myself am a fighter and caster," Yuki went on to explain. With an air of admiration, Shizune questioned, "You can be two different types?" Akane responded to her. The fox girl cleared her throat and said, "Well, it's really hard to do, but it can be done." "Now then, I hear that you are training Ayumi-chan and Ran-chan in the healing arts. What kind of training are the other girls receiving?" the brunette responded. "That is correct. Yuki-san, since Lady Tsunade has her hands full trying to run the village, I fill in for her when called for. Also, Ran-chan and Ayumi-chan have been chosen to be her next apprentices, which is a huge honor. Lady Tsunade is known worldwide for her healing abilities, as well as a cage-level ninja. Ran-chan and Ayumi-chan will inherit all of it over time. The other girls have been training with other Junin-sensei who can be trusted, but do not know of your secret. Two of them are our taijutsu master, Maeda Guy, and our illusion mistress, Kurenai Yuihi. Shizune went on to say approval. End of flashback. Yes, Yuki was settling into the village during the 2 weeks that saw a lot of activity. The two reached an almost instantaneous understanding when the elder angel met with Tsunade. She was aware that Yuki fully supported her teaching the younger angels self-defense techniques and that the angels on Earth now had some sort of leadership among them. Tsunade also had to cope with Sakura's punishment before Inoichi was called in to deal with her. The girl had been yelling and raving at everyone she saw, saying that one day she would exact revenge on them from her cell. The girl's head had been severely damaged for a while, he discovered after doing a mental dive on her, but he also discovered other items she had seen inside. Flashback. Sakura was already regretting Inoichi's recent foray into her mind. According to her mental state, he could tell that she had endured years of sexual abuse at the hands of her own father in order to obtain Uchiha grandchild and gain access to their sea offers and lands for himself. He had apparently been training her to be slavishly loyal to the Uchiha. Her father's re-education included extensive hypnotism and conditioning her to the point where she would lie on her back for the Uchiha at his whim and do anything he wanted. Inoichi shuddered when he saw what she had endured. Her mother was aware of this and had made multiple attempts to stop them, but she ultimately became a victim herself. Inoichi discovered why Kimi couldn't stop them, even though he knew that she was a strong and capable kunoichi in her day. Almost on par with Kushina, she was physically weak after giving birth, and her husband had strength-sapping seals placed on her to cut off her chakra flow and prevent her from using any jutsu. This gave him an ex-kunoichi to use and abuse as he pleased. Kimi had attempted to expose them as well, but no one would take her seriously, and any inquiry would be put on hold. He growled as he began to mend at least some of the harm in her mind, saying, "That sick bastarda, he got off easy when Yugo offed him." She had seen her father murder those who spoke out against the Hokage, numerous members of the civilian council plotting against him, and numerous other council members committing treason. As he erased and sealed away her memories of the last few years, he collected as much information as he could. It was the only way to remove the programming she was operating on without permanently harming her psyche. Even though he was aware that she would now be a young girl in a young teen's body, he proceeded to do so and left the place immediately. End of flashback. Now that she and her investigation department had a wealth of evidence against many of the council's troublemakers, Tsunade could start weeding them out and punishing them for the numerous crimes they believed they would continue to get away with. Sakura's thoughts had also been transported back in time to before her father began his ruthless scheme to guarantee a Uchiha grandchild. In order to make sure she was no longer a threat to herself or others, they conducted a number of psychological tests and conducted test after test on her mind. Kimi was now attempting to gradually acclimate her daughter to the modern world to help her adjust to her new life. She brought Naruto and Ino along, although it was a little unsettling for a girl 7 months older than Naruto to act like a 6-year-old once more. Everything was going well for the time being. Kimi was also aware that her daughter was too young to comprehend the shinobi program, so it was no longer an option for her naturally. Tsunade struck her name from the shinobi roster. Jiraiya had been informed about the seals that had been placed on her, and he had a method of removing them, but Kimi was thrilled that all of the damage her scumbag of an ex-husband had caused to her daughter had been undone. With some conditioning, she was able to become a kunoichi once more after he was able to remove the seals and restore her full strength. She did this every few days with Shizune. She was informed that she would be added to the roster once more after she could perform at a level that was acceptable normally. Age would have played a role, but at the age of 28, Shizune was still young enough to pull it off, getting married young at her parents' urging. In addition, until Atsugi was put to death and the proof was discovered, Kimi's parents, who survived the Kyuubi attack, were never informed of what Atsugi had been doing with their daughter and grandchild. They both had a lot to make up for and were horrified and shocked by what they discovered. Her parents' acceptance of Naruto was another benefit that resulted from this, as they were able to identify his mother and knew that she had previously held the Kyuubi, just like Mito had done before them. They formally apologized when they stopped by while Naruto was there. Naturally, he inquired as to why, and they informed him that they were at fault for everything they had done or unintentionally contributed to, including to their daughter, granddaughter, and a former close relative. Kimi was aware that her mother was a former kunoichi, but she was unaware that she was actually a student of Mito Uzumaki. She felt that by rejecting a member of her family who shared her burden, she had betrayed her beloved sensei. After going on a drinking binge that lasted more than a month, Kakashi learned about the trial the day after it took place. The worst kind of shame had befallen him, and to make matters worse, he was only responsible for his own shame. His team had been utterly ruined. Sakura's mind had shrunk to a shell. Sasuke was now serving a life sentence, and Naruto refused to interact with him. Jiraiya and Tsunade threatened to punish him severely if he meddled in his affairs once more. He was now compelled to observe Naruto's growth from a distance, with no hope of redemption in sight. During this time, Akane had a few more meetings with Kiba. When Hana pulled him home for the first time, she and their mother reprimanded him to leave them alone or face unpleasant consequences. The Inuzuka heir's fatal flaw had always been Kiba's hormones and overfed sense of pride, which he himself never bothered to correct. He was going to pay a heavy price this time when Kiba discovered her with 2 other girls a week after the trial. He had been searching for her with the intention of putting her in her proper place and claiming her. Being arrogant, he approached them and tried to pull her away, but she yanked herself free, and the other 2 girls were equally as furious as she was. While Akane and Tsubasa continued to beat and stomp him for his past and present deeds, Mika used a binding spell to stop him from moving any further. When Hana discovered him, she had been searching for him because their mother had asked him to drag his sorry ass back and give an explanation for some sexist remarks he had made to his sensei and Kunoichi teammate. Hana was able to calm them down long enough for her to pull him away. The last straw for the Inuzuka matriarchy was when she brought him home and revealed his activities to Sume. The marks on his cheeks were gouged away by her, leaving behind unsightly scars. This was a sign of embarrassment and the official adoption of the Omega clan. Or their shamed one. He was no longer acknowledged as her son and was only an Inuzuka in name. Having been expelled from the clan's leadership line, even Akamaru had abandoned him. Sensibly siding with the Alpha clan, Kiba would never be trusted again, but he was permitted to remain on Team 8. Following the trial that resulted in Sasuke Uchiha being imprisoned for the remainder of his natural life, things were now beginning to settle down, but it was not all sunshine and roses. Naruto's and his kind's pursuers were getting closer and closer. Jiraiya informed Tsunade of the warning. Since the Saint Beasts had been spotted less than a day's drive from the village, she deliberately barred Naruto from missions outside the village in response, but he soon started to inquire. Jiraiya pulled Tsunade aside and told him about them, but Tsunade remained silent. In order to keep them safe, he took the boy to one of his safe houses in the village. Naruto said, "What's up, Ero Sennin? Listen kid, you remember those 2 guys that attacked you when we're looking for Tsunade?" Jiraiya responded. "Yeah, one of them was Sasuke Tomi's older brother, right? The aka whatever?" replied Naruto. "They are called the Akatsuki, and their goal, as far as I can tell, is to extract the demons from hosts much like yourself. But the purpose or cause this is for is unknown. What we do know is that the extraction process is lethal, since there is no known way to separate one from its host once sealed safely." Naruto grimaced and said, "Yeesh, these guys sound pretty horrible, then." Jiraiya briefed him on everything he had learned about the Saint Beasts, saying, "Naruto, that's not even the worst part yet. There is another group out there hunting down everyone like you, and they have been spotted less than a day away from here. Tsunade already knows, and it's time you knew, too." It goes without saying that this news upset the boy. He was beginning to feel resentful of Tsunade for keeping him inside the village and not allowing him to go on missions. This new information helped him understand why she had been acting strangely lately. Even though he had assumed she was just being overly protective, the only thing she could do to keep him safe from them was to go out there and take them on herself, which would most likely result in her death. Jiraiya said, "By your silence, I take it that you understand?" Jiraiya smiled as Naruto realized that perhaps his student wasn't such a blockhead after all. "Why yeah, I need to train even harder than before. Now I don't want to hide behind Tsunade Kachin. I don't want her or the girls to get hurt or killed because I wasn't strong enough to protect myself." In an attempt to boost his student's confidence, Jiraiya told him, "Well, a training I can help you with, and from what Shizune's been telling me, those girls of yours have your workaholic habits at times. I think that you will do fine as long as we prepare you the right way." After learning from some contacts in Iwa that the Saint Beasts would not dare attempt to attack another village, Jiraiya began to really get down to business with Naruto's training. Imagine what Konoha would do to them if he had caused them that much trouble. In the event that they managed to escape, they would be severely damaged. Away from the village, the 4 Saint Beasts set out to claim their 3rd Biju. Following the trails that led to Konoha, they had already killed and absorbed the power of the Rokubi and the Sanbi Biju, who had stopped in Mizu no Kuni en route to Hai no Kuni. They were now confident enough to take on any challenge the Kyuubi Jinchuriki might present. "So this is Konoha, a nicely wooded area, and I can sense something special about the area, as if there is a heavy spiritual presence here," Shin said. As they got to work, Go added, "I agree, once we eliminate the humans here, we may set up a residency here. We will need to sneak inside of the village, since we will need to identify our target and try to lure him away from the village that way. Even if someone would help him, They won't make it in time, and I doubt he could put up much of a fight, Shin addressed his brothers. The four brother gods were able to sneak into the village and started searching for the 13-year-old boy with the blonde hair when they discovered that the only blonde of that age was female and lacked the possession marks. They quickly became irate after several hours of fruitless searching. They finally spotted some strange-looking girls as Tsubasa, Akane, and Yukiya who were coming back from one of the training fields. Go exhaled. 2 of those girls are brides. It never occurred to him that even one of them, much less 2 of them, would be present. Go agreed as Ray said, I agree we must claim them before we do anything. Just as Guy and Shin were about to protest, 2 more recognizable presences appeared. Just now, Tamami and Ayumi were coming home from the market with dinner for the evening. Utilizing their more advanced intelligences to negotiate a good price, Shin stopped Guy before he could run forward to claim his bride. Guy growled, What? I will claim my bride? That bastard human enslaved them. But Go's piercing gaze silenced him. We will need to do this right, Guy. You and I will intercept them before they reach their home while Go and Ray will take care of that girl with their brides. This will have to be done quickly and we can use them to lure the container outside of the village. Shin made the suggestion. They took action because it looked like a good idea. The brothers worked rapidly before the village's ninja became aware of them and took action even though the atmosphere didn't show it. There was a good reason why the shinobi of this village were feared since neither Ayumi nor Tamami were particularly prepared for physical combat. They were easily taken. But the other 2 proved to be more problematic. Go and Ray appeared in front of the girls at the edge of the training grounds. While Ray was working on Tsubasa, Go said to Yuki, My queen, come with me, we can smash these humans together and we can bring forth a world without them for us animals. Won't you come with me, my sweet? We were meant to be together, you know? He laughed. Neither Yuki nor her 2 friends found these 2 particularly amusing, but Yuki remembered that the saint beasts were out and about, and a realization hit her instinctively. She attacked them. Yuki snarled, You have some nerve coming here. Tsubasa and Akane followed her example. My bride, you wound me with such words, please come with me, Go said again. With unexpected speed, Akane charged in to attack them. Attacking Go, the 2 of you are the saint beasts, aren't you? You won't touch our master, she cried. With ease, the Seiryu took the blow and drew her to his face. Any who resist will be destroyed, he roared as he punched her sternum hard, cracking it and sending her flying into a tree, where she suffered a head wound and a concussion. You bastards! Tsubasa and Yuki attacked the 2 together, almost yelling in rage. Tsubasa was quite quick and was making Ray defensive, but he and Go were both holding back so as not to hurt their bride as the battle continued. A Team Guy member finally showed up and witnessed the altercation. Lee cried out, What is going on here? As he watched these odd men attack his friends. As he charged into the battle, Lee exclaimed, I am Konoha's beautiful green beast, Rock Lee. I will punish you unyouthful fellows for attacking my friends. He wasn't taken seriously at first, but he changed his mind after Go's jaw was struck with an absurdly strong 4-knuckle punch. The Seiryu yelled, You insect! As he ceased containing Lee's powerful hook, which, had he not been hardened by his sensei, could have severed his head to their surprise. Lee immediately got back up and resumed the fight after being knocked through a tree instead. Lee yelled, It will take more than that to defeat the green beast. As he rushed back into the fray and confronted Ray using his conditioning, he repeatedly struck the Suzaku and started pushing him away. In response, Go grabbed Akane by the neck while Ray gored his shoulder and clamped his transformed talons around his head. Go growled and tightened his grip on Akane's neck, saying, Now come with us, or they die. Yuki gave in, her fists shaking, and said, F fine, just don't hurt them or master and we will come with you. Go gave them a direct look. He said icily as they went black, That is no longer your concern. Go had a crow send a message to Naruto as a lure, and Lee and Akane were thrown out roughly. The 2 saint beasts carrying their respective brides, the 2 vanished, and then Team Guy's remaining members appeared. Tenten started to tend to their wounds as Neji and Guy pulled her away to transport them to the hospital, but she screamed, Lee, Akane, what happened? The Konoha hospital when Shizune, who was on duty at the time, saw Team Guy, they hurried into the emergency room with Akane and one of their own. The woman yelled, Get them into the ER, now, and gave the other medics orders while Lee had a large goring wound to his left shoulder and a sizable concussion. The medics diagnosed him with a cracked sternum, ribs, and a minor concussion. While wondering what had happened to her sister and friend, Ran was at the hospital working frantically to heal them. She pondered, Who did this to them? Whoever did this must have been very strong because she was aware that Lee and Akane were no pushovers. The home of Naruto greeting those still at home, Naruto had just returned from assisting Tsunade in organizing the mission archives by smashing her face into her ample bust and giving him a flying glomp. Mika decided to greet him in her own unique way. She exclaimed, "Welcome home, master," as the others arrived. Kurumi asked hungrily, "I wonder what's for dinner tonight, Nano?" Naruto became concerned when Midori responded, "I dunno, but Ayumi and Tamami are late, they should have been home by now." "Yeah, come to think of it, Yuki, Akane, and Tsubasa aren't back yet, either," Mika responded. As a crow started to peck at their windows, Naruto exclaimed, "That tears it, I'm gonna go look for them." As Mika opened the window and appeared to speak to it, Naruto muttered, "What the hell?" Her eyes widened in terror, and her entire body shook. What is it?" inquired Naruto. "The 4 saint beasts, they're here in the village and they have Yuki, Ayumi, Tsubasa, and Tamami, and they heard Akane. They claimed them as their brides. They said if you have a problem with it, to meet them inside of training ground 44 tonight," Mika replied. With a growl, Naruto bounded out the open window and charged headlong into the fast-approaching night. "Those sickos are gonna wish they were never born." Mika yelled, "Master, no," in an attempt to stop him, but her words were disregarded. Nana said, "Big sister Mika, what should we do?" Slumping against the wall, she muttered, "I don't know," as she searched her mind for a thought until it finally struck her. Mika took command of the younger angels and led them to the Hokage's office, saying, "We need to ask Lady Suande for help. She's the only one that can help us now, come on." Ground for training number 44. Swiftly reaching the training ground, Naruto looked around for any indication of the 4 who claimed to be holding his priceless people hostage. He passed the spot where Gaara killed the group of Rain Nin during the Chunin exams, as well as the spot where he battled Orochimaru's giant snake, the corpse of which is still rotting. When he finally reached the tower in the middle of the forest, any potential predators were driven away by the faint demonstration he was making. He pried open the door to see the arena's lights turn on. He was even more irritated by the smirks on the faces of the 4 girls who were standing motionless like statues across the street, with 4 men behind them. "So Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune, you have shown yourself to us at last. I will admit that you have been the easiest to track down of all of your brethren," Go said as he glanced at the women. He commanded, "Now brides of the Saint Beasts, show your loyalty by killing this abomination." The girls' eyes appeared to be possessed as they pounded him with their weapons in order to carry out his command. Naruto took a step back from them. "You sick bastards," he yelled, dodging a stab from Tsubasa's and a swipe from Yuki's Tonto. Guy shouted down at him, "Just die, Jinchuriki," while the girls continued to battle. "Oh no, I do not wish to harm them. How can I help?" He thought frantically, trying to think of a solution until he found one as he quickly knocked the 4 girls out without hurting them. He called forth some Kage Bunshin to help him restrain them. He put them down gently, then turned to them with a steel-melting glare, his crimson chakra swirling around him. The demonic chakra started to form around Naruto, creating the Kyuubi shroud with 2 tails swaying angrily behind him. Naruto screamed, "You bastards, you made me hurt them. You hurt Akane. I love them more than my own life. Now, you'll pay with your lives." His roar of rage reverberated throughout the world. As the demon-powered boy appeared to vanish from view and delivered a vicious punch to Guy, sending him into the base of a huge statue, the 4 briefly questioned whether they had taken on more than they could handle with their current abilities. As the other 3 charged into the fray, he moaned, "Tea that hurt." Shin fired off his shards in an attempt to slow him down so that Rei could crush him, but Go was able to get behind him and slam him with a punch that could have broken a boulder. Embedding him in the ground, the shards struck his back and lodged there, but Naruto pushed them away and caught Rei in midair, sending him plummeting back to the ground. As he prepared to strike once more, Go growled, "He's more difficult to fight than I thought." Shin commanded his brothers to start harassing him in order to wear him down without suffering too much damage. "We just need to wear him down. He can't control the demon's power properly, so we just need to outlast him," Shin said. They were suffering more damage than they had hoped after a few minutes of this, but it was beginning to pay off as his movements slowed. Go finally struck Naruto in the stomach with a rock-shattering blow, which forced air out of his lungs, knocked him out of Kyuubi mode, and nearly knocked him out. "You little abomination, you have been more trouble to us than we expected. Now we will take the demon from you and cast you into hell, where mistakes like you belong," Go growled as they approached him. "Bravo!" The 4 gods recoiled as a sudden burst of light from above burst through the roof. The goddess herself stood there, her face displaying rage as the light faded. She firmly told him, physically separating Naruto from them, "You will go no further." "So you have decided to intervene, but what power do you really think you have over us?" Go said with a sneer. I may not be able to do much, but make no mistake, I will not let you harm this child. He is to become the second coming of the great sage and restore balance to the world, she proclaimed. Even more reason to kill him. He left the animals to be enslaved. He betrayed us, Guy responded. He was trying to prevent a war that would have killed everything, human, animals, everything, she said. Go growled as he lunged in to attack, saying, enough. I refuse to hear any more of these lies. You have always been the lapdog of humans, you traitor. Now you can die as one. But immediately after Naruto's departure, in the village, after hearing what had happened from Mika and the other girls, Tsunade almost screamed, what? We couldn't stop him. He's going to fight them on his own because he doesn't want to lose us again. Ran was crying. With Midori holding on to her for support, Akane whimpered, if Master dies I don't know what I'll do. Tsunade seemed to vanish in an instant, and she commanded, that Lil Shizune. I'm going out there. You and the girls track down Jiraiya and bring him to Area 44, move. Shizune said again, let's go. As they all dispersed to locate the elderly pervert, they ran into Anko along the way, who was then delivering a report, and informed her of the situation. After telling them, I'll go on ahead and help Lady Tsunade and the kid, she quickly left. They searched for 10 more minutes before they eventually located Jiraiya in the red light district. You must accompany me, Lord Jiraiya, cried Shizune. He said, whoa, what's got you so worked up? The Saint Beasts. They're here in the village. An almost hysterical Shizune exclaimed. The eyes of the elderly pervert changed from shocked to hard and cold. He asked her icily, where are they? Area 44, Naruto-kun is already there and fighting them. He kidnapped some of the girls to lure him out. Lady Tsunade and Anko have already gone ahead to help, but they will need you, replied Shizune. Jiraiya said, I'm on my way. She vanished in a gust of wind while the others rushed back to the office to wait for more information. The Death Forest, desperate to find Naruto before it was too late, Tsunade and Anko had ventured into the forest. Tsunade was finally able to detect Naruto's chakra. Albeit faintly, he was unconscious when they finally located it and arrived at the central tower, but a mysterious woman was standing guard over him, attempting to protect him from 4 men they could only assume were the Saint Beasts. So you have decided to intervene, but what power do you really think you have over us? Go said with a sneer. I may not be able to do much, but make no mistake, I will not let you harm this child. He is to become the second coming of the great sage and restore balance to the world, she said. Even more reason to kill him. He left the animals to be enslaved. He betrayed us, Guy responded. He was trying to prevent a war that would have killed everything, human, animals, everything, she said. Go growled as he lunged in to attack, saying, enough. I refuse to hear any more of these lies. You have always been the lapdog of humans, you traitor. Now you can die as one. Tsunade yelled, I don't think so, as she deflected Go's blow and sent him flying back into his brothers with unexpected force. Tsunade had used a lot of force in that blow, so Go got back up shakily. Go sneered once more, what's this? Another lowly human coming to your rescue like before? With her chakra now flaring, Tsunade exclaimed, don't think you can come into my village and do whatever you want. Shin attempted to reason with her, saying, all we want is the boy. If you just give him to us, we will leave. He had heard that his village detested Kyuubi Jinchuriki, and that if he made an appeal to their leader, she might simply give him to them and get rid of him. However, he couldn't have been more mistaken. I will never give him to you or anyone else. He is the son I have never had, and I will kill you all before you even touch him again, roared the stunning Sanin. Guy growled and tried to lunge at her, but he was caught in midair. Then we'll just kill you and take him anyway, human trash, he shouted. Jashusenei. He was caught mid-leap by snakes that sprang out and began to grind tighter. The assailant emerged from behind a wall to reveal another kunoichi with a deadly scowl on her face and snakes emerging from her sleeve. As she threw the Byako back into his brethren with crushing force, she said icily, you're all snake chow, now. Go growled at the snakes that Anko had called forth, snakes you would betray your king? With their mistress and Tsunade right behind them, the serpents Anko summoned responded, we bend no knee to you. Fallen one, how we conduct ourselves is none of your concern. While Anko used her speed and summons to keep the others at bay, Tsunade opened up with a scathing volley of taijutsu that caused Go, the 4's strongest physical opponent, to falter back. As she engaged Shin, who fired shard salvos at her but they missed, Guy and Rei were both bitten by her snakes. Their venom running through them. Go avoided a blow that would have severed his head and retaliated by punching Tsunade in the face, which appeared to startle her for a brief moment before she was on top of him once more. The Saint Beasts had to acknowledge that the boy and the two women had fought harder than the Akatsuki members they had previously faced, but they were also aware of another presence when an elderly man materialized in a gust of wind with icy rage building. He turned to face his assailants after turning to see his student and godson lying there and a strange woman attempting to protect and heal him and the four girls. Jiraiya snarled as he stepped into the fray, using a summon to aid him in battle named Gamahama, who fought with a large teku on his forearms. So you are the Saint Beasts that I've heard so much about. You picked the wrong village to target and the wrong people. Now I'll kill you personally. Ray flew as high as the enclosed arena would allow him to and charged at the big battle toad, but he was struck by a metal-clad fist that knocked him down with enough force to knock him out. Seeing one of his brothers fall, Guy howled in rage and launched a blind attack on the Sannin, but Jiraiya was also incredibly quick and skilled, dodging the blow and successfully using the Kawazu Kumete, or toad-style taijutsu. Guy was soon removed from the fight as well, leaving only Shin wounded and Go in even worse shape. As the four of them fled the battle, Go roared, "You filthy humans, you may have won this round, but we will never give up until all of you are exterminated." They were all covered in a blinding light. Tsunade sank to one knee to catch her breath and moaned, "Damn, I've gotten rusty." Anko asked, "Were they the ones, Lady Tsunade?" Jiraiya turned to face the goddess and said, "Yeah, those four bastards are the ones who are hunting down the Jinchuriki, and now we'd like to know why." As she and Anko turned to face the woman, Tsunade added, "I'd like some answers, myself." The goddess responded to the three shinobi's inquiries by saying, "I knew this day would come, and I am prepared to give you the answers you seek." She filled them in on everything, including the real role of the Rikudo Sennin and the history of their world, which differed from what they had been taught in school. They had a lot of information to process, and they found it difficult to believe all of the events, however, indicated to them that they had discovered something crucial to maintaining the equilibrium of the world as they knew it. "So you believe that Naruto is the reincarnation of the Rikudo Sennin and that he will eventually bring balance to the world?" The Toad Seer told me something similar to that I would become the teacher of the bringer of balance. At first, I thought that it was Nagato, then Minato. Now I think that old Toad was talking about Naruto. Jiraiya sighed. Tsunade angrily retorted, No, I just took him in as my son. I will not put him in that kind of danger." "I know how you feel, Haim, but you can't protect the boy forever. This incident just proved my point. I will need to step up his training. No more fooling around or research for now. Can you give me your cooperation on this, Haim?" The Toad Sage was very serious. Though she was aware that she wouldn't always be there to protect Jiraiya and that he needed to be able to defend himself, Tsunade struggled with her growing maternal urges to encourage him to go hiking before they arrived. He had already done some damage on his own, but he is much more powerful than that, and her attempts to keep him safe would only limit his development. Jiraiya spoke up after noticing the internal conflict she was experiencing. "In case you're lost, you did the right thing in protecting him from the council. That is one area he can never have too much help with. I'm not telling you to cut him off or abandon him, just to let me train him so that if these people come back, and I know they will, he will be strong enough to face them," Jiraiya clarified for her, which made her feel much. "I see, I'll agree to let you train him, but under one condition. I will not have him turning into a pervert like you," Tsunade said. As they all turned to face the goddess, he chuckled softly, "Fair enough, Haim. You hear that? You've got our support. I knew that Brat was destined for greatness, but this blew my expectations out of the water," Jiraiya acknowledged. As she disappeared, seemingly out of sight, the goddess said to them, "Thank you, Tsunade and Jiraiya of the Sannin. Anko Mitarashi, I have faith that you will make good on your pledge and help the future sage and the angels achieve their ultimate goal. I must bid you farewell for now." "Wow, that was as first for me talking to a goddess," Anko said as they gathered them all up and made their way home. Tsunade remarked, "Me too, come on, let's gather them up and get them home for some rest. I bet Shizune and the other girls are worried sick right about now."
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.